This boy was abandoned in an orphanage. Years later, he stopped being treated as human. Cheon was used as a test subject for experiments. They called him Test Subject 17. A rank S+ Chimera was implanted into his body. Even though it was forced upon him, his child's body absorbed all of the power, without any side effects. 64 years ago, he was deployed to exterminate chimeras. 59 years ago, he no longer knew who he was. As the years passed, the experiments only grew worse. Cheon no longer looked human. He was nothing more than a caged beast. 20 years ago, he became a complete monster. But 3 days ago, after being injected with Chimera Cell 527, something changed. He became human again. His consciousness awakened. And now, with this terrifying power, Cheon can finally be free. One day, a strange red rift appeared out of nowhere in the blue sky. Portals opened, and the world faced sudden destruction without warning. Fierce monsters poured out from a place known as the demonic realm. But to fight the threat, special people finally appeared. They received unique abilities, awakening through the power of mana. Thanks to them, humanity finally had a chance to fight back. Time passed and cities were rebuilt, bringing some peace. Yet the danger remained as monster attacks never ceased. We see a hunter shielding himself from a pack of goblins. The main problem was the scarcity of naturally awakened hunters. They couldn't stop the relentless monster waves. So, artificial beings were created in labs as a new solution. These weapons were designed specifically to combat portal creatures. They became known as Chimera Hunters, a new hope for all. We learned they were crafted using prisoners, portal minerals, and monster cells. Humanity's effort to survive made mass production of chimeras possible. It was the perfect combination of science and hunters, greatly reducing the death rate. Over time, rebuilding cities and society could finally move forward for real. The scene shifts to an illegal lab, where two researchers do a final night check. They go to the basement, and one remarks that subject number 17's arms look rotten. One warns the other not to get close, but he says it's fine since its brain doesn't work. He points out the rotting right arm, wondering if it's a side effect. The scary part is the creature's eye seems to see what's coming. Scared one tells the other to forget it since the chimera is getting discarded anyway. They just turn and leave, leaving the creature alone in the dark. In the director's office, they report that number 17 is a lost cause. They explain his body is nearly destroyed. The director asks how long he has left. The scientist answers a month at most, surprising his partner. The director decides to use him in an operation to protect retreating hunters. Finally, he orders them not to give the return command, leaving the chimera to die. The scene shifts to the demonic realm. The chimera is alone on the battlefield. A giant flying monster dives to attack our lone soldier, but the chimera isn't shaken. It uses its powers to trap the creature mid-air. Several other monsters attack from afar, throwing fireballs at it. A giant worm bursts from the ground and roars, trying to intimidate the fallen chimera. Suddenly, the chimera is launched upwards, taking the monster totally by surprise. Using the momentum, it slices through several flying enemies nearby. Then, it gathers a huge amount of mana, creating a lightning sphere. With absurd power, it fires a giant lightning bolt that hits everyone on the ground. The electricity is so intense that the monsters are fried in seconds. Hunters watch from afar, commenting on how incredible the S-Class Chimera is. One notes the portal shows no signs of closing, even after 3 days. But he says not to worry. With the Chimera there, they can handle it. One hunter draws his sword, saying they only need to take care of one thing now. They just need to eliminate the small monsters that escaped the main attack. Suddenly, the red portal agitates, showing signs of closing. A hunter confirms the closing signal. The mission is over. The group leader shouts for everyone to leave because they're going home. Meanwhile, the Chimera keeps fighting, finishing off the last remaining monsters. During the retreat, a female hunter asks if they aren't taking the chimera back with them. The leader replies they were ordered to leave it, as it will die soon anyway. The young woman feels bad, but her partner tells her not to pity the creature. He explains those things are just weapons meant to follow orders. The chimera is then gravely wounded in battle, its hand pierced, but it doesn't stop fighting. In the end, they are just monsters. Its only mission was to ensure the hunter's safe return. Nothing else mattered. A disgusting monster with human teeth appears, drooling and ready to attack. Even exhausted, the chimera gathers energy once more, preparing a final powerful strike. It fires a lightning blast, showing it understood the order to stay behind. After all, nothing else existed for it but fulfilling its final mission. The order was not to return. Hand on the ground, the mission was finally complete. Even while breaking apart, the chimera's instinct still tried to return, but it was too late. The final order was clear. Return was not allowed. And so it ended. The official mission result was 0 hunter deaths, with the chimera listed as discarded. In total, it single-handedly eliminated over 1,800 monsters before falling. Then, its erased past surfaced, revealing it was once a kidnapped human. His memories play like a movie, but his broken brain understands nothing. Even without comprehending, he watches every scene of his past life intently. The scene shifts to 79 years ago, when a man left him at an orphanage. Years later, the director beats him for hitting a friend who teased him. The orphanage door closes, showing his life inside wasn't easy. Tired of him, The caretakers kick him out into the snow, leaving the boy alone. Lying on the ground, men in black find him and take him away. He ends up in a lab, becoming the newest test subject for experiments. There he becomes number 17, and the scientists order him never to escape. Scientists record injecting S+ class cells into number 17 for the experiment. Now they watch to see how the boy's body reacts. To everyone's surprise, he had no side effects, keeping his normal human appearance. Noticing his unique constitution, they decide to push harder until he finally reacts. The scientists gather to continue heavy testing on the boy. The memory shifts to 64 years ago, showing him being trained to fight. Older now, he starts being used in real battles against monsters. With his electric powers, he destroyed any threat in his path. He became a hero, saving people from constant monster attacks. A mother and daughter thank him profusely for saving their lives. Despite others' pity, he just said it was okay, showing no emotion. Then the memory jumps to 59 years ago, and he starts getting confused. He looks around, not remembering what he was doing or how he got there. Seeing him standing still, a scientist approaches and asks if the memories confused him. The man celebrates wildly, announcing that side effects have finally manifested. Years later, results of 15 years of monster cell testing are noted. He became the lab's masterpiece, a weapon with immeasurable power. 20 years ago, someone treated him kindly, saying he was a good boy, but his bestial appearance scared a woman who screamed in fear upon seeing him. People judged him, saying not to trust him because he was just a monster. The memory returns to 3 days ago, the moment he used his last attack. With his body breaking apart, he confirms all missions were completed. Alone, he watches the sunrise, accepting his fate in that forgotten place. But suddenly, a strong, mysterious light begins to shine from within his remains. This energy starts rebuilding his body, beginning with his spine. The 527 monster cells begin regenerating rapidly. The flesh and muscles of the former number 17 start reforming. Then, everything is covered by an explosion of light, blinding the battlefield. He re-emerges as human again, wondering what the hell is happening. Against all odds, the Chimera hunter revived, now totally free from everything. Walking alone, he wonders if he's finally managed to become human again. But looking at his hand, he sees the monster cells are still active. The number 17 brand is gone. He realizes he's been discarded, and maybe, just maybe, he's free. His resurrection was due to phoenix cells, raising him from the ashes. Even if it should have been impossible, his body has returned to its peak strength. He feels better than ever, now that the side effects and spells have vanished. With his life as number 17 behind him, he wonders if he can live as a human. He remembers a scientist telling him he should try to help others. The advice was to try and live by saving at least 1,000 people. The scientist suggested the name Cheon-do-woon, but he thinks that's a huge joke. Now he just wants to move forward, but the thought of revenge creeps in. He knows that for revenge, he'd need a target right in front of him. Honestly, it's been so long that the desire for vengeance has almost faded. He decides if he ever finds them, he'll figure out what to do then. So he faces the sun, ready to start a new journey on his own terms. Decided, he resolves to try living like a normal human for now. But to start, he realizes he needs clothes, since he's completely naked. Walking through the desert, he can't even remember the last time he wore clothes. He finds a forest and a river, but has no idea how to make clothes out here. Carefully, he steps into the bushes to take a look around. Suddenly, he's startled by something he finds in the brush. He finds a dead griffin and notes that, despite its strength, it has no major injuries. Looking closer, he sees some blood and concludes it died from poison. He thinks this is great, since he really needed leather to clothe himself. To skin it, he morphs his own arm into a sharp, stylish blade. He remembers lab dissection classes, planning the perfect cut on the creature. But as he touches the beast, a purple aura hits him, startling him. He realizes the griffin's body is releasing a massive amount of poison. Since his body doesn't react to it, he decides to take the hide anyway. Job done, he drapes the skin over himself, remarking it's not bad for a first try. Next, he goes to the river and starts washing the hide of the beast he scavenged. But he notices the leather is very hard, much different than he imagined. Then the guy gets an idea for an easy fix. He starts punching the hide with all his might, beating it non-stop. He wonders if this is how you tan leather, but continues the process anyway. After a while, the skin is finally ready and super soft, just the way he wanted. The hunter thinks the size is good too, preparing to put the outfit on. But back at camp, a baby griffin with its head on fire suddenly shows up. The creature startles him, as he was super focused on cutting his new outfit. With one strike, he makes a hole in the middle of the skin for his head. Then, he improvises a belt with a piece of vine to tie around his waist. In the end, the monster leather outfit fits perfectly and looks quite stylish. He just notices the beast's poison hasn't fully left his new gear. Too lazy to clean it, he's shocked to see the baby griffin wasn't dead. The little thing starts screaming, and he feels he can understand what it's saying. He realizes the creature is also the immortal type, which is why it was still alive. In the past, he would have killed it without thinking, but now the beast is too weak to attack. So he says they both got lucky, as this is his second life and he wants to enjoy it. He says goodbye, adding that if fate wills it, they'll meet again somewhere. With the clothing problem solved, he decides he needs to find a house now. But out of nowhere, a giant screeching centipede appears, surprising him. The monster stares down at him, ready to turn our hero into its next meal. Despite the danger, he just complains that the cave is too dark for him. With a single blow, he cuts off the beast's head, which gushes green liquid. Ignoring the dead bug, he decides this cave is no good for living. The search continues, and he ends up on a mountain full of snow everywhere. But there he runs head-on into a furious yeti that doesn't appreciate his visit. He realizes food will be hard to find there, so he decides to pass and leave. Later, he finds some weird mushrooms, but the smell is so bad he passes. Finally, he finds a dank, disgusting cave, so he decides to look elsewhere. After much searching, he finally finds an interesting spot at the top of a cliff. The landscape with the waterfall is incredible, surprising him with nature's beauty. Curious, he decides to take a closer look and jumps from the top without fear. With a superhero landing, he slams down at the river's edge, kicking up a massive splash. He notices the water is super clean, and best of all, full of fish. The fish are monstrous piranhas, and he already thinks about roasting one to eat. With easy food, he imagines building a house nearby would be a good idea. The place also has flowers and very pure air, which gets him more excited. He stands in the middle of the clearing, feeling he finally found the perfect place. With a smile, he decides Cheon Dawoon's house will be built right there. The ground is clear, a perfect place to start his new life of peace. But suddenly, a dark electrical portal appears in the sky, shattering the silence. Something is forcefully spat out of the portal and crashes to the ground, kicking up a cloud of dust. Amidst the smoke, he sees a small robot, all broken and sparking. Then the robot's red eyes light up, and it asks if this is the demon realm. He admires the flowers and the scenery, noting how fresh the air is around there. The place is nice, and he can even hear the waterfall nearby. Smiling at the sky, he decides he's finally going to build his house. To start, he needs good land, so he uses his powers to clear the area. Using energy threads, he slices through multiple trees at once without any difficulty. The thick trunks fall like they're nothing, showing his absurd strength. With the trees down, he thinks the terrain is good enough to begin. He uses his powers to sort and gather the best quality wood. He believes the trees he cut are enough, but notices the ground is uneven. So, to level the terrain, he simply punches the earth with full force. The place becomes perfectly flat and sunny, leaving him quite satisfied with the result. He touches the ground, realizing his hands and feet move as he wishes without orders. To begin, he lifts a heavy trunk to plant at the corners of the construction. He feels free and has fun. This is the first house he's ever built. Next, he starts laying the floorboards, advancing very quickly in the work. Without nails, he decides to use slug monster slime to glue the house walls. He explains that when the slime hardens, it becomes solid like stone and waterproof. For final touches, he plants special trees around the construction. He's happy because most monsters won't even be able to get close. The house turned out cozy, and he likes the final result of his first work. But he feels something is missing and tries to remember what a normal house has. He recalls a lab class about what houses were like in the old days. In the videos, he saw people usually grew things in the yard. He considers having a dog, but soon discards the idea as impossible. So he decides to make a garden, but doesn't know what can grow in the demon realm. Suddenly, he gets an idea remembering the snowy mountain he saw nearby. Excited, he wonders if he can plant mandrakes, a very special plant from there. The scene shifts to the mountain, and he notices it's snowing hard, which is quite normal. The snow reminds him of the day he was kidnapped and taken to the lab. He recalls it was so cold that being taken by strangers seemed better. Dawoon thinks being a chimera has its advantages. He doesn't need to worry about cold or hunger. He feels the massive amount of demonic energy, realizing he is very close to his destination. Then, the warrior finally finds the small plants in the snow, relieved it wasn't a wasted trip. It's explained that these are mandrakes, plants extremely sensitive to any change in the environment. He decides that to take one, the best thing would be to choose the youngest and easiest to adapt. Very carefully, he starts to pull up the small plant, already preparing for its deadly scream. But to his surprise, the mandrake only makes a cute sound, leaving him totally confused. Intrigued, Dawoon grabs another to see what happens, and it also reacts in the same calm way. He observes the two little creatures in his hands, and wonders if they are talking in their sleep. It turns out the scream only happens when they are raised by humans in places with low energy. It makes sense they don't scream there, but he finds it odd they don't even try to run from him. He has an epiphany, and realizes they see him as an equal because of his cells. Thinking this is very good, he tucks them into his makeshift belt. After all, less stress is better. He even starts imagining that if they grow strong, he'll ask for some roots to make tea. But a chill runs up his spine as he remembers that harvesting the fruits by force makes them poisonous. Suddenly, He senses the presence of hunters nearby and wonders what they would be doing on such a dangerous mountain. With a grin, he decides to check the gate to see what these guys are up to. The scene changes, showing desperate hunters used as bait by their companions. A pack of white monsters charges at them, ready to attack without mercy. The bizarre creature opens its mouth, revealing sharp teeth and several tentacles instead of a tongue. One hunter manages to create an ice barrier to defend against the beast's fierce attack, but he panics seeing the monster's strength. Feeling this would be his end, his partner shouts the barrier is about to break, unable to withstand the pressure for long. Seeing the cracks, the man regrets volunteering to hunt the Chimera. With the barrier shattering, he screams for help, completely given over to despair. Suddenly, something powerful hits the ground with huge impact, kicking up a snow cloud. The hunters are shocked, seeing all the monster rabbits defeated instantly. They spot a mysterious silhouette emerging amidst the smoke and wonder if it's a person. And there, standing with a serious expression, was Dawoon, who appeared just in time. But one snow rabbit was still alive and growls at him, ready to attack. Dawoon releases a dark, powerful aura, saying it's been a long time since he felt that. With a scream of terror, the last monster rabbit flees desperately along with the rest of the pack. The hunters can't believe it, wondering how rank B monsters ran just by looking at him. One of them recovers from the shock and thanks Dawoon for saving their lives. Next, they introduce themselves as Oh Seongju and Kim Taehoon, and he responds that his name is Cheon Dawoon. Taehoon thinks everything is very strange. He never heard that name, and his clothes are weird. Dawoon then asks why they are there since the place is super dangerous for hunters. The man answers it was for money. They accepted a mission to capture a Chimera. He comments he heard about a test subject's escape, which makes our hero suspicious. Dawoon ignores it and says he'll grab a crystal to return, but the hunter asks where his gear is. The guy explains his companions took everything and fled, using the two as bait. He remembers the traitor's plan, and Dawoon realizes the gate crystal is with them. The hunters ask if he has a plan because their time is running out rapidly. We discover hunters die if left exposed to demonic energy for too long. One of them begs for help, but Dawoon concentrates, uses his powers, and says he found it. Without even answering, Dawoon takes an absurd leap upwards, leaving the two hunters totally shocked. They shout desperately, asking where he's going as they see him disappear into the sky. The scene changes to a small robot observing a bright light falling towards it. The little robot stops at the edge of a cliff, realizing that place looked very dangerous, and suddenly the traitor hunters appear, shouting that now is the time to capture the target. The robot then activates its combat mode because the order is clear. If dangerous, eliminate. With that, the little machine advances full throttle at them, starting a super intense battle there. Arriving at the battle location, Dawoon wonders if he arrived too late to solve the mess. He sees the ground stained with blood and concludes the hunters must have fled in a hurry. Seeing the abandoned equipment and footprints, he deduces the creature shifted form during the fight. He remembers the conversation about a mechanical test subject that escaped from a lab. It's explained that it is made of liquid metal and can change shape freely. Dawoon gives a grin, finding it impressive that the creature defeated 5 rank B hunters alone. The scene goes back to the other hunters, and one of them, Seonju, says he's done for. His body is corrupted. His friend despairs and begs him to hold on because his wife is pregnant. Taehoon tries to give hope, saying a miracle can still happen right now. But looking up, he gets completely shocked by the scene before him, and there was Dawoon, glowing and carrying all the luggage the others abandoned. Without thinking twice, the hunter kneels in the snow and begs for his help. Dawoon comments he knows there are no more gate stones because they were all stolen. The man then offers 2 checks for $1 million each, saying it's their only chance to survive. Our hero takes the money, thinking that although he doesn't need it now, it will be useful in the human world. Money in hand, he simply breaks a gate stone and offers a piece to the guys. A portal opens and the hunter thanks him, saying he'll never forget this favor. While the man tries to help his friend, Dawoon stands there staring at the money received. He asks weren't stones 200,000, but the hunter explains they are worth $1 million today. Hearing that, our hero feels he ended up charging much more than necessary. So, with a grin, he says he'll return the change differently. Suddenly, Dawoon releases blue mana, and the hunter gets scared because that was very dangerous. It's explained if manas clash, both can die instantly. But to everyone's surprise, the demonic energy is purified, leaving the man in shock. His friend recovers, and the two hug, celebrating being alive in disbelief. They thank him on their knees, wondering who the hell Cheon Dawoon really is. Back in his territory, he seems calm and thoughtful after all this confusion. He arrives at his cabin, satisfied with having an unexpected profit on this trip. He realizes the mandrake woke up and decides it's time to plant it. With that, he starts digging a hole in the earth, preparing a new home for the small creature. After planting, the mandrakes look very sad, releasing an aura of unhappiness. Dawoon realizes they don't seem happy at all and wonders if it's hunger. So he resolves to give them some mana since they usually love it. Instantly, the little creatures cheer up, and he is satisfied seeing their improvement. But suddenly he stops and senses strange energy approaching where he is. He quickly figures it must be the target the hunters were tracking, hiding right there in the brush. Dawoon decides not to worry about it now and resolves to stash the cash he earned. Inside his cabin, he begins organizing all the things he brought in the backpack. We see he was well prepared with cooking gear, sleeping bags, and even gate stones. He finds a ramen packet and remembers the last time he ate it was at the orphanage. With a big grin, he says he's hungry and decides he'll cook that ramen. He goes to a nearby river to get the right amount of water for the recipe. But as he approaches, bizarre, aggressive fish jump out of the water. He remembers people usually put things in ramen to upgrade the dish, right? With that in mind, he decides fish would be good and punches one of the monsters. He continues searching for ingredients and finds eggs in a nest, a perfect substitute. No green onions nearby, so he climbs a tree and grabs an herb that should work. With all ingredients in the pot, he decides it's time to go back and cook. But from afar, the little robot watched him, approaching silently. The robot is curious seeing the man cook and tries to understand what he's doing there. Back at his cabin, he lights the fire and notes the recipe doesn't say when to add the fish. So he decides to boil everything at once, even if the combination seems weird. The planted mandrakes start smelling the food and seem quite curious. But the smell is so strong and strange they faint, wondering if ramen was always like this. The robot also smells the food and drools with the desire to try it. It decides it also wants some, and starts thinking of a plan to get it. It remembers something seen in the lab and transforms its foot into a dog paw. The machine turns into a puppy, remembering humans like dogs and help poor things. The fake dog approaches whimpering, but Dawoon knows immediately the mechanical creature was following him. He understands the robot's plan, turned into a dog and pretended to be hurt just to gain sympathy. He realizes the robot is young and learning, wondering how it escaped the lab. The puppy drools in front of the pot, waiting anxiously to receive some food. Seeing the bizarre appearance of that grub, he decides to try it anyway to taste it. He serves some to the dog, and the two begin eating together at the makeshift table. But tasting the food, the creature gets confused, not understanding that strange taste. The scene changes to a flashback showing child Dawoon eating ramen happily with other orphans. We see him enjoying the warm meal with pure joy and satisfaction. Then, the memory of that flavor returns powerfully, making him remember when he was 7. The robot sits in the middle of the forest, wondering why the good smell disappeared suddenly. It turns out the smell was so strong that the mandrakes got sick and vomited a strange liquid. Suddenly, Dawoon turns to the child and tells the dog if it's eaten, it's time to leave. The puppy turns and starts limping away on a back leg, but the boy catches him. Earlier, he limped on the left leg, not the right. Embarrassed, the robot runs off limping correctly while young Dawoon gives a grin. After eating, he decides to wash clothes because he can't stand wearing that leather tunic anymore. He grabs a piece of wood, thinking he needs to be careful not to break the clothes, but he hits too hard and accidentally breaks the ground all around him. The piece of wood lies there, and he realizes the mess he just made. Even exhausted, he says it's okay. He still has one last try at washing. He notices the mechanical creature turned into a stone and continues nearby, watching him. We see the little robot followed him the entire time he washed dishes in the river. And even when he went to look at flowers, the thing was there disguised as a tree, just watching. Suddenly a bee appears and the robot in tree form gets scared. It runs desperately screaming, revealing its original form again. It's revealed it hates bees, and its mental age is that of a 5-year-old child. Its speech is strange and mechanical, but that doesn't worry our hero one bit. Dawoon understands this is a common side effect in young chimeras with implanted knowledge. The little robot starts overheating from panic while Dawoon just admires the beauty of the flowers. In the end, he manages to finish the job, realizing washing clothes is harder than it seemed. He's happy with the result, at least he got a clean shirt now. But the shirt looks a bit small, so he leaves it drying and goes to check the mandrakes. The robot, still disguised as a stone, just watches everything from afar, very curious. It grabs the chance and takes the shirt drying on the line. It tries to put on the clothes, imitating what Dawoon just did with his. With the shirt serving as a tunic, the robot declares itself the new owner of that piece of clothing. Suddenly, it starts transforming, gaining hair and a much more human form. And now, as a little girl, the creature feels perfect and complete with her new look. Arriving at the garden, Dawoon sees wilted mandrakes and doesn't understand what's happening. He finds it strange since he cleared everything, but digging again, he finds something different. The guy discovers various bugs underground and realizes he almost killed the plants by mistake. With that, he decides he needs to make a real garden, the size of his house. But suddenly the little girl appears behind a tree, trying to talk to him shyly. He's surprised and realizes this time she finally wants a real conversation. The girl asks if that house is his, and he confirms yes, that's where he lives. The girl asks if he's a native, and he thinks about teasing her, so he plays along and asks which tribe she came from, leaving the girl confused. She points and says she came from the waterfall, and he invents the Coco tribe. The girl confirms clumsily, but he reminds her the clothes are his, and she says finders keepers. He lets it slide and asks what she wants. She explains she was expelled and needs a favor. With that, the little girl screams with all her might that she wants to live there with him and begs him to let her. He asks why live there, and she answers awkward, The place has no bugs, and also because there's a house, making everything seem much safer to her. She insists on the request, and Dawoon understands the poor thing just needed a place to rest in peace. He agrees, but warns she'll have to help, making the girl super excited. The first task, he explains, is preparing the field for a new mandrake home. She grabs the tool confidently, guaranteeing she's very strong and can help. Said and done, the girl shows off her absurd strength, plowing the earth. He observes everything, thinking she doesn't even try to hide who she is, or maybe doesn't know how to act. So he introduces himself and asks her name, leaving her totally surprised and speechless. She says she doesn't have a name, but will create one inspired by a flower she saw before. With a shout, she announces her name is now Kim Nari, correcting Dawoon excitedly. They quickly finish the stone fence, leaving everything ready for the mandrakes. The little plants are super happy in their new home, and he thinks he should have done this sooner. But suddenly, he notices Nari is quiet with a very strange look on her face. He asks why she's crying, and the girl explains the mandrakes reminded her of her friends. Dawoon is confused. He thinks it's impossible she had friends in the lab. She has a flashback of a hunting scene with other bizarre creatures in the forest. The girl tells him she saw a monster resembling a chick, and he says that's normal around here. He deduces a group of monsters is probably attacking the chick right now. She says the thing seemed to be suffering and would soon be devoured since it was hurt. Dawoon asks if she wants to save it, but her head hurts because of her old commands. He suggests if she helps, maybe the creature survives, and asks if she wants to go see. Instantly, she screams she'll be right back and flies off at high speed into the woods. The scene changes to a swarm of mantis-like monsters attacking something. The little white creature is hit mercilessly, screaming in pain on the desert floor, but a girl appears to defend it, screaming at the monster not to hurt the little animal. Eyes full of tears, she promises with determination to save it. The scene changes and a boy cries. His friend might become a test subject for being the best. In another memory, a yellow creature lies desolate on the ground. A flashback shows children beating a robot for being different. Someone punches the ground with hate, screaming desperately for it all to stop. Back to the fight, the girl is thrown by the force of the giant insect. She gets irritated, saying bullying the weak is disgusting. With all her rage, she screams that this is wrong and attacks the beast. The scene cuts to Cheon Dawoon analyzing plants, asking if they are tasty. The girl runs to him happy he finally returned home, but she panics, screaming the little creature won't wake up. The white thing remains unconscious in her arms, eyes swirling dizzy. Cheon Dawoon asks her to calm down, then realizes something about that monster. The girl despairs, screaming the beast is totally out. Indeed, the creature remains passed out with a bad look. Crying, she asks if it's dying. He approaches to check. He uses mana and says fortunately there are no fatal injuries. It's explained the monster's energy shrank, changing its color and size. He confirms this is the same immortal creature he faced before. Cheon Dawoon wonders why it shrank, while the girl wants to know if it will die. He explains it's just malnourished from not being able to hunt. He gave it some mana, it will recover if left alone. The girl falls silent, remembering the sad scene of another abandoned creature. She insists if they leave it, it will die, showing how weak it is. With tears in her eyes, she begs to raise it, promising to take care of it and train it well. He smiles and warns it might get huge, but she promises to feed it little. Cheon Dawoon finally agrees, and the girl is filled with joy. The creature wakes up confused, drooling, wondering where it is. Suddenly, Cheon Dawoon is surprised to hear the creature saying goo, like a pigeon. The animal glares at him angrily, thinking this is the guy who ended his family. The girl understands nothing while the creature trembles with pure fear. Happily, she lifts the animal and celebrates it woke up. It wonders what she's doing there. She hugs it tightly. It screams for her to let go, confusing Cheon Dawoon. It yells again to be released. Cheon Dawoon is amazed he understands it. Later, the girl says the treatment is done and she's chosen a name. She suggests Goo, since it says goo like a pigeon. Cheon Dawoon thinks it's a good idea, but Goo gets irritated. They can't just give it any name, it already has one. The girl thinks it's crying and throws a bucket of water on it, thinking it was thirsty. She worries it's soaked, while Goo begs for less water. Seeing things increasing, Cheon Dawoon decides to make a shelf to organize everything. He starts measuring, doesn't need to be big, but when he tries to cut the wood with his knife, the blade can't pierce it. He's confused. He made the table and chairs this way. Goo explains the wood color is different. The one he's using is much softer. Cheon Dawoon asks if different woods have different hardness, shocking Goo. The little animal starts to answer that obviously the red ones, but realizes something. Goo is amazed and asks if he understood what was said, while Cheon Dawoon thinks about red wood. Suspicious, the animal is on alert. Cheon Dawoon decides to use telepathy to be sure, but trying, his mind is invaded by a dark vision. He finds no redwood. Goo is shocked his telepathy was blocked instantly. Trembling, he asks mentally if Cheon Dawoon can hear him. He explains it's not like hearing, but like human words appearing in his head. He questions if it isn't weirder for a monster to understand human speech. We understand Goo is an intelligent monster, a rare species. Changing the subject, Cheon Dawoon asks directly if they haven't met before. Goo confirms and says he wanted to find him again, confusing the big guy. He explains the reason. He was saved and wanted to help at least once. Cheon Dawoon says that's perfect and asks for that help right now. leaving Gu stuttering. Gu accepts the deal to guide him to where the red trees grow. The scene cuts to the girl running from an explosion, screaming she hates the lab. Fallen on the ground, she despairs at the surrounding fire, complaining it's too hot. Another bigger explosion throws the girl far. She panics, thinking the lab came to get her. Terrified of the fire, a mysterious man appears. His tracker confirms the target is a mechanical creature. He appears amidst the flames. Attacking a child isn't cool, but he has to. The guy prepares a fire attack. His life is also on the line. He launches a powerful fire blast at the defenseless girl. The villain yells he'll end everything while the girl shrinks, expecting the worst. But Cheon-dawoon appears and stops the fire, complaining he just wanted to finish his closet and eat. Gu warns saving the girl is priority. Dawoon's eyes shine. We discover the girl, Kim Nari, is afraid of fire and isn't normal. Cheon-dawoon decides to put out the fire first, while Gu calls the guy trash. The enemy is amazed and orders him out of the way. His time is running out. Cheon-dawoon cuts off the enemy's chat. He talks too much. The villain gets furious, screaming Cheon-dawoon is an arrogant bastard. With hatred, he launches another fire blast, screaming for him to move. But Cheon-dawoon doesn't even budge. He just points a finger and a light shines. Suddenly, a massive energy beam goes toward the guy, swallowing all the fire. The enemy is hit full force, not understanding what happened. He's completely shocked by the power level, thrown far by the explosion. After the dust settles, he asks Nari if she thinks it's okay now. The little girl wipes her tears. Still surprised, he swept away the fire. He tells her when she has a fear, just knock it out to solve it. To wake up the passed-out enemy, Cheon-dawoon steps on his head unceremoniously. He pulls the guy's hair hard to lift him from the ground. Surprise, he's holding only a wig. The enemy was actually bald and had the number 19 tattooed on his forehead. Everyone is shocked the enemy was bald and so young too. The reflection on his bald head shines in the sunlight, highlighting the lack of hair. Nari bursts out laughing. A bald guy scene is too hilarious. She says now he's not scary anymore, leaving Cheon-dawoon thoughtful. He reflects that this guy wasn't someone Kim Nari should fear or lose to. Gu explains that telepathy can see memories and also transmit them to others. The scene changes to a lab where a mad scientist gives a sinister laugh. We see his face close up with an evil smile and glasses shining with wickedness. A slimy creature shrinks away. The scientist says it finally developed an ego. He extends his hand with a blue aura, saying it's just a durability test. A strong light explodes, showing the test wasn't friendly at all. Back to the present, Cheon-dawoon praises Nari. It was a step against trauma. He wonders what to do with the guy. Gu sits on his head while Nari has an idea. Hands on hips, she announces proudly she had a great idea. The idea was simply to tie the bald guy under a giant waterfall. Nari explains, if he gets wet, the fire goes out so the bald uncle isn't scary. She keeps shouting the bald uncle is evil, but Cheon-dawoon reprimands her. With a pouty face, she stares at the big guy, who thinks she's improving faster. Gu asks what he's doing. Dawoon says he's getting water for ramen. Nari gets super excited, yelling his fish ramen is delicious. He asks if the Coco tribe also eats ramen. She dives into the water to disguise. The hanging bald guy concludes this man is at least an A-rank hunter. While Nari swims, he thinks maybe Cheon-dawoon hides even greater power. A shadow hunter? But eating ramen here is too much. Suddenly, Nari emerges with two bizarre fish, yelling she fished. Cheon-dawoon says use only one. She prepares to put the beast in the pot. The prisoner is terrified, thinking boiling that monster will make everything stink. Nari runs happily, super psyched to eat the ramen they'll prepare. But halfway, she stops everyone with a shout, asking them to wait a bit. The bald guy despairs and offers to cook if they get him down from there. Under a spotlight, the bald guy prepares. To some, it was just simple ramen. He opens the pack with utmost care, separating seasoning precisely. But for him right now, holding the noodles, things were much more serious. His life depended on it, while those two stared with scary auras. He decides on the standard method. He doesn't know how to cook otherwise. The water quantity is entrusted to his sixth sense, since there are 3 packs. First, he throws noodles and seasoning into boiling water at an exact time. For perfect control, he counts 270 heartbeats. At the exact moment, he lifts the noodles and yells, "It's time for the air bath." He regrets having no kimchi, but smiles satisfied that he did his best. The dish is ready. A status window appears showing he has no regrets. He turns and offers the pot, inviting the group to taste his creation. Cheon-dawoon grabs some with chopsticks and brings it to his mouth, ready to try. The scene shows the 4 sitting at the table, enjoying the meal. Suddenly, everyone's reaction is pure shock. The taste was surprising. The food was so good, they feel like they're in heaven, tasting pure flavor. Nari praises the food, asking if humans eat like this. Cheon-dawoon was also surprised. After eating everything, Gu is full, letting out a satisfied burp. The bald guy approaches proudly, asking if the food was to their liking. Cheon-dawoon tells him to ask for whatever he wants, leaving the cook shocked. He explains the food was too good to be free. He'll grant a wish. The bald guy gets awkward but stammers that in that case he has a request. Suddenly he bows and begs Cheon-dawoon to teach him. He asks to become strong like the hunter, leaving our hero confused. The guy explains he's the strongest hunter he's ever seen, so he wants to be his apprentice. He offers to cook, saying he's great at frying chicken because of his dad. Also, he offers to be a shuttle, fetching supplies. But Cheon Dawoon interrupts and asks why he attacked Kim Nari before. He gets confused, but the hero whispers she's from the Coco tribe. He understands. Tears in his eyes, the bald guy answers the reasons are personal. He yells he doesn't need a reward, just wants to pass the hunter test. Cheon Dawoon orders him up, but the guy cries, asking why. As thanks for the food, the hero says he'll fight him a bit first. Suddenly Nari appears, offering to fight the bald guy first. She remembers he said to knock out fear, and she wants to try putting out fire. The guy laughs at her, saying he is weak, not Dawoon. The hero shows a giant black rock and asks if he can break it. He recognizes it as black iron, harder than diamond. Laughing nervously, he says to break that, you need to be A rank. Instantly, something crushes the rock, throwing the guy far with the impact. He's terrified, sweating cold, not understanding what happened. Nari appears on a stool, calling the bald uncle to finally fight her. We are introduced to Nam Ki-seok, a natural awakened who was once a promising hunter. He awakened abilities at just 8, a special case. He focused on training, releasing firepower during the exam. Combining talent with hard work, he grew fast. The hunter had explosive growth and fame, living perfect days. He dreamed of becoming the best, but something unexpected happened. Suddenly, he notices clumps of hair in his hands, entering complete despair. Just when others awakened, his hair began to fall out non-stop. So in his early 20s, he gained baldness. He sought clinics, but the doctor advised him to just give up. Hearing that, the hunter cries in despair. No solution. The scene goes back to the past, showing his good looks and talent. Back then he shone, but soon lost light. The result was stagnation, failing miserably in the test. Now he lives sprawled on the couch watching TV amidst the mess. He hears on TV about a curious episode in a famous doctor's research. The doctor reveals he accidentally spilled rare liquid metal on his head. To everyone's surprise, his hair grew back, even though he was nearly 90. Nam Ki-seok stands up immediately, thinking this is a lie. But the reporter asks about the cure for baldness, and the doctor's answer shocks him. The scientist says he'll use the metal to create a mechanical life form for humanity. Outraged, Ki-seok yells at the TV, saying the cure would be for humanity. Days pass. He sees news on his phone that puts him on alert. The mechanical creature escaped to the demon realm. Determined, he yells he'll find it and pour the metal on his head. The scene changes. Ki-seok appears face in the dirt, understanding nothing. Little Kim Nari celebrates her victory. He didn't land a hit. Desperate, he begs Dawoon not to give up on him, promising he'll improve. Dawoon finishes a closet, thanking Gu for showing the wood. From afar, Ki-seok watches, thinking that guy has courage. He reflects that despite getting beaten, something was different. Even aching, he felt liberated using his flames again. Thinking maybe it's because he took off the wig, he asks Nari to fight again. Gu comments his control isn't bad, but Dawoon reminds Nari is special. Ki-seok advances, yelling he will win. The girl calls him to combat. He launches his fire attack full force, but the girl stops it in the air. To his surprise, her power turns flames into water. Liquefaction. Taking advantage of the distraction, the girl jumps and hits him with a powerful blow. The impact throws him against the mountain, opening a crater. Nari is super happy and thanks the uncle, saying now she's no longer afraid of fire. Fallen in the hole, he thinks this is the limit of a rank B, but he refuses to stop. A washed-up hunter wouldn't get another chance. The man gets up for another round. He notices his nose started bleeding. Dawoon asks how many days he's been there. He answers 9. Dawoon advises him to return. Demonic energy can be fatal for his rank, but he says Ki-seok has rank A potential, shocking the hunter. Ki-seok explains he's failed for 6 years and is a lost cause. Dawoon disagrees. He tells the hunter not to give up, leaving the man emotional. Grateful, he promises to do his best and asks Dawoon to watch him. A portal opens. A hunter appears, asking if they need anything. Before going, Ki-seok says goodbye and asks if they saw his wig. Dawoon answers he didn't see anything. Ki-seok leaves, wondering where he left it. The portal closes. Nari asks Dawoon if this was a good idea. She fears betrayal. Dawoon reminds her she can read memories. The girl confirms his desire to get stronger is genuine. Smiling, Dawoon thinks it'll be fun to follow that guy's journey. The scene changes. Nari asks how he understands Gu, noting the place is dark. He answers he should make a window, preparing to cut wood. With a single movement, he uses his ability to create a perfect opening. Nari loves the new window. Everything is bright. Dawoon suggests they need light for the night. The girl asks how. He explains there's a glowing stone that emits its own light. Gu wants to know where to find it. Dawoon says there's plenty in the dangerous volcanic region. With a sad face, Gu reveals that's his homeland, confusing Nari. The girl grabs Gu and asks what Dawoon is talking about. Dawoon says his voice sounds strange. He's upset. He decides to go alone to spare them worry, but Nari insists on going too. She yells she's no longer afraid of fire and wants to go. Seeing her determination, Gu also decides and warns he has things to resolve there. Dawoon agrees and promises to create protective gear for them. Meanwhile, in the field, the mandrakes find Ki-seok's wig and begin beating it. The scene takes us to an immense, dangerous volcanic region full of smoke. There, a shadowy creature cries amidst desolation. We arrive at the volcanic zone, a place most avoided by hunters. Volcanic ash rips your skin, and toxic gas kills instantly. The place is almost a mystery, leaving Gu terrified, but Nari is having fun amidst the danger, playing with fire calmly. Gu finds it weird. Dawoon explains she's fine, but he is a Chimera hunter. He says he was once a monster, but returned in a human body. Dawoon asks if Gu is comfortable. The creature replies it's not bad. He likes having someone to talk to and thinks they aren't bad people. Nari arrives wanting to talk to Gu. Dawoon explains he was curious about him. She gets excited saying she's also native, but Gu calls her a cheeky brat. Dawoon warns the stones are near where lava spurts hardest. They continue. Nari is surprised to see the crater's size. The little one runs ahead excitedly, yelling they finally reached the summit. There he finds the luminous stones, but notices a giant fire toad. Looking closer, Dawoon notices the toad seems to be crying. Suddenly, Nari points and yells there's another toad right in front. Dawoon explains the female carrying eggs died. Gu adds that since she died, all the eggs will die because the crater temperature is too high. Nari feels sorry for the toad, sad about its partner, leaving Dawoon thoughtful. He asks Nari to wait and decides to approach. The hunter runs toward the toad. The girl yells, asking where he's going. Without hesitating, he advances toward the grieving monster. Seeing him, the toad turns snarling. Gu yells for him to return immediately, but Dawoon ignores the warning. The monster attacks with a fire blast, making Nari scream desperately. With a quick movement, he lifts his hand and activates a bright ability. The hunter simply dodges and touches the toad's head, which calms down. He asks the toad to stay still and the beast faints. We show he used a paralysis poison. The effect will pass soon, Nari yells worried. Dawoon answers everything is great. He explains he has fire toad cells and you can't save what died. So he decides to use his ability to save the eggs. When the male toad wakes up, it's shocked. Dawoon warns he tied the eggs to be safe, but the toad still growls. The hunter is confused, not understanding what the beast is thinking. He then realizes the toad seems to be saying goodbye to its partner. With its claws, the monster touches its beloved one last time before moving on. Suddenly, the toad gives a giant jump. Nari yells surprised that it flew. It lands hard near Nari, looking directly at her with gratitude. The girl gets emotional. With one last jump, the fire toad leaves, following its path alone. Nari says it looked to thank them. Dawoon agrees he also felt that. Situation resolved, he finally grabs one of the luminous stones. Stone in hand, little Nari celebrates happily. Nari thinks the stones are pretty. Dawoon warns her to be careful not to get hurt. He begins storing stones inside his backpack. He notices Gu struggling and asks if everything is okay. The beast just complains. Dawoon says he doesn't need to help, and he even brought a gift for his friends. Totally embarrassed, Gu denies instantly, saying monsters don't have friends. Dawoon thinks it's cute he misses his kind. Gu says he only regrets not saying goodbye. The hunter asks why he left the pack. In a flashback, we see Gu in original form, enjoying learning, but he couldn't communicate. In the land of one-eyed monkeys, he felt empty for being different, and for being the strange two-eyed one, he ended up leaving to live alone. Gu thinks no one missed him, while Nari tries to dig something up with force. Gu slips and drops a stone. Nari hears a cracking sound. She looks at the ground and warns she found a monster egg buried there. Dawoon analyzes the egg and realizes it's cracked, probably by the fallen stone. Dawoon explains the beast needs to get out alone to grow strong, leaving Nari worried. The girl insists on taking the egg, but Gu disagrees. They don't know what will be born. But then Dawoon thinks he has a perfect place to serve as a nest and gets curious. Without a choice, he decides to take it. Nari offers to carry it all excited. Dawoon reminds it was Gu's fault, but worries Nari will get hurt. With a confident smile, the hunter guarantees everything will be fine. The scene cuts, and they finally arrive home with Nari holding the egg carefully. Kiseok appears and asks Dawoon where he's been. He offers to carry the things, but Dawoon is hesitant. The hunter insists he's strong and grabs the backpack, but the backpack is too heavy. Then Dawoon orders him to lift his head and asks what happened to his face. We see Gu's gift, a pack of ramen that ends up crushed by accident. Gu's old band finds the gift he left for them on the volcano floor. Confused, they tear open the package and start excitedly eating the raw noodles. A hunter approaches Nam Kiseok and asks what happened to his face. Dawoon comments that he didn't know Kiseok got beat up. Kiseok proudly says Nari always hits him. Seeing his leader's expression, he changes the subject and announces he's serving food. The scene shifts to Dawoon using a knife to carve a glowing stone. Nari approaches curiously and asks what he's doing. He explains he's going to hang it from the ceiling because it will look nice. Nari praises him, saying he's very smart and explains things well. She also comments that he seems kind, remembering when he helped a monster. Smiling, the girl says he looks a lot like her father. Dawoon is surprised and asks if her father, from the Coco tribe, is okay. The scene then shows us a beautiful sunset with pleasant weather. But Gu, lying on the sand, complains his body is almost melting. He can't stand the heat and falls asleep right there, snoring loudly. Suddenly, a giant shadow appears in front of him with two glowing red eyes. It was actually several small creatures jumping to surprise attack Gu. One little creature spins forward, using its special move to strike Gu. But the attack just hits his belly and the creature is thrown back. Gu turns around irritated and Nari asks why they were fighting. Kiseok arrives, announcing the wait is over, bringing a plate. He reveals the food, fried tofu onigiri made with care. The guy is proud. It's an easy recipe that always impresses. With everyone at the table, he invites them to eat, saying it turned out decent. But before they start, Dawoon asks again what happened to his face. Kiseok gets embarrassed and clumsily starts inventing an excuse. He explains he went to the Hunters Association for a promotion exam. Dawoon summarizes, he got into a fight after being provoked for failing. Kiseok continues, saying he couldn't take the jokes about his hair falling out. Dawoon points out he just shaved it and wasn't really bald. Outraged, Kiseok starts a speech, explaining that hair loss is a mystery. Dawoon asks when the exam is, and he replies it's in 60 days. Dawoon announces it's time for special training, making Kiseok very excited. He explains the guy's first task will be assuming dishwashing duty. Then, he orders the hunter to wash all the shining stones dirty with ash. Kiseok complains, but Dawoon says he can stay B rank if he wants. With that, he calls Nari to go fishing, leaving the poor guy behind with chores. The guy is speechless, just watching the two slowly walk away. But then he stares at the dirty dishes and realizes his leader must have a reason. He fills with determination. Everyone thought he was a hard-working genius. Kiseok takes pride in reaching B rank through hard work. We are shown he's a man who trusts his own perseverance to the end. He yells that he's coming with them and runs through the forest to catch up. Meanwhile, at the riverbank, Nari complains the fish aren't biting. She then notices all the fish are actually heading toward Kiseok. The guy screams in desperation. Aquatic monsters were his biggest weakness in combat. Dawoon tells him to use his mana, but Kiseok says he can't do it. Seeing his friend's difficulty, Dawoon grabs the glowing stones, thinking of a plan. He hands one to Kiseok and asks him to hold the object. Suddenly, dark energy appears in the stone, scaring the hunter with its power. He shouts that it's demonic energy, and Dawoon explains some stones have that. It is explained that this raw power needs to be expelled with refined mana first. Dawoon touches his chest and advises that he already has mana, he just lacks control. The image shows mana channels opening all over the guy's body. He explains a path has opened, and Kiseok needs to use it now. The hunter looks at his hands, and Dawoon tells him to channel mana through them. Kiseok concentrates again and tries to lift the stone using his power. He strains hard to control the energy, grinding his teeth with the effort. With a shout of victory, he finally manages to lift the stone high in the air. The guy realizes it was all training, and Dawoon tells him to keep washing the dishes. Excited, Kiseok accepts the task, saying he'll always make everything shine. The scene shifts to night, showing their camp under moonlight. Inside the makeshift cabin, everyone slept deeply, exhausted from the long day of training. Kiseok mumbled something, while Dawoon slept peacefully beside Nari. In his nest, Gu regretted sleeping early because now he wasn't tired. Suddenly he opens his eyes and sees Nari sneaking through the darkness. He wonders where that girl was going so late at night. At the riverbank, Nari looked at the water with a sad expression. She regretted that her clothes got dirty, and it was the only outfit the mister had given her. Trying to cheer up, she says it will be clean after washing it properly. Hidden, Dawoon and Gu watched, and he realizes she didn't have other clothes. The girl finishes washing, celebrating that the stain finally came out. With a magical shine, she dries the clothes and is happy the job is perfect. Suddenly, Dawoon appears and Nari, startled, asks what he's doing there. He disguises it, saying he was walking Gu, and the girl agrees, saying she was walking too. Dawoon approaches her and asks her to stand still for just an instant. Using a vine, he makes a belt and places a flower as a small decoration. Nari is enchanted by the gift and says it looks very beautiful. She comments the flower looks like his and that it was her favorite. Out of nowhere, a very loud scream comes from the forest, scaring them. Nari is terrified and asks what that noise was, getting very scared. Dawoon just gives a little smile, as if he already knew exactly what was happening. He tries to calm Nari, saying it was just a steel grasshopper, a B-rank monster. Walking back, he asks if she needs anything, like clothes or shoes, but Nari replies she already likes the outfit he gave her very much. The scene shifts, and we see Dawoon went to a human city to help anyway. He emerges from a portal, thinking it wasn't right for her to only have one outfit. The guy thinks it would be better to bring her, but her trauma was still too great. He finds it funny using a portal stone just for this and looks for a shop. He wonders if the shop closed, but then a voice calls him suddenly. A dirty boy offers help, saying he'll take him to a good shop for 10,000. The boy analyzes Dawoon and thinks he's a loaded newbie hunter. He asks if the guy has cash for clothes and tells him to follow ahead. The boy says he'll make an exception, and Dawoon awkwardly thanks him. They introduce themselves as Oh Bongsu and Cheon Dawoon. Bongsu comments about the police. He asks if Dawoon awakened recently, surprising him. Bongsu explains he came out of the portal with nothing and must have been robbed. Dawoon tries to cheer the boy up, saying he knows a lot for his age. Bongsu gets angry and shouts he's already 17. He's just short because he didn't eat. He points at some guys and warns Dawoon to avoid District 13 if he can. It's explained the space gang dominates the place and the police already gave up. Hearing that, Dawoon wonders if the orphanage where he lived still exists there. The scene shifts to a shop sign with a buy one get one free promotion. Inside, the owner lamented trying to run a business in the slums. She looked at the empty shop and seriously considered changing professions to survive. Bong-soo enters shouting for the boss, irritating her. Meanwhile, Dawoon looked at everything, and Bong-soo informs her he's a hunter. The woman calls Bong-soo, asking him to come to the corner. She grabs him tightly and asks if he wants to bankrupt her by bringing poor hunters. The lady points to Dawoon in the children's section, and Bong-soo tries to say he's handsome. She reminds him she only helped because they looked like her late younger brother. Bong-soo retorts, and in the middle of the fight, Dawoon interrupts to speak. Dawoon says he wants to buy clothes and shows them a check with all the money he had. They are shocked to see the check was for 10 million won, and he thought it was little. The shop owner changes her attitude instantly, clasping her hands excitedly at the cash. Suddenly, she starts treating Dawoon like a king, confusing him. She asks what he's looking for, and he requests clothes for a little girl and himself. The lady gets super happy and announces the house specialty is children's clothing. She shows a yellow dress, explaining lace is essential fashion. Then she grabs a sporty set, perfect for active kids. Finally, a pink dress appears, and she says this color is mandatory. The result of all this was a receipt that seemed endless. The shop owner is exhausted but happy, with a sold-out sign amidst the clothes. She says he bought over 100 items, but Dawoon says he'll carry everything. He hands a bag and payment to Bong-soo, who is shocked by the tip. The two leave the shop carrying purchases, and Dawoon asks for one last favor. Bong-soo takes him to an inn, saying the place was clean and safe. Dawoon asks the boy to wait a moment and enters the inn carrying the sack. Seeing that, Bong-soo gets suspicious, feeling something was wrong there. He looks at the money and clothes and thinks about fleeing out of fear of kidnapping. But then he remembers Boss Park and considers Dawoon might be a good person. Dawoon comes out of the inn and confirms the place seemed very good. He hands a key to the boy for room number 303. The guy explains he paid a year's rent and meals, leaving Bong-soo in shock. He says goodbye to leave, but the boy asks if he's going to be kidnapped now. Dawoon doesn't understand the question, and Bong-soo wants to know his real goal. He says they barely know each other, so he doesn't get so much kindness at once. Dawoon just says it reminds him of the past and says goodbye, entering the portal. Back at camp, Nari asks where he went, and he says he brought a gift. The girl gets super excited, and Gu is amazed by the amount of new clothes. Nari grabs a yellow dress and celebrates that the clothes were all very pretty. Dawoon tells her to try on whatever she likes, and the little girl runs into the cabin. Inside, the mysterious egg Gu was hatching suddenly starts shaking. While folding clothes, Dawoon thought it was very calming for some reason. Suddenly, Gu calls for him, asking him to check on little Nari. The girl appears in a new dress, saying she thought that model was very pretty. Dawoon asks if it's her favorite, but Nari says she wants to try others. She starts having fun trying everything on, even pretending to be a ghost. Seeing the girl's excitement, Dawoon smiles and comments she really is very cute. After a while, she finally stomps her foot and announces she's decided on her new look. She emerges in a chick hoodie, yelling she loved it because it looks like Gu. The protagonist praises the choice and asks if she wants to fold clothes. She accepts immediately, seeing the pile of stuff. Gu worries and asks where they'll keep so many clothes. Dawoon reveals his plan to expand the house to build a closet just for her. He says not to worry because he already arranged someone to cut the necessary wood. A gigantic explosion happens in the forest, right where he pointed. Nam Ki-sok emerges amidst the dust, announcing he's ready for training. He bows and says he took good care of the equipment, leaving Dawoon confused. He explains the leather tunic is the training uniform, soaked in deadly poison. Ki-seok gets super psyched, thinking this is the secret to getting stronger. Without thinking twice, Dawoon simply tells him to wear the outfit, shocking the guy. The protagonist orders him to put it on and go cut wood, making Ki-seok panic totally. Suddenly, a puppy barks desperately, warning something is wrong with the egg. They all run to look and see the giant egg shaking, with lava cracks appearing. Dawoon comments the movements are violent and it seems ready to hatch. Ki-seok hides terrified, asking if a disaster rank monster will come out. But Nari says that's impossible, and a very cute monster will surely be born. Instantly, the egg truly starts to break, and the two scream in fright. From inside, a sharp claw and scale-covered tail emerge, tearing the shell. The creature seemed to have a furious tongue, and everything indicated a dangerous monster. But to everyone's surprise, what comes out is a small, super cute yellow serpent. Nari is enchanted by the little creature, while Ki-seok doesn't understand what animal that is. The small monster jumps off the table, showing it was full of energy to burn. The bizarre creature then leaps in the air, shocking everyone with its chicken legs. It lands right on Ki-seok's face, who is completely paralyzed. Desperate, he runs screaming and ends up destroying the wooden construction in the process. With Gu on his head rushing him, Ki-seok finally starts the work of carrying logs. He can barely breathe because of the poison, wondering how Dawoon stood wearing it. Meanwhile, the protagonist stretches satisfied, thinking folding clothes was actually fun. He is interrupted by a yell warning the new creature was eating the bread. Nari holds the little animal and comments he's very obedient because he knows she saved him. She has the idea to call him Sasa since he looks like a snake. Sasa seems to like the name and runs through the field, leaving Nari behind. Dawoon watches the two playing and comments Nari liked the new family member. He asks if it's a rare species, but Gu also says he's never seen one before. Gu warns that if the beast came from the volcanic zone, they need to watch the mandrakes. Dawoon doesn't understand why, and the scene focuses on small plants sprouting nearby. It's explained monsters from their love plants, and Sasa attacks one without thinking. Gu continues explaining they like plants with demonic energy, and Sasa will eat the mandrakes. The creature runs toward the little plants to attack. It's told he might be their natural enemy, and the mandrakes prepare for a fight. Seeing the plants rising, Dawoon realizes Gu's prediction was spot on. Nari gets worried and says she'll try to stop the fight, showing her kindness, but Dawoon stops her, explaining that in the demon realm they need to resolve hierarchy. He says to just watch for now, since they are still young and not that dangerous. Sasa stares at the smallest mandrake, which is visibly scared of the predator. He charges with everything, aiming at his target that seemed the weakest. But another mandrake steps in front and uses its stick arms to defend. The beast manages to block the attack, and they use a formation to counter-attack. As expected, the second mandrake takes the chance and attacks. It hits Sasa squarely with its stick, trying to return the enemy's blow. He defends with his tail and gives a little smile, but Gu warns it's early to celebrate. The third mandrake appears by surprise and hits Sasa from behind while he was distracted. The third mandrake lands a blow with full force, showing it wasn't playing around. With the team attack, the little plants manage to corner Sasa, who has nowhere to run. Instead of fighting, the beast starts crying, shocked at being hit for the first time. Nari runs to calm the situation, and Dawoon comments the mandrakes were victorious today. Kaisiok says the fight was strangely epic, and Gu agrees it was a good show. With the fight over, Gu orders Kisiok back to work, who wonders if Gu is human. The scene shifts completely, taking us to a vast ocean under a clear sky. Suddenly, a huge creature flies out of the water, rising toward the sun rapidly. A being half-man, half-dragon is revealed, with imposing wings and a muscular body. He has a wild appearance and wears a fang necklace, seeming very powerful. Back in the present, the closet construction finally finishes, with wooden logs well fitted. During the process, Kisiok tried his hardest while Gu shouted for him to go faster. Nari and Sasa also helped, applying green sap to the wood and having fun with the task. Meanwhile, Dawoon organized their books, arranging everything on a new shelf. When the heavy work finally ended, the old leather tunic was left aside on the ground. Kisiok shouts in relief, celebrating the end of that infernal training. He cries from exhaustion. It was 2 whole days of hard work without sleeping. Even so, he did everything as ordered but still felt insecure about the result. Dawoon appears and praises him, saying the construction turned out much better than expected. Suddenly, Nari comments the new closet smells nice like flowers. They all feel a strange calm in the air and realize the smell is lavender. The protagonist explains Gu chose aromatic woods to keep the clothes always smelling good. The mandrakes also seemed very relaxed, enjoying the calming aroma that took over the place. Even Sasa nestles in a corner and sleeps, showing he also liked the smell very much. Dawoon asks about the name Sasa, and Nari says it was Kisiok's idea. Dawoon asks about the name Sasa, but says they can change it if they have a better one. Kisiok suggests Snake Dick, leaving the protagonist totally speechless. Nari gets excited and suggests Piaki, but Dawoon thinks it sounds too much like Gu. Gu interrupts with a super cultured phrase, talking about footprints in a drawer. The protagonist remembers he had a name, and Gu reveals he is called Rocky Mountain Hoof. Seeing the options were terrible, everyone agrees Sasa is the best choice. Gu asks what the plan is now that the house is bigger, making the gang curious. With a smile, Dawoon says things are different now that there's a family. He suggests building a strong fence so no one invades when he's not around. Kisiok doubts anyone would go there, but the protagonist warns an S-rank monster might appear. For this, Dawoon says they need dense material with demonic energy from the coastal area. He explains that deep in the sea, there is yellow quartz harder than any other ore. The protagonist already imagines the fence with glowing stones creating a campsite vibe at night. Without wasting time, he tells everyone to get ready because they are going to the coastal area right now. Kisiok panics totally. That place is known for being extremely dangerous. Seeing a chance to escape, Kisiok says he needs to release his energy and can't go. He warns Dawoon to be careful. The coastal area is forbidden for anyone below A rank. Most importantly, 2 disaster-level monsters dominate that entire region. Kisiok finds it strange he doesn't know and explains they are Chimera hunters who fled a lab. He continues saying they have bird heads, but their bodies remained human. The scene focuses back on the winged creature flying majestically through the skies of that place. Suddenly, a group of hunters spots the monster and shouts to prepare the tracker immediately. One of them creates a ring of golden energy, preparing to mark the target that appeared. He launches the ring with all his might, and it flies like a missile toward the creature. The attack hits squarely, exploding in a bright light showing it was a direct hit. But the beast just flees, making the hunter think rumors of it being strong were false. The group leader orders them to wait. The tracker worked, and they will follow the two. Elsewhere, a man questions how they are still alive with human bodies after 60 years. A superior replies they are a failure, and today they will finally erase that mistake. But one subordinate watching the area calls the team leader with a look of astonishment. Through binoculars, the lookout notices the creature wasn't fleeing but turning around. He panics seeing the beast coming full speed toward them to attack. Desperate, the leader yells for everyone to raise a defensive barrier right now. The creature descends with absurd speed, preparing a direct blow against the barrier. But the defense shatters into 1,000 pieces, throwing the leader far with violent impact. Dust rises, and everyone is shocked because the barrier was destroyed with a single attack. The monster prepares in the air again, leaving the hunters knowing what it would do. That's when the other monster appears, and the two start fighting brutally. Fallen on the ground, the leader yells, understanding nothing, ordering them to stop the madness. But the scene reveals little Nari punching the monster and screaming for him to stop mistreating the weak. The creature gets confused by the attack and wonders if the little girl was also a chimera. We then see Dawoon and Nari staring down the two giant monsters without showing fear. Nari accuses the Birdman of bullying, but the protagonist thinks the situation is the opposite. A hunter points a device at Dawoon and warns there's a mechanical creature there. The protagonist remembers the tracker on Nari and realizes this will be a problem. Our protagonist thinks it's unbelievable to meet exactly this guy again. He walks toward the Birdman and asks if he doesn't remember him anymore. Dawoon says they were roommates, leaving the creature completely shocked by the revelation.
He continues saying he didn't think he was still alive, and the monster begins to recognize him.
Seeing the scene, one hunter warns the guy is suspicious and they better retreat. But Dawoon realizes it will be a problem if they simply go back now. He decides he needs to clear the area, and the Birdman finally remembers everything. A flashback shows the smell he felt in the cell, which he never managed to forget. It's revealed the two were guinea pigs, and only they would know that specific smell. The creature calls him number 17, showing they have known each other for a long time. The story takes us to 66 years ago, in a forest near TDA Laboratory. Searchlights cut the night while someone shouts desperately to catch them. A little girl clings to her brother, saying she's very cold right during the escape. He runs with wounded legs, wondering if this was really the right decision. He considers if it wouldn't have been better to just leave the girl behind. The Birdman laments that she didn't transform completely because her wings are useless. She says his wings are warm, but he replies it's fine, just for her to run. He yells for Gia to hang on a bit longer. They are almost out of the forest. Suddenly, he stops startled, finding someone who might be able to help them there. Number 17 appears in front of him, leaving the Birdman shocked by his appearance. The boy explains he heard in the lab that the other's side effects were severe. He warns that even if he flees, a detonation spell will end him in 3 days. The Birdman gets irritated, saying he doesn't know what it's like living that way. The scene goes back to a flashback where his sister begs them to flee from there. Crying a lot, she says she just wanted to live like before, even for a day. The Birdman reflects if what matters is how long you live while hugging his sister, or if what matters is how you live because he just wanted to be free for a single day. Then he fills with courage and challenges number 17, telling him to stop stalling and fight. The boy just stares in silence with a very serious expression. Suddenly, number 17 surprises everyone by opening a giant portal right behind him. The Birdman is shocked and asks how he got a portal stone like that. The boy explains that in the demon realm, either his human cells die or the monster ones awaken. He says if the guy really wants to be free, this is the best chance to live as a monster. Also, the lab's detonation spell wouldn't work there, but he wonders if a human would survive. Theoretically, it would be possible if he accumulated mana to protect his body from demonic energy. The Birdman distrusts the help, but seeing guards arriving, decides he's going. But the boy interrupts, reminding they were roommates for 4 years without knowing names. He introduces himself as Yubeom and asks his cellmate's name. With a glimmer of hope, he extends his hand and reveals his name is Cheon Dawoon. The scene cuts to the present, where Dawoon stares at two hunters and asks what his name is. The squad leader is totally confused, saying he doesn't even know why he came here. Dawoon opens the portal and orders everyone to forget what they saw, making Gu curious about the trick. It's explained he has cells that erase others' memories, and a lot happened. He turns to the Birdman and calls him Yubeom, who is surprised he remembers. Little Nari approaches and pulls Dawoon's shirt, calling him Mr. She asks if he and Uncle Sparrow are friends, and Dawoon confirms, confusing Yubeom. In a cute moment, the girl says her tribe and the Sparrow tribe are allies. Yubeom understands nothing of the conversation, and Nari apologizes for thinking he was bad. But then hunger strikes and she asks for food, making Yubeom wonder if she's Dawoon's daughter. The scene shifts to a giant house on the beach that looks like a bird's nest. Dawoon praises the construction, saying he did a great job with the giant nest. With that, he offers a bowl of food, telling them to try what he prepared. It was giant grilled shellfish with plants from the demon realm that seemed like butter. Little Goo wastes no time and prepares to taste the mysterious delicacy. He is shocked by the flavor, feeling intense freshness as if he swallowed the ocean. Nari is amazed by the food, feeling the shellfish dance with every bite she took. Dawoon tries it and realizes the red moss makes everything better, almost like a seasoning. Yubeom is content they like the meal but asks them to eat slowly. Suddenly panic overtakes the birdman, whose eyes widen, startled by something. Dawoon notices his friend's despair, who starts trembling, unable to say a word. It turns out Nari was hitting him with a knife, screaming she wanted more food. With sparkling eyes, she asks if he would make more if she got the shellfish herself. She runs to the beach with Goo and Sasa, saying she'll get 10. Yubeom comments how incredible it is that Dawoon came back to life due to immortal cells. Dawoon asks if he still thinks about revenge on TDA lab for everything. He replies sometimes yes, but his life isn't that bad, so he'll think calmly. Then he returns the question, reminding that detonation spells are still in their bodies. Dawoon gets worried, asking why his head hasn't returned to normal yet. With a serene look, the Birdman explains he can change back, but won't. He says Jia's face changed and she would feel bad if he were the only normal one. Dawoon stares seriously and asks one last question to confirm if he already knows the truth. He reveals his friend has at most a month to live, and the Birdman confirms he realized. Yubeom begins to remember, saying it was quite hard when he arrived in that place. He explains he gathered mana to survive until balancing it with demonic energy. Because of this, he and his sister lived in peace for a good while, meditating together. But one day, Jia's mana hole tangled and her demonic energy turned violent. Attempting to help, he forced it open and ended up damaging his own mana core. He says Jia eats poisonous fruits to sleep, trying to delay the evil energy. Dawoon reveals that Mandrake can cure his mana core quickly. The scene shifts to a dark cave where a small creature hides in the shadows. Suddenly, Jia starts screaming in pain, feeling her body transform. She writhes in agony as red evil energy dominates her completely. Yubeom can't believe it, and asks Dawoon if the two can really survive. He explains he studied pharmacology in the lab and just needs mandrake water. We are shown the mandrake, a plant monster that screams a lot when plucked. Despite their roots looking useless, they hide great secret power. They absorb demonic energy and become a source of vitality, perfect for curing mana cores. Smiling, Dawoon says creating them was a good idea and he'll go get some. But Yubeom reminds him he needs an alchemist and can't go to the human world because of the curse. He reinforces his friend can't go alone since the curse is active. Dawoon says he'll leave the kids with him and Yubeom worries about no money. The protagonist makes a huge backpack appear, making the Birdman very curious. He says he filled the backpack with hunter stuff and that should be enough. With everything ready, Dawoon says goodbye and with a smile says he's going. The scene cuts to him walking in a city, and someone confirms what he's looking for. It's Oh Bong-soo, now his guide, asking if he wants a good alchemist. The boy says to trust him. They opened an alchemy association branch in the slums. Dawoon asks why he wears weights on his arms. The boy says it's for stamina. He reveals his dream is to become strong like Dawoon, who is slightly surprised. The boy says he admires him for entering the demon realm with just his body. After walking more, Bong-soo excitedly announces they finally arrived. He says a new manager arrived, a Mr. Kim, rumored to be very skilled. Dawoon looks aside and seems to notice something approaching on the street. The guide points and warns the manager is there, looking very worried on the phone. He explains the man is getting another call from a loan shark, which is common there. It's told he worked at the Golden City branch but was demoted to here. Dawoon thinks he must have done something wrong, but Bong-soo denies that story. He says in Golden City, one of his bosses embezzled subsidy money. The boy remembers it was Director An, a guy famous for stealing others' merit. When manager Kim reported the scheme, he was labeled problematic and expelled. Back in the present, Bong-soo greets him, and the manager recognizes him immediately. He introduces Dawoon, saying his friend is looking for a good alchemist. Dawoon thinks high-level alchemists usually aren't found there. The manager is happy, thinking Bong-soo is a good person and neighbor. Bong-soo says goodbye to Train, and the manager invites Dawoon in. Inside, an employee complains because only low-rank hunters show up there. He had given up on promotion when suddenly the room door opens. The manager enters with Dawoon, and the assistant stands to greet him. But Dawoon cuts him off, saying he seems like an A+ rank alchemist who can help. The manager doubts the story, saying he doesn't have material for that in the slums. Dawoon asks if this would serve, leaving the manager in a state of shock. It was very dense demonic energy, without doubt mandrake roots. Both are impressed. They never saw roots so fresh and in perfect condition. Dawoon says he'll pay with coastal region items and asks for valuation. From his backpack come black pearls and rare corals, leaving the manager gaping. He gets emotional. Even headquarters hasn't seen S-rank black pearls. To make it worse, the giant demon realm shellfish was still alive and attacked the assistant. To top it off, he shows red moss, a super rare ingredient for high-level potions. Dawoon asks if that covers costs, but the manager says it's worth more than an entire building. He warns he'll need the lab's valuation device for such valuable items. While the assistant leaves, Dawoon notices something and gets suspicious of the situation. He points to a jar, but the manager explains that Mandrake has been dead for 10 years. The man says he kept it for research interest, but Dawoon asserts it's alive. The manager understands nothing while a blue aura starts coming from Dawoon's hands. He shows that as soon as it receives some mana, the creature reacts instantly. The manager panics, realizing it was just in a coma from lack of energy. But right when he says it's impossible, 3 sinister figures appear at the door. It was Director Ann, the corrupt old boss, with an evil smile and 2 assistants. He mocks the place, and the trembling manager asks what he was doing there. The director reveals he heard something extraordinary arrived in the slums. The manager despairs, thinking the assistant betrayed him because they arrived too fast. But the villain brags, saying he has excellent subordinates who are twin ability users. The director turns to him and asks if he brought those valuable items. He introduces himself as Director Ann and invites him to Golden City with a promise. Dawoon gets irritated. He was getting along fine with Manager Kim until now. The director tries to convince him with a contract, but Dawoon changes the subject, noticing a mole. He asks what the director's relation is to someone named An Bokdiok, surprising the man. With loud laughter, the director reveals that Man was his grandfather. Dawoon thinks with contempt that the genetics of that family were rotten indeed. The scene shifts to a flashback where a man mocks a little monster looking for its mother. With a whip in hand, he threatens to open a gate and throw the boy into the demon realm. The man yells for him to go beg his parents to save his useless life. Back in the present, a blue aura explodes from Dawoon, throwing the director far with force. The director falls on the ground, understanding nothing, and Dawoon accuses him of being like his grandfather. He says the guy only knows how to crush others with power and take what he wants by force. With a threatening look, he asks to answer carefully if TDA Laboratory still exists. On the floor, and Gi-jung gets confused and yells he never heard that name in his life. Dawoon explains it was an illegal laboratory where An Bokdiok worked as senior researcher. Indignant, Gi-jung orders him not to insult the dead. His grandfather dedicated his life to research. A scene shows the grandfather receiving an award. He says the old man even won a peace prize. With a smirk, Dawoon says after killing so many kids, he decided to repent publicly. He comments he thought the old man would live longer and asks if it was due to the fall from the window. And Gi-jung panics. He doesn't understand how he knows of an incident not made public. The scene shows the grandfather falling, and Dawoon reveals he pushed him. In a flashback, we see small Dawoon's silhouette in the broken window, watching the fall. He explains the old man threatened to throw the kids in a portal, so he pushed him first. Dawoon says he'll give him a chance to investigate his grandfather and TDA lab.
It's told he found Bokdiok's grandson, and his experiment started at 9.
His monster transformation began at 20, and memories of that time are hazy. Back then, he lived in a world without civilization where survival was the only law. It's explained he only followed orders and instincts without reason or self-awareness. The scene cuts to him in the office, thinking a lot of time passed since then. Manager Kim enters the room excitedly, thanking him for waiting. He hands 2 bottles of purified water, saying the ingredients were excellent. Dawoon decides to help with payment and immediately proposes a personal contract with him. The proposal is simple. He'd get ingredients, and the manager would just need to perform synthesis. The man is shocked by the offer, and Dawoon reminds him he could buy a building with this. Seeing the manager cry, Dawoon doesn't understand why, but the man explains he's from the slums. A flashback shows his parents taking a huge loan from dangerous loan sharks. He says even striving his whole life to pay debt, he never got anywhere. Back in the present, the manager cries a lot and asks how he could repay this kindness. Dawoon calms him, saying not to worry, because he'll need his help in the future. The scene changes to the sky, and he decides to return home, hoping everything is fine. But arriving, he sees the ground stained and realizes he made a big mistake. He stares at the birdman's body, thinking he should have predicted Gia would freak out. From inside his clothes, little Sasa asks her to control herself, but it's no use. The skull-masked creature just roars back, totally out of control and blinded by rage. In an instant, she attacks the birdman, grabbing him tightly and throwing him. The poor guy is thrown violently against the ground, causing an impact that raises dust. Fallen in a small crater, he realizes it's too late to try anything. But then Gu appears worried, asking if his uncle is okay after that fall. Nari also screams, asking if it hurts much, while Gu scolds him for getting hurt. Even wounded, he promises himself he will definitely keep the promise made to Dawoon. It's revealed he'll do this because Dawoon already saved their lives once in the past. He fires several feathers like missiles toward the creature. Then he advances for a final attack and says goodbye, asking her to be happy in the next life. At the last instant, his blow causes a small core of red energy to exit her body. Suddenly, this core explodes into a giant sphere of light, catching everyone by surprise. Flying nearby, Dawoon turns startled, and wonders what that huge thing is. On top of a pink bubble, Dawoon believes she must have passed out by now. Gu gets mad and yells she's his sister, but Dawoon asks if he has a better way. Stammering, the Birdman changes the subject and asks if he managed the medicine. Dawoon shows the 2 potions and orders him to give one to her because the other is his. The scene shifts to night, with them around a campfire and empty bottles on the ground.
Gia and Nari fell asleep, while Gu eats something tranquilly.
Suddenly, a yellow eye opens in the dark, showing someone finally woke up. It was just a false alarm. Nari continues sleeping and snoring heavily. Gia starts waking and touches her mask, wondering if this is a dream. She stays silent for an instant, observing where she is now. Near the fire, she sees the Birdman and Dawoon, who notices immediately she woke up. Scare! She jumps up and yells, wanting to know who those 2 men are. Nari wakes sleepy and asks if Aunt Sparrow is up, confusing Gia. The girl is happy to see Gia well, who still wants to know who Dawoon is. He ignores the question and orders her to check her mana hole, shocking her. She checks her chest and realizes the mana hole is normal, staying shocked. Her brother asks what happened and wants to know who those people are. He remembers she always talked about wanting to see him, leaving Gia in disbelief. A memory arises, and she finally wonders if that is number 17. She pokes her brother to confirm, and he answers yes, it's him without doubt. The Birdman reflects and says this time it was he who saved them again. Dawoon breaks the mood, asking if there's more red moss, with zero empathy. Anyway, Gia lets it go and finally decides to remove her mask. With a sincere smile, she thanks him for saving all their lives. Suddenly, Nari turns and points to something in the water, asking what it is. The girl runs to the seashore, shouting something is shining very brightly in the water. Jia explains it's a sea fairy, but Nari doesn't understand the name. It's told they are sea monsters, but earned the nickname for being pretty. The girl is amazed, and Gia says they return home when the sun rises. Hearing that, Dawoon remembers if he follows fairies, he might find yellow quartz. Dawoon asks how long until sunrise, and the Birdman replies probably soon. With a smirk, he says he'll go for a dip since it's been a while since he swam. The scene shifts to a room where a man in a lab coat wants to know a mechanical creature's whereabouts. A subordinate explains it's in the coastal area because low-rank hunters failed to catch it. He continues, saying even A-rank hunters who went there returned with amnesia. A cell phone starts ringing on the desk. It's Executive Director Eun Gi-jung. On the other side, the director asks if he by chance knows a TDA research lab. The man denies, stating he never heard of such a lab. He defends himself, saying his institute isn't that kind of place, stammering a bit. Alone in the room, he remembers Professor An Bakdiak always told him to be an honest researcher. With a sinister smile, Han Mayongdu says he never forgot the master's lessons and hangs up. He gets thoughtful, wondering how an illegal lab's name came from that grandson's mouth. At that moment, someone knocks and he gives the order to enter. A researcher enters excitedly with a briefcase, warning the director the plan worked. He approaches, and the researcher explains the liquid metal and mandrake combination worked. Inside the briefcase, he reveals the small creature they created, the liquid metal mandrake. The director likes the result, knowing mandrakes have great tracking power. The idea was mixing this with liquid metal, which has strong bonding capacity. Super excited, he orders triple the reward and to call elite hunters immediately. He swears he'll find his masterpiece, Little Nari, whatever the cost. The scene cuts to a beach where the Birdman stands with crossed arms looking at the sea. He comments the necklace is made of quartz and says the person who made it is weird. Near the campfire, Dawoon invites them to visit his home too. He comments he has a good cook, but the Birdman finds it strange and asks if he lives in the demon realm. Dawoon says the place is cool and asks why they can't go to the human world. He wants to know if the Birdman wants to return, making him thoughtful. A flashback shows he has no good memories, but sometimes wonders how things changed. Dawoon reveals he might be able to get rid of the spell on his body, shocking him. He explains there's an alchemist, Manager Kim, very skilled in that area. The idea is to ask him to research spells, warning him to think about it without getting hopes up. The Birdman stays silent for a while, thinking about the proposal. He asks why Dawoon always helps them even without them having done anything in return. Watching the 2 siblings made him think if something really exists in this world, something more important than simply continuing to survive at any cost. He thought that by helping them, maybe he could finally find the answer to that question. The scene cuts to the next day on the beach, and the Birdman warns something is rising. Suddenly, a huge creature is pulled out of the water with absurd force. Ji yells for her big brother to grab what she's throwing. He grabs the rope end without understanding, wondering what it is. Then she orders him to pull with everything, but the guy complains it's too heavy. With the force, he drags through the sand, leaving a huge trail. A giant net exits the water, and he's shocked to see it full of quartz. Gu is amazed by the absurd amount and asks if he mined it all. Meanwhile, Dawoon and Nari leave the water, appearing to have had fun. He comments it was nice swimming, and the girl agrees, saying she had fun too. A panel shows they swam in the deep sea with sea fairies. Nari is surprised by one fairy landing right on her head suddenly. It's explained their home looked like a palace, and Nari wants to to go back. But Gu asks how they'll take all that quartz to the forest area. Dawoon replies he needs to think about it, but hears something and looks up. Suddenly, a giant, colorful bird appears flying in the sky, catching his attention. He recognizes the creature and wonders why a parrot-beaked bird is flying alone. Nari thinks the parrot is pretty, but Gia warns it only looks nice from afar. It's explained they are huge and very violent, so nobody messes with them. Dawoon gives a smirk and says he needed a truck, and that's perfect. The scene cuts, showing some simple mandrakes scared on the ground. We see Namki-seok meditating with blue mana aura around his body. He concentrates and feels his mana hole definitely got bigger than before. Smiling, he thinks becoming an A-rank hunter isn't a dream anymore. Then he wonders when his master will return. But something strange approaches. The small metal mandrake stares angrily, scaring the lad. Suddenly a hand appears from nowhere and flicks the little beast's head hard. 3 guys in black appear. One kicks the creature and threatens to melt it now. The group leader looks forward and finally realizes someone is watching. They recognize Namki-seok and start making fun of his baldness and clothes. The lad panics immediately. He knows very well who those guys are. A flashback shows they humiliated him in the past, and he doesn't understand what they're doing there. Desperate, Ki-seok sees mandrakes appearing in front of him, ready for a fight. The guys realize they are wild mandrakes and already think about their worth. The leader approaches slowly, trying to call the little animals to him, but Ki-seok decides he needs to protect them. He knows his master likes them. The larger mandrake stomps the ground and lets out a loud scream of rage. Suddenly, blue energy explodes and throws the 3 bandits far with impact. Amidst the dust, they wonder what's happening and if it was an earthquake. Gia and her brother arrive, not understanding who those fallen guys are. The scene cuts to the giant parrot looking tired and sweating profusely. Flying on it, Nari complains the beast is slow, and Dawoon thinks he went too hard. Namki-seok panics totally, wondering why this is happening now. He spots 2 figures and recognizes immediately disaster-class monsters from the coastal zone. Then he remembers Big Brother Dawoon and Nari went in that direction. Terrible fear strikes, and he thinks if something horrible happened to the 2 friends. He realizes in that case he might need to join those other hunters. But the Chimera grabs him by the head and asks if he's Cheon Dawoon's cook. Ki-seok falls to the ground yelling in fright, not believing the monster could speak. He composes himself and awkwardly asks if by chance they know his big brother. The Birdman confirms Dawoon is their friend, leaving Ki-seok totally confused. He looks at the other hunters on the ground and realizes this is a great opportunity. With a malicious smile, he prepares to hand over the guys. He points and shouts they are thieves trying to steal Dawoon's mandrake. The scene shifts, and 1 hour later, everything seems calm in the forest clearing. Out of nowhere, a huge explosion happens in the middle of the field, throwing dirt up. Dawoon and Nari arrive flying, and he comments, "There's no place like home." The giant bird collapses, groaning with exhaustion, thinking the quartz was too heavy. Dawoon pets it and tells it to rest since it worked hard. The 2 goose who hitchhiked end up rolling down the bird's back. One complains he's seasick from high flying, but suddenly notices something. He widens his eyes, seeing the 3 hunters tied to a tree nearby. Dawoon approaches, thinking it very suspicious that 3 A-rank hunters tried to steal the mandrake. The Eagle Man prepares to tell Dawoon what really happened there. His partner distracts Nari asking for a house tour, and the girl gets excited. While they walk away, he reveals the hunters were hired by Hanbit Institute to find Nari. Dawoon remembers instantly that Hanbit is the lab where Ki-seok got the tracker. It's explained they expected hunters and Nari has a special tracker, but Dawoon gets confused since they were in the coastal zone, and it makes no sense to be found. The monster shows a liquid metal beast in hand, explaining it's the culprit. Dawoon understands they mixed mandrake with liquid metal to track Nari. The beast came to the forest, but was attracted to their house, and now they know they won't give up on her. Dawoon finds it irritating and thinks of a solution, but hears the mandrakes grumbling at him. He realizes the biggest is furious, demanding he return her relative. Then he offers the metal creature, but the mandrake keeps screaming and doesn't accept. He remembers he had another in his pocket and doesn't understand how she discovered. The Eagle Man asks where he got the other one, and Dawoon explains he's keeping it for an alchemist. The scene goes back to the past, showing Manager Kim asking him to take the creature. The manager cries and begs him to take good care of it, with Dawoon accepting the mission. Back in the present, the mandrakes quickly dig new holes to plant themselves. The 2 new ones stand with sad faces, seemingly not liking the place much, but then the brown mandrake buries itself, settling into its new corner. They shine with joy, and he sees they will adapt, then asks where Namki-seok is. Suddenly, a desperate cry of Big Brother catches Dawoon's attention from above. The bird woman appears flying, carrying Ki-seok, who yells relieved they returned. He hugs Dawoon, worried, but the protagonist only notices his horrible appearance. It's explained he was found being bitten by fish because he wanted to treat new friends well. Ki-seok promises to make something delicious if they wait, but suddenly notices something strange. He turns and faces the giant blue bird lying nearby. He freaks out and screams, asking what the hell a cockatoo is doing there in the middle. Dawoon tells him to relax, saying he'll explain later. And first, they need to eat. Little Nari, very curious, wants to know the day's menu. The scene focuses on the metal mandrake, seeming very sad, planted alone in the dirt. Nari approaches the creature carefully, which keeps its head down. She touches its leaf with a shining finger and gives it a gentle smile. Suddenly, the birdmen scream food is ready, seeming super excited. Kiseok's special dish is revealed. Super fancy curry rice with kimchi. He is proud, even explaining he used simple market ingredients. But he cooked everything with care, stirring for an hour not to burn. Everyone sits at the table and he waits, expecting the food to be tasty. The bird woman is first to try bringing the spoon to her bone mask. The gang has an exaggerated reaction. It's so good Dawoon thinks it looks like a comedy. Dawoon is eating, but notices Nari is quiet and hasn't touched her food. He asks why she isn't eating, and the girl replies she has no appetite. She gets up to go sleep, and he realizes she's bad because of the Chimera. At the same time, the two new mandrakes remain very sad, planted in the earth. One looks aside with a crying face, not cheering up about the new home. Meanwhile, the birdmen praise the food, saying they feel more like pigs than birds. Dawoon suggests building a fence to help digestion, and they agree instantly. But suddenly he feels strange energy and realizes, shocked, a portal opened. Nari is being pulled inside and thinks if she stays, she'll put the mister in danger. So she decides to go, saying she needs to return where she belongs. Dawoon runs toward her, screaming Kim Nari's name in pure despair. With tears in her eyes, she says goodbye, calling Dawoon mister one last time. She is pulled into the portal, thinking if she stays, she'll endanger the mister. With that, she decides to return where she came from, accepting her fate. Crying, she says goodbye to the mister while he screams her name, totally desperate. But he reaches her and asks where she thinks she's going, reminding her home is there. The birdmen watch, shocked, commenting children disappear in a blink. He hugs her tightly and realizes he can't take his eyes off her for a second. The scene shifts and now a delicious ramen plate with egg appears on the table. Little Nari eats noodles with gusto, seeming happier than before. She tells the mister it's tastier, and Kiseok comments ramen is the best snack. The bird woman scolds her, warning she'll get beaten if she flees again. But the girl complains it's spicy, so Dawoon offers her a drink. Kiseok smiles, explaining his mom says that's best to cut the burn. He gets up to clean everything while the others decide to return to cutting quartz. On the table remain yogurt bottles that helped calm the spiciness. Afterward, alone with the Mr. Nari apologizes for making him worry. He says she did nothing wrong. The wrong ones are the bastards who created her. With a serious look, he sits at the table and decides to touch on a delicate subject. He asks about her friends, and Nari gets confused, not understanding. Dawoon explains it's so not to hurt them when destroying Hanbit Lab. She starts describing friends, and he realizes Kiseok must know where the lab is. The scene changes, showing Nam Kiseok with a sinister smile approaching prisoners. The blonde hunter struggles, and Kiseok reminds Big Brother suppressed their mana. Then he takes the gag off the guy's mouth, who finally breathes, relieved. The desperate hunter tries a deal, offering to pay whatever he wants to leave. He says the cash buys even a house in Golden City, but Kiseok says a deal needs balance. Laughing hard, he reveals a black card and says he doesn't fall for pocket change. The hunter panics, asking how he has that card, but Kiseok ignores. Kiseok is happy for revenge for what happened in the rank advancement exam. He remembers being called an idiot and says they are famous garbage. With hate, he asks which is the greater crime, failing a test or robbing the weak. Kiseok shows a pill made of forgetfulness herb, saying it's strong enough. With an evil smile, he says he'll reset the guy's disgusting personality with that. He orders the hunter to open his mouth, but the poor guy screams no desperately. The next day, Nari runs happy with Gu, who complains caring for kids' tires. Dawoon warns he's going to Hanbit Lab with Kiseok and Gu asking to care for everything. Kiseok arrives, warning Big Brother all preparations are ready. He has ear-to-ear smile, and Dawoon notices the cook's good humor. He's meeting an A-rank alchemist and is excited about the trip. But Bird Woman suggests he use a disguise, and Kiseok doesn't understand why. She brings her hand to her face, thinking of a quick solution. Removing the mask, she offers it, because being recognized won't bring good. He takes the mask, uncertain if it fits, and she jokes his head is big. Kiseok gets mad at the comment, but feels his heart race when she touches him. Blushing, he wonders why his heart is beating so fast suddenly. Seeing her laugh like that, he wonders if that is love at first sight. In reality, the woman is furious at partner yelling she'll destroy him. Kiseok kneels, begging forgiveness, explaining he acts without thinking. He gets gallant, asking what her ideal man type would be. Dawoon watches the quarrel and even takes a feather from Friend Monster. She is surprised by question, and Brother notices she is taking it seriously. He explains she is like that, always feeling need to answer a question. So she starts thinking of the answer and says, first, the guy has to be flashy. Then she continues, saying it would be cool if the person was also a good dancer. A colorful peacock appears, and Kiseok understands nothing, repeating the word dance. The penny drops when she says the more feathers, the better, and he realizes he has no chance. Suddenly, he catches fire, yelling he needs to find the alchemist right now. They open a giant return portal, and Kiseok is shocked by the size. Little Gu is first sucked into portal, going ahead. They exit in middle of city, and people scare, seeing poisonous roca parrot. Someone realizes people are mounted on beast ordering to call association investigation immediately. Kisiok asks Big Brother why he brought the beast since people are freaking out. Already masked, he wants to know where they are going, but Dawoon says he knows. Using Bone Mask, protagonist admires Bluebird flying through blue sky too. So he decides he'll call the bird Blue, while Goo continues dying of fear. The scene changes to a lab where they report hunters returned with total amnesia. The man says Chimera Tracker was lost and director slams table in hatred. He's furious because without Creature, he'll lose all investment already made. And he knows full well bosses behind everything won't let this go cheap. But one scientist says they found something in unconscious Hunter's clothes. He shows a note that says, "See you soon," leaving the director totally shocked. The old man freaks out in rage, yelling to investigate who did the prank. But at that instant, the building window explodes in 1,000 pieces with unexpected arrival. Dawoon realizes landing was unstable and he'll need to treat Blue's tail feather. Then he stands and stares at the room, asking who there is the lab director. The scene rewinds a bit, showing them flying on a giant bird over the city. Nam Ki-seok then asks if that's safe, since Cheon Dawoon was hanging off the side. He explains that Hanbit Laboratory isn't just any place, being quite famous in the media. The place became known for creating Kim Nari, which he considers a crime. But Oh Bong-soo says that Cheon Dawoon must have a plan, so they should trust him. Just then, Nam Ki-seok notices that the bird's tail feather looks a bit weird. Cheon Dawoon explains that it used to run from its own species because of that defect. It turns out he saved the bird, and that's why the creature obeys so well. It's explained that this species is obsessed with beautiful feathers, so they used to attack it. The bird remembers everything, and its expression changes to one of pure rage. The others in the flock always attacked its tail because it wasn't perfect. Nam Ki-seok gets thoughtful, as he understands well what the bird felt. He kneels down and speaks, saying he knows the pain of not being able to evolve. Then they finally spot their destination, a building in the middle of the mountain. Cheon Dawoon smiles and orders the blue bird to head straight for the location. The giant bird obeys the order, screeching as it charges ahead full force. Then, it dives at high speed, which leaves the gang pretty scared. Cheon Dawoon warns everyone to hold on, because the landing wouldn't be good at all. With that, they crash through the laboratory wall, causing gigantic destruction to the place. Inside, the scientists panic, thinking a war had just started. A researcher tries to look through the smoke, but ends up seeing something strange approaching. Suddenly, the huge bird appears in front of him, leaving the man in shock. He screams terrified, wondering why the hell there was a poison bird inside. Just then, golden webs are fired out of nowhere, trapping all the staff at once. Cheon Dawoon steps on the floor, commenting that he managed to catch most of them with the trap. Oh Bong-soo asks why he didn't use the entrance, and he says the director is at the top. The scene cuts, and the scientists ask who he is. He reveals himself as Nari's guardian, but the men are confused, as they don't even remember who this Kim Nari person is. Just then, Cheon Dawoon notices demonic energy and sees that something is strange there. The scene changes to Gold City, at the Hunters Association, where someone prepares for the exam. Inside a fancy office, an older man warns that he will expel his grandson if he fails. But the youth, Lee Baeko, retorts that he's already a C-class hunter, which is quite fast for his age. Then he takes advantage of the visit to ask for an allowance, and the grandfather regrets having spoiled his grandson too much. The association president, Lee Un-soo, grumbles that he's already 84. Baeko takes the cue and suggests that maybe it's time for someone to take over his position. It's explained that the grandfather created the association to help protect the world, even if just a little. But nowadays, he laments that hunters only care about the money they make. Chimera research was created to protect them, not to send them to certain death. But to hire one of these hunters, you need to pay big money to the labs. Because of this, poorer regions end up totally exposed to danger. He understands that he can't blame the hunters, since everyone just wants to survive. But he believes that a world where life is decided by money is wrong. And even so, everyone has their eye on his position just to strengthen their own schemes. He vents, saying that because he has a low rank, he was always a powerless president. Then he turns to his grandson and says that with Baeko, who awakened young, the story is different. Suddenly, a man runs in and warns that Advisor Kim is there, interrupting the conversation. He shouts that poison birds appeared in the slums, leaving Baeko quite surprised by the news. The president is shocked, as there was no sign that a gate was going to appear there. Worried, he asks about the hunters, and the man says they already contacted the branch. But he completes it by saying that no hunter wants to go, which makes the president furious. Outraged, he slams the table and warns that he will go personally, ordering them to call the Chimera labs. Seeing his grandfather run out, Baeko shouts and warns that he's going along to help. Back at the laboratory, Cheon Dawoon realizes that there is a strange energy coming from one of the hostages. Just then, the man explodes in power and breaks the webs, which scares Oh Bong-soo. A dark, sinister energy completely envelops the scientist's body, revealing his form. After the smoke clears, All that remains of the man is a puddle of liquid metal on the floor. Nam Ki-seok is jaw-dropped, wondering if that guy was actually a chimera. The metal then starts to transform, and the others yell that the director is a chimera. Cheon-dawoon just observes the scene, wiping a bit of dirt from his face. The chimera director then charges, screaming furiously because they destroyed his laboratory. He yells that he's going to kill everyone there, and fires a liquid metal attack in their direction. Cheon-dawoon faces the attack, finally confirming that that guy was the laboratory director. He dodges barely, and notices the metal is just like Nari's, but it doesn't seem to have life. So he questions if the director experimented on his own body to become like that. Suddenly, Gu notices something different is going on with Cheon-dawoon now. It's explained to us that he managed to create a mental link with Nam Ki-seok in that moment. With this, little Gu is shocked, as he had no idea Dawoon had this power. The scene cuts to a flashback, showing a child on a surgery table all bloody. It's revealed that director An Gi-jung would do anything to surpass his grandfather's success. Back to the fight. The floor explodes with the force of the director's attack impact, but Cheon-dawoon advances and asks if he kidnapped children to perform experiments. The director scoffs, saying the slum rats should thank him for the opportunity he gave. With that, Cheon-dawoon crushes him against the floor with absurd force, breaking everything. The monster tries to liquefy, but its body doesn't obey, leaving him desperate. Then Cheon-dawoon warns that he's going to send him to reflect a little in the pain room. He pins him to the wall with a surreal amount of mana, shocking the director with his power. The villain screams in pain, begging him to stop while his entire body writhes. Then, his whole body is sucked in and compressed into a small sphere of light. The shining sphere falls to the floor, and Cheon-dawoon kneels to observe it closely. Nam Ki-seok and Gu are terrified, screaming that a person just turned into a ball. With all the calm in the world, the protagonist picks up the small sphere on the floor. He stares at the other scientists and asks if they also want to turn into a little ball. We are told that everything started when An Bok-deok stole his master's research. Cheon-dawoon reflects that he found nothing about ADD in the guy's memories, which is strange. The scene reveals that Nari's tracker was a simple program, so it just needed destroying. In the end, Nam Ki-seok and the Bluebird were put in charge of cleaning up the place. Now all that remained was to find the legacy of the old director's illegal experiments. With one blow, he breaks the glass and enters the secret laboratory he found there. Inside, the scene is horrible, with several chimera bodies in glass tanks. Gu gets outraged, saying the guy was trash for treating children like data. The little monster then asks what Cheon-dawoon is going to do now with all that. A flashback shows the scientists wanting to dissect him, as he was the perfect experiment. They discussed it was more profitable to open him up right away instead of waiting for a body to appear. Back to the present, he touches one of the tanks and decides he's going to let everyone rest. But when he prepares to destroy everything, Gu notices something strange in one of the tubes. A small creature looking like a fox appears and says it smelled a familiar scent. Cheon-dawoon is surprised, as he didn't know the little animal could talk like Nari. He jokes with Gu, saying the smell must be his since he showers every day. Then he asks if the creature knows mechanical beings, and it gets astonished by the question. He advises that she is living well in the demon realm, making the little fox excited. The animal starts crying, saying it waited for news of its best friend, Nari. Cheon-dawoon asks if there is anyone else there, and the little fox calls everyone to appear. With that, a tree creature and a little ant come out of hiding, very shy. Right after, a bunch of little animals that look like moles or cacti appear too. He then asks if it's just them, and the fox explains that the combat ones were sold. He gets relieved, realizing that luckily all the creatures are from the demonic realm. So he offers to take everyone to the demon realm, making the little animals very excited. The scene cuts, showing the Hanbit laboratory exploding and catching fire from afar. From the top of a building, they realize the target was never the slums but the laboratory. Just then, Baeko spots a poison bird flying in the middle of all that smoke. But to his surprise, he sees someone mounted on the giant bird up there. Nam Ki-seok advises that he evacuated the researchers, as they knew nothing. He asks if they weren't supposed to give oblivion pills, but Cheon-dawoon says no. Nam Ki-seok gets confused, but the protagonist simply looks down and ignores him. From the ground, the association president asks if he knows who those people are. Then it's revealed they are the president and his grandson, sent to investigate. Cheon-dawoon becomes thoughtful, thinking he's already heard the name Lee Woon-soo somewhere. Suddenly his memory clicks and he remembers exactly who it is. He then picks up the sphere where he trapped the director and gives a slight smirk. Then he jumps off the bird and throws the sphere down, leaving Nam Ki-seok terrified. The object descends at high speed, flying straight toward the association president. With a quick movement, President Lee Woon-soo grabs the shining sphere in the air. His grandson asks what that is, and the grandfather is shocked, as he didn't expect to see this. He explains it's a sealing technique, which can only be undone by someone stronger. Then a team arrives and reports there were no injuries, leaving the president thoughtful about the culprit. The soldier adds that the director was a chimera, according to witnesses at the scene, and that an invader saved everyone, which leaves the president totally stunned. He wonders, shocked, if that child could still be alive after so long. In the sky, Cheon Dawoon announces they are going back to the slums, and Gu gets excited. The protagonist laments that he won't be able to relax because the association will be on their tail.
The scene shifts to the Alchemists' Association, where a man wakes up with a strange noise.
He opens the room door, wondering who could be visiting at that hour. Looking down, he runs into Oh Bong-soo on the floor, who greets him. Manager Kim then screams desperately, panicking with the unexpected visit in his room. He thinks it's a burglar, while Cheon Dawoon complains that the boy was very clumsy. But Cheon Dawoon calms him down, and the manager recognizes him, asking what he's doing there. Then he takes off the mask and announces with a smile that the manager is going with him to the demon realm. In the clearing, the Birdman teaches how to make a fence with quartz and shining stones. He first makes a hole in the stone, to then fit the other piece that shines. Then he places the lamp on the table, and Nari is jaw-dropped at the result. She thinks it's very beautiful, and the others agree the idea was brilliant. The girl already starts calculating how many they will need, but suddenly she notices something strange. Then a portal opens right nearby, and they immediately think the master has returned. Only out of the portal roll several chimeras, all piled up and looking quite weak. Nari wonders if Dawoon sent them, finding them very weak looking. One of the little creatures runs past them, heading toward the fence they were assembling. With the confusion, Nari gets a bit scared, holding her pet Sasa firmly. But then Sasa jumps to the ground, preparing to face the newcomers head-on. He lets out a little noise, trying to show who's boss, to establish the local hierarchy. The little snake then gets close to a plant chimera, trying to intimidate the small being. But the plant beast simply ignores Sasa, walking straight past without even caring. The new creature seems shy, making a cute sound and having an innocent face. The small plant chimera seems to have liked the garden, since she is a little sprout. But little did she know, because in that garden the atmosphere was about to get very tense. Suddenly the ground shakes and dust rises as if something exploded there, and from the ground emerge the owners of the turf, some creatures that look like angry radishes. The scene changes and we see the group arriving home, with Dawoon saying Blue can rest. Manager Kim is jaw-dropped, not believing what his eyes were seeing. He yells that it's not possible, that Dawoon really built a house in the demon realm, but the shock turns to excitement as he realizes the value of that and starts analyzing everything. Then Dawoon looks from afar at Nari, wondering if she still hasn't made peace. He then turns and tells Namki Seok and Manager Kim to wait there without moving. The hunter approaches the others, showing a new item that will be very useful for him. Back to the beef, it's explained that the little sprout wants the garden, and that's why they are staring each other down. One of the radishes is furious, with an angry face and absolutely no desire to make friends. But the sprout also doesn't yield, showing it's ready to fight for its place there. And to make matters worse, a giant ant appears, preparing to enter the fight too. The ant's tail starts to shine, perhaps sensing its new friend was in danger. Just then, the sprout spins and hurls the ant with all its might in an unexpected move. It throws the creature in the direction of one of the radishes, who prepares for a powerful strike. But what he uses as a weapon is his own companion, who goes flying like a ball. The little radish doesn't even understand what happened, only sees the friend's fist coming at his face, and with a precise hit, he nails the ant squarely, showing bizarre teamwork. The little ant can't take the hit and ends up fainting on the floor, all dizzy from the impact. The radishes win the dispute, and it's clear their teamwork has improved a lot. After the welcome ceremony, the little sprout drinks water with its new friends from the garden. Far away, the small fox Chimera sniffs the ground, looking for some familiar trace. Suddenly she stops and stares fixedly at a tree, sensing a smell she knows well. The little fox has no doubts, as that smell was unmistakable to her somehow. She then finds Nari hidden, referring to the girl as a mechanical creature. With eyes full of tears, Nari apologizes, saying she will wait for forgiveness. She stays there behind the tree, determined to wait however long it takes for her friend. In a flashback, two scientists argue, one of them angry about a test subject refusing battle. They talk about a robot that only gets beaten in fights and now refuses to obey. One of them explains that the problem is personality, as the creature was born with a kind nature. That's why the little robot lives sad, feeling like a useless fool while a shadow observes him. But the scientist gives a malicious smile, saying that if personality is the problem, just remodel it. The plan was to give the creature a roommate, someone weak who obeyed orders. With that, they present several small chimeras, so the robot creates a bond of friendship. And when they got close, the order was clear: command the roommate to betray him. In an instant, the fox attacks the robot mercilessly, sinking its teeth in with great violence. We are explained then that there is no worse pain than being betrayed by a friend. Fallen on the floor, a voice says he understands now that there's no such thing as friends, and that next time, if he doesn't want to die, he'll have to kill all of them first. The robot's personality finally changes, and he attacks one of the scientists with pure fury. Other men try to grab the creature, who even so refuses to hurt his friends. He cries in despair, because to not hurt who he loves, he doesn't know what to do. Without any other choice, he decides he just needs to leave that laboratory for good. The flashback ends, and the robotic creature sees the fox's teardrops on the floor. Then he floats toward the friend, who stares from below with a surprised face. The little fox can't handle the emotion and starts crying, seeing who was really there in front of her. He hugs the friend tightly, shouting that he missed her a lot, leaving the fox confused. Clinging to the small chimera, he repeats that he missed them all, really truly. And there, under the tree, he promises that he will never leave them alone again. Watching the scene, Dawoon realizes this is the original Nari, but decides to pretend he didn't see. He is happy they made peace, while the others follow him through the forest. Far away, Nam Ki-seok and manager Kim wait, because Dawoon didn't want to scare Nari. The gang gets curious, wondering who the person in pajamas next to the hunter is. Dawoon then introduces him as an alchemist who will remove their curses. Manager Kim introduces himself all awkward, saying that if it's not too much trouble, he asks the Birdman if he can pluck a few feathers, leaving the big guy in shock. Elsewhere, Oh Bong-soo tells Chief Park that a blue monster bird came out of the portal. They comment on the weather cooling down, and just then she hands him something on the table. It's a tray with roasted sweet potato, perfect for a cold day like that one. The boy takes the hot potato, blowing carefully not to burn his mouth before eating. He bites a piece and gets happy, feeling how warm and tasty it was. But then he asks if only he is going to eat, and Chief Park says she already ate before. She notices he doesn't seem well, but he disguises it, saying it's just pain from training. With a serious face, she says his symptoms seem like a hunter's pre-awakening. The chief asks if he is 17, explaining the age matches the awakening. Bong-soo thinks the idea is funny, but she gets angry, shouting that the awakening doesn't choose anyone. He asks her not to get her hopes up, but suddenly she places a roll of money in his hand. The boy gets stunned, looking at all that money that appeared out of nowhere. She explains there is an association nearby, and he can go there to take the test. Looking at an old photo, she thinks you never know, and that he might become a great hunter. With a smile on his face, Bong-soo thanks her sincerely for her help and trust. He thanks her and calls her ma'am, but Chief Park shouts furious that she is not a ma'am. Back at the clearing, the bird woman continues the work, building the yellow light fence. The small chimeras have fun with the light bar, playing as if it were a piano. One of the large quartz stones is driven forcefully into the ground, illuminating the forest. The Eagle Man works through the night, thinking they don't get tired because they are chimeras. But he sees Nam Ki-seok there, and wonders why the guy hasn't left yet. The bald guy screams desperately that he isn't training, and just wants to help on his own account. Dawoon suggests finishing what they started, but is warned to wait for manager Kim to concentrate. He asks if Ki-seok prefers to go home, but the youth gives a thumbs up all excited. With the situation resolved, Dawoon closes his eyes for an instant, thinking about what to do now. He turns to the chimeras and advises that if they want to live there, they need to help too. The Eagle Man reflects that it's good to have a function, and wonders if Dawoon is okay. The hunter walks with Nari, saying he will install the rest of the fence on the way. He asks if she made peace with the friends, and the girl freezes before agreeing. Nari then asks if he really went to the tribe, and he perceives her worry. Nari then decides to confess, saying she needs to tell him she is not from the coconut tribe, but he interrupts her calling her name, and advises that no one else will come looking for her. The hunter explains that he took care of everything, and while looking at the fence he was thinking. He then suggests they themselves become the new coconut tribe, leaving her confused. With a smile on his face, he says the family grew, and that's why they need a name. With eyes full of tears, Nari repeats the tribe's name, very moved by the idea. She thanks the sir very much, and he says now they can go back because everyone is waiting. The girl runs ahead, shouting that she returned and that from now on they are a tribe. Seeing her joy, the Eagle Man realizes the conversation between the two went very well. With the new fence shining, Nari thinks their house got even prettier now. Just then, she hugs the fox friend, asking angrily where she went without saying anything. Dawoon thinks the scene is funny, but suddenly he perceives a presence approaching fast, and from up there, the monster bird Blue dives with everything, flying in the hunter's direction. The creature rubs against him affectionately, and Dawoon understands he is just a youth in a big body. But then he notices something different, perceiving that Blue's tail looks totally new. Manager Kim approaches, explaining that Blue was faster and the treatment is already over. He tells that he used a bit of red moss, which has a powerful cure and works better this way. Nam Ki-seok is jaw-dropped with the miracle, as the feathers grew back quickly. Seeing everyone's excitement, he realizes that is his great chance to act. He gets close to manager Kim and whispers, asking if he is interested in hair loss. With a very serious face, he reveals he has been developing a remedy for baldness for 10 years. The manager gets all happy and promises to give a gift since he understands his situation. With that, Ki-seok bows all excited, saying that from now on he will do anything. The manager then turns to the birdmen, saying he examined their feathers too. He explains the magic circle is ancient and very powerful. That's why it's difficult to break. But he says he might manage a solution if he has a large quantity of mandrake fruit. Dawoon asks if it's that red fruit, leaving the manager surprised that he knows it. He then confirms he already ate several, and advises that the ones nearby will soon bear fruit. Manager Kim is shocked to see a mandrake garden, which he hadn't noticed before. It's explained that they condense pure energy, creating a fruit with incredible power. The manager warns there is a problem. If the fruit is taken by force, it turns into poison. Dawoon then has the idea of putting some stones because they hide to bear fruit. The manager is jaw-dropped, wondering how he knows such valuable information. With a smile, Dawoon says he just remembered, because he has a connection with the mandrakes. The scene changes to a flashback, where Subject 17 is sent on a survival mission. But for him that was easy, like breathing fresh air while walking through the snow mountain. Suddenly he stops, as he hears a strange noise coming from the middle of the trees nearby. He pushes the branches aside carefully, preparing to see what was making that sound. And in the snow, he finds mandrakes looking like they had been attacked by some mysterious creature. In the frozen forest, he finds a strange creature and decides to snatch it up. But the little guy proves feisty, resisting and throwing sparks in defense. Yet it was weak and panting, on the verge of passing out. The hunter pauses, questioning his own intentions. He realizes he feels pity for the thing, even knowing it's just a monster. He decides to help, transferring some mana to energize it. The creature gets sleepy from the boost, and he considers keeping it for a few days. Later that night, the hunter trudges through the snow looking for shelter. He carries the little groaner in a box on his back. Luckily, he finds a cave and announces they'll sleep there to escape the cold. Inside, the curious creature sneaks out of the box, peeking at the hunter from behind a rock. He notices the little monster has recovered its energy, probably from the mana it ate. The hunter takes the chance to drink some water, quenching his own thirst. Suddenly, he realizes something. Looking aside with surprise, the little guy was thirsty too. He apologizes for not offering water sooner. He tosses some water to the critter, who gets all excited and tells it to calm down. From the outside, it looked like the little monster was dancing with joy. But suddenly it runs to the back of the cave, leaving the hunter confused. A brilliant blue light shines from back there, startling the young man with its intensity. The creature returns holding a fruit, making him wonder where it came from out of nowhere. The little monster offers him the fruit. He's suspicious, wondering if it's safe to eat. Remembering he's resistant to poisons, he decides to eat it just to be polite. The moment he tastes it, an explosion of sweet, refreshing flavor occurs. He feels his mana replenishing and wonders if the fruit has power. The hunter looks back at the critter, trying to understand what's happening inside it. The little thing starts trembling and glowing again, making a strained face. To his surprise, more fruits appear, showing the beast can create them. Production accelerates rapidly. Soon he counts 5, then 6 new fruits emerging. The little monster offers all the fruits to him. He doesn't understand why he's getting so many. He realizes the beast is exhausted and wonders if this is its way of saying thanks. He thanks it for the gesture but tells the little guy to stop, as he's satisfied. Then, the little monster eats its own fruit and he notices they have no seeds. A blue aura appears and the hunter understands that the creature grows this way. He feels bad for taking the critter's mana and promises to replace it later. But suddenly he's startled by something. Looking down in confusion, the creature has curled up in his lap to sleep, ignoring the other safe spots. The hunter smiles, finding the beast interesting, thinking he won't be bored. Outside, huge monsters appear in the darkness, attracted by the firelight. They were after the creature's fruit, as it held pure, condensed energy. Realizing the danger, he grabs the little monster to move it out of the attack path. With his transformed arm, he stands up and promises to protect the creature. The fight begins outside. The hunter dodges an energy attack from a lizard. Next, he blocks a blow from a giant gorilla, showcasing his absurd strength. The scene shifts to the next day, where he's resting and talking calmly on the phone. With the happy little guy by his side, the hunter closes his eyes and gives a slight smile. Watching the sunrise, the hunter says it's finally time for him to go home. The little monster senses the farewell atmosphere, getting sad about the whole situation. He understands why he felt pity, remembering the image of the abandoned creature in the snow. It looked too much like his past self, and he knows the critter won't be safe. But he warns that he still needs to go. A curse on his body would kill him if he didn't return. He explains he can't take it, as it would become a lab rat just like him. To compensate, he creates a nest of threads in the cave to protect the place. And so the beast isn't attacked out there, he kneels to give it a little something. He ties a small item to the little monster's body, asking it to keep it. The creature gets all happy and shy, thanking him for the gift in its own way. But then he warns that he's leaving, and the critter's face instantly changes to despair. As he walks away, the creature screams and runs after him, trying to stop him from leaving. But it ends up tripping and falling, only managing to say goodbye by asking him to take care. In a flash, the hunter disappears, apologizing for not being able to protect it to the end. Alone again, the little monster can't handle the sadness and starts crying very loudly. The scene cuts, showing manager Kim and Nam Ki-seok crying while hugging over the story. Then Dawoon explains that he had to go back to the mountain about 2 weeks later, but he tells them the cave had collapsed, and nothing was left of the place. With a guilty face, he can only apologize for what happened to the beast. Gu consoles him, saying the silk thread might have protected the little monster. He then gets excited and decides they'll go back to the mountain, hoping the beast is okay. But upon arriving, they find a veritable army of little creatures in the snow. Leading everyone was his old friend, calling for him with an excited shout. Dawoon smiles and decides to return to the mountain, hoping to find the little guy alive there. The scene changes, and he finds it impossible that the little creature survived alone in the cold. Manager Kim gets all excited, saying Dawoon must really love mandrakes. Then, Dawoon asks if he can give them some mana, since they must be hungry. He asks the manager to be careful, but the man approaches and asks the plants to behave. Dawoon explains that he learned something. Their true ability is different. They are like a mana vacuum cleaner, sucking everything up with incredible will. The manager despairs as he feels his mana being drained at an absurd speed. They got used to the amount of energy Dawoon always gives them. With that, the manager screams as he's sucked dry to the last drop, unable to react. He becomes pale and weak, losing his balance, having no strength left in his body. In the end, he faints on the ground, and Ki-seok runs yelling the manager's name. The alchemist's defeat was ugly. Not even the skeleton can revive the fallen man. But the mandrakes start vomiting, and Dawoon realizes they are nauseous. The scene cuts to an office where a man warns that the Hanbit laboratory has been attacked. At the meeting, CEO Jessica complains that her investment turned to trash overnight. Then, Deputy Chief Violet asks, quite seriously, how they are going to resolve all this loss. President Jang Gibong looks nervous, warning that the association has opened an investigation. Another man comments on the risk of the story leaking to the press and sullying their name. But President Go Jung-hyuk mocks them, saying they're afraid of an old man. Indignant, Gibong slams the table and shouts that he crossed the line with that comment. Jung-hyuk asks the politician in the room if he happened to tell a lie. With a confident smile, politician Park Woo-jung tells them not to worry about it. He says a strange guy appeared, but these things are normal in government. The politician then makes a money gesture, saying he already has a new source of income. He shows a map, revealing he discovered a mandrake home on a snowy mountain. The others are surprised, but doubt anyone can climb to the mountain's peak. But the politician points to a lower spot and asks them to call all rank A hunters. Confused, Gibong asks why not go to the top if the nest is up there. With an evil smile, he explains that a teleportation user without equal has appeared to help. The scene changes and a boy arrives, saying he came to measure his awakened powers. With a smile, he introduces himself to the attendant, saying his name is Obongsu. Back at the mountain, the troop of hunters advances, thinking the mission is a walk in the park. They wonder where the teleportation boy is, as he's the key piece of the expedition. One of them is confused, having heard the boy was rank F and couldn't even cross the gate. A colleague explains that the expedition leader has the power to amplify abilities. He reveals the boy was kidnapped off the street and is now hypnotized to obey. Suddenly, the leader raises his hand and orders the vanguard to stop immediately. He analyzes the location and confirms that his plan can work from that distance. Then, a marionette user puts his hand on the boy's shoulder and tells him to start. The boy's power begins to shine, with a green aura enveloping his entire body. The whole group gets into position, anxious to see what that rare case could really do. With glowing eyes, he releases his ability at full force, suffering from the power. His energy shoots out, tearing through space and opening a path to the mountains. The portal appears right in front of the mandrakes, who are caught totally by surprise. The portal opens, and the hunters are thrown right into the middle of the mandrake nest. They are shocked by the distance, but the power worked perfectly, despite the cost. From the effort, the boy faints, and the leader yells at the others standing still. Then, he takes 2 spheres of light and announces that whoever gets there first takes the prize. He throws the spheres hard, and they transform into a large energy net in the air. The trap works, catching a bunch of mandrakes, and he celebrates the plan's success. He yells for the team to prepare quickly to capture all the creatures trapped there, but a different mandrake, one with a small mark, stands out among all the others. It gives a war cry, and with that, all the others join forces to fight as a pack. The hunters notice the beast giving orders and realize they are advancing against the net. One of them is frightened to see the little creatures are actually eating the trap, but the leader corrects him, saying they are absorbing the mana, and the net will disappear soon. A brute advances with a hammer, calling the rank A hunters pathetic. He shows off his strong arm, commenting that their mana absorption is really good, but he warns that he's all physical strength and attacks without using a drop of mana against them. Seeing the danger, the leader yells, and the mandrakes flee desperately to save their skins. The little creature faces the threat with a determined look, even sweating a bit from nervousness. A brute calls it king and warns that he's only not crushing it because it's expensive. But a gorilla man attacks full force, yelling that he's going to beat the little guy up. Suddenly, a mysterious figure appears and defends against the blow, criticizing the enemy's ugly weapon. The impact of the defense is so strong it throws the other hunters back with the pressure. As the dust settles, they wonder who that guy is, having never seen him before. Dawoon stares everyone down, while they think it's impossible for the mission information to have leaked. Tired of the noise, he releases a dark, terrifying aura that silences everyone. The pressure is so strong it throws the hunters to the ground, making them scream in pain. Silence reigns again. The mandrake looks at its savior in disbelief. The little guy stands there, trying to understand who this man that appeared out of nowhere is. From up high, the birdmen find the movement strange, not understanding so many hunters and mandrakes together. But then the masked woman notices someone specific amid the confusion, seeming to recognize him. The scene shifts to Dawoon's mind, confirming he found the mandrake he was looking for. He's sure it's her, recognizing the silk thread he tied on her. In a quick flashback, he remembers when he was 15 and found the little creature in the snow. Dawoon is happy to realize she remembered his mana after so long. The small mandrake jumps all excited toward its old friend. Carefully, the hunter catches her in the air, finally reuniting with the little one. She nestles in his arms, rubbing against him like a needy puppy. Suddenly, Dawoon hears a strange noise and his look changes instantly. He turns and sees dozens of mandrakes standing there, wondering if they are her friends. The small mandrake jumps out of his lap and pulls his shirt, getting his attention. With an angry look, she puts herself in front of him to protect him from the group. Then she turns to the crowd and acts like the king of the pack, surprising Dawoon. The little creature stands on tiptoes, trembling to appear bigger and more intimidating. Dawoon smiles, thinking the mandrake is still expressive and hasn't changed a bit since the last time. Then, the scene returns to the present, with him telling his friends he knew he would find her. The Chimera woman is surprised she's alive, and the Birdman confirms it's her by the thread. He asks if Dawoon is going to take this one to the garden too, and the young man seems thoughtful. Dawoon explains that if she already found a place, it won't be easy to convince her to leave. The conversation shifts to the hunters, and our protagonist says to just scare them away. But suddenly, his expression changes completely upon seeing something unexpected on the ground. It's the boy Oh Bong-soo, fallen and unconscious in the snow, leaving Dawoon in shock. He runs to help the boy, while the chimeras wonder what he's doing there. Dawoon explains it's the boy who helped him as a guide in the slums a while back, but he realizes the boy seems to have awakened and is in very bad shape. The bird woman analyzes the energy and says he's a newly awakened transference user. She shows a mark on his arm, warning it's a curse and he won't last 3 days. Worried, Dawoon looks at the wounded boy, trying to understand what the hell happened to him. A dark, furious look takes over his face as he finally understands the situation. Dawoon stares at the hunters, identifying each one's ability by the fallen boy's mana. He accuses the cowards of kidnapping Bong-soo because they didn't have the courage to climb the mountain. Absurd energy explodes from Dawoon, making the hunter realize he can't fight him. The man panics and offers to catch some mandrakes, trying to negotiate for his life. But the protagonist wants no conversation and lands a brutal blow on the group leader. With his dark mana, he attacks the entire team at once, without any mercy. He then questions the other hunter, wanting to know what he thought when seeing a boy there. Dawoon already knew the answer. They saw only an orphan easy to use and throw away. The hunters were just thinking about the money they'd make, acting by the law of the strongest. So he warns he's going to do the same to them, starting with a thorough beating. In the distance, the small mandrakes watch the fight, curious about what's going on. The scene changes, with Dawoon sitting next to Bong-soo, who now rests on a rock. With the small mandrake on his head, he gets thoughtful, remembering the young hunter. In a flashback, he recalls the boy training hard to improve his physical stamina. Bong-soo used to say he wanted to get strong like him, surprising Dawoon a bit at the time. In the flashback, Bong-soo said Dawoon was an incredible hunter for entering the realm of demons. With the boy dying, Dawoon remembers his dream and promises to save him somehow. Suddenly, a desperate scream calls for Bong-soo, and our protagonist realizes help has arrived. It's manager Kim, flying in the sky carried by a chimera, screaming the boy's name. The creature simply drops him in the air, and he runs awkwardly through the snow toward the boy. The manager ends up tripping and falling face first onto the ground, right in front of Dawoon. He gets up worried, but Dawoon cuts him off and tells him to treat the boy first. Without wasting time, the manager begins to use his healing ability on Bong-soo, but he soon realizes it's no use as the boy's vital force is already exhausted. With a sad look, he explains that not even the best potions in the world would save the boy. Dawoon doesn't understand why such a good boy is in this state and asks about vital force. But then the protagonist says maybe there is a way, leaving manager Kim shocked with hope. Then he starts drawing an ancient alchemy circle in the snow, which the manager recognizes. The manager warns that this is a mana extraction extraction technique, something very dangerous and forbidden. To make matters worse, it would be necessary to extract the mana from everyone there, with no guarantee anyone would survive. Dawoon surprises the manager by asking him to use only his mana, leaving the man terrified. With a smile, he explains he can't let Bongsu owe his life to that riffraff. The scene changes to a lab, where scientists say number 17's mana was immeasurable. We are shown they wanted to use his near-infinite mana to create the alchemy of life. But back then, even all wounded, Dawoon could only laugh at those researchers' faces. He remembers deflecting their power, blowing up the building because he didn't like the idea. Despite everything, the protagonist admits the alchemy circle itself was very well made. Back in the present, he takes off his shirt and asks the manager if they can begin. The manager prepares for the ritual, warning he's going to start the mana extraction. With hands on his back, the man concentrates, promising to do this for Bongsu. Then, gigantic blue energy explodes from Dawoon's body, illuminating everything around. His vital force materializes, and the manager is shocked to see the scene unfold. He prepares to transfer the energy while the mandrakes stare at him with anger. Out of nowhere, the little creatures jump and begin attacking Manager Kim non-stop. Dawoon explains they understood everything wrong. Thinking he was being attacked, the manager tries to calm the critters down, asking them to stop the confusion. He thinks their concern is cute, but needs them to leave so he can continue. With the extracted energy, a healing potion is finally given to the unconscious boy. Everyone watches the treatment, hoping the young hunter manages to recover. Gradually, the curse mark on Bongsu's arm begins to disappear completely. His breathing finally returns to normal, showing the worst had passed. The manager cries with happiness, celebrating that the plan worked and Bongsu will live. Dawoon comments that it's strange to think he saved someone using the experiments he suffered. Dawoon gives a slight smile, thinking about how life can be quite funny sometimes. The manager promises to take care of Bongsu, but the Chimera questions how he will cross the gate. He then reflects on the alchemy circle, remembering it can be used to extend life. Therefore, he warns the manager he's going to erase his memories after the next step. But the manager panics upon hearing that the other hunter's mana will be extracted. Dawoon explains it's their punishment, and the extracted mana will be discarded. His Chimera friends suggest erasing the hunter's memories, but the protagonist has another idea. He says people don't change easily, so they need to carry the memory of the shame. The hunters are terrified by the decision, while the Chimera seems to accept the plan. Then Dawoon thinks better of it and thinks it would be a waste to just send the guys away. Suddenly, a brilliant idea appears in his mind, changing the whole direction of the situation. He suggests the hunters can build a research lab right there on the mountain. Dawoon says it would be a place just for the manager, who gets super excited about the possibility. Thrilled, the manager runs to prepare everything, barely knowing he's going to work much harder now. Then, he asks the Eagle Man to watch the hunters, as he needs to go somewhere else. With everything resolved, Dawoon prepares to finally leave that place with his new friends. He takes the small mandrake affectionately and announces it's time to take her home. Just then, a giant blue bird crosses the skies and flies toward him rapidly. The hunter calls him Blue and asks him to wait a bit, petting him. Then he kneels in the snow and grabs his backpack to store the rescued little creatures. The mandrakes that were on the ground run excitedly into the bag, along with the others. With the little one on his shoulder, he says it doesn't matter if it's monster or human, going back home is always good. But then he puts her on the ground, explaining that it's time to say goodbye. He can't just take the new monarch away just because he wants to, leaving the little one shocked. Dawoon consoles her, saying it's not a goodbye as he also lives there and will visit her. The mandrake gets calmer, understanding they will still see each other many times. But when he turns to leave, the creature starts walking in the opposite direction. She signals with her head, as if calling the hunter to follow her. He accompanies her along a strange path, noticing it's away from her habitat. Suddenly, they arrive at the entrance of a dark cave, and Dawoon seems to recognize the place. Upon entering, Dawoon realizes the place is very similar to the old cave he knew. He notices the location is clean and has marks on the floor, a sign that someone comes here often. The small mandrake points to a crevice, and he imagines that was where she bore fruit. With an excited jump, the little creature confirms it was she herself who found this place. But suddenly, the hunter's expression changes upon hearing a noise at the cave entrance. He sees the group of mandrakes and thinks they came looking for their leader who disappeared. Then, an older mandrake with a mustache approaches the group with an air of concern. The little one puts herself in front of the old guy, seeming to understand what's happening there. The elder stares at the young leader with a serious look, as if he were going to scold her. Then, the two begin to talk, and the little one seems to be passing her position to him. The old man gets desperate with the news, but the young one seems very determined to leave. Suddenly, she begins to float, and Dawoon wonders if she gave up being the monarch. He is shocked and questions if she's sure, thinking it's his fault. With tears of happiness, the mandrake confirms her decision, ready to follow her friend. The scene ends with Dawoon and the little one resting beside a bonfire inside the cave. Dawoon accepts her decision, as everyone chooses where they want to live, while the little one sleeps. With the mandrake by his side, he stays calm in the cave, enjoying the warmth of the fire. The scene changes and we see Bongsu lying on the rock, starting to slowly wake up from the coma. He opens his eyes, a bit confused, not really understanding where he ended up. Suddenly, the boy encounters the birdmen, who stare at him with curiosity. Bong-soo goes into total panic and lets out a scream of pure terror upon seeing the monsters in front of him. Completely terrified, he can barely breathe while the Chimera asks if he's Bong-soo. Then, the woman welcomes him to the realm of demons, leaving the boy even more shocked. The Chimeras watch Bong-soo from afar, commenting that he seems quite sad. They imagine he's shocked, as he almost died his first time in the demon realm. The scene changes, showing the boy discovering he turned into an awaken. Bong-soo gets super excited, as now he knows Mr. Park was telling the truth the whole time. But upon leaving, a hooded man stops him, asking if he was newly awakened. The stranger then smiles, congratulating the boy for becoming a future hunter, and offers a soda. He tosses the can to Bong-soo, who catches it in the air, still not understanding anything about the situation. The man says it's a welcoming tea, and the boy thanks him, all happy for the gift. We return to the present, with him outraged for having been deceived since he was just an orphan. The boy then falls into the snow, crying a lot and apologizing to Mr. Park. Meanwhile, far from there, a giant bluebird flies over the frozen forest. In its master's pocket, a cute little creature with a bow wakes up from its nap. We then see it's Cheon Da-woon, who turns surprised to feel the little one moving. From up high, he spots wolves in the snow and wonders if they've already started the lab construction work. He lands hard on the ground, and the eagle Chimera welcomes him, saying he finally arrived. The eagle Chimera explains that the workers are preparing materials and leveling the terrain. Cheon Da-woon is relieved, as he thought they were going to make excuses not to work properly. But actually, Jia taught them a lesson, leaving the big guys scared to death. In a flashback, we see the hunters outraged for having their mana extracted because of a brat. One of them freaks out, as it took him 20 years to reach Class A, and now he's been demoted. The Eagle Chimera then knocks the man out without mercy, and simply calls for the next in line. The others are terrified, wondering if it's worth risking against two disaster-class monsters. One of them has the idea to join forces to attack, but is trampled before finishing the sentence. Jia appears imposing, asking what they would do after joining forces, and now what? The scene cuts, showing that even Manager Kim got beaten badly by that pair of chimeras. She then warns that she doesn't forgive anyone who messes with children, and tells them to cooperate already. Jia gives an ultimatum, asking if they are going to hand over the mana, or if they prefer to die right there. Sometime later, she yells at them for resting, and Da-woon comments how scary she is. The Eagle Chimera says at this pace the lab will be ready soon, and they can handle the job. Manager Kim approaches, reporting he fulfilled the order and already extracted all the hunter's mana. Cheon Da-woon asks the manager how Bong-soo is, wanting to know the boy's state. The man replies that he's already awake, but is in a state of shock, and invites him to see him. Da-woon then approaches the boy, who was sitting alone on a rock, and asks if he woke up. Bong-soo is startled, but Da-woon asks him not to be formal and just call him Hyung. He looks closely at the boy, noticing the near-death experience changed him a lot. The front of his hair turned white, and his mana hole is much larger now. With that, he sits next to the boy and asks why he has that funeral face. Bong-soo vents, saying he feels useless after everything that happened. He cries, explaining he was tricked by a stranger and doesn't know how he's going to live. Da-woon listens to everything in silence for a moment, and then calls the boy's name. He stands up, and with a serious tone orders Bong-soo to follow him for a moment. The two walk to the group of defeated hunters, who get tense with their presence. Da-woon then grabs the man who tricked the boy, lifting him by the hood effortlessly. He asks if it's that guy and punches him in the face with all his strength. Fallen on the ground, Da-woon explains that the man used a curse to trick him with lies. Da-woon then offers a choice, saying he can kill the man for him if he wants. The boy stays silent for an instant, gritting his teeth while thinking about what to do. With his hand clenched into a fist, he answers no, because that was not what he wanted. After all, he survived and the man already lost his ability, but he knows others like him will appear. Therefore, he decides he's going to get stronger so no one else falls into a trap like that. Hearing that, a corner-of-the-mouth smile appears on Cheon Da-woon's face, satisfied. He helps the man get up and warns it was Bong-soo who saved his life. Afterward, he points to the boy and says he will begin learning to train mana with Manager Kim. Bong-soo is surprised by the proposal, and Da-woon reveals he also came from the slums like him. The manager and the Eagle Chimera agree, saying it's no problem being from there and they will help him. The other Chimera comments that with the face Da-woon has, his words sound very comforting. The boy can't handle the emotion and starts crying with happiness and relief right there. He thanks everyone for the support and gives Manager Kim a tight hug. Da-woon thinks to himself that if he trains the boy right, he might even surpass Nam Kiseo. Then, The little creature in his pocket jumps out, agreeing with the idea excitedly. The eagle Chimera notices the little creature, and Dawoon explains the old monarch passed the title to her. He then pets the new mandrake, saying that's why he brought her along. Dawoon announces he's going to the forest zone to show the new home to the little creature. With a jump, he flies off with the mandrake on his head, saying goodbye to the team. Bongsu keeps watching him leave, thinking that guy appeared out of nowhere and started helping. The boy smiles, wondering what kind of person his Hyung, who just saved his life, was. But the eagle Chimera answers bluntly, saying Cheon Dawoon is a psychopath. The other Chimera explains better, saying he has nothing to lose and therefore fears nothing. She concludes that he just wants to build a house in the demon realm and live in peace. The scene changes and Dawoon arrives in a green field, but sees Kim Nari and a man agitated. The man spots him and yells his name. Super relieved, he finally arrived there. Nari runs to him desperately, asking why he took so long to come home. She then yells that Gu and Sasa disappeared, and we see the two huddled in a dark cave. Cheon Dawoon doesn't understand, asking what happened there with them. Nari cries, explaining they disappeared in the morning, and she and her uncle searched everywhere. We are shown they searched by the waterfall and in the forest, but found nothing. The protagonist then stops for an instant, trying to analyze the situation calmly to solve it. He uses his mana to scan the whole area, releasing a large wave of blue energy. The sweep finds no sign of intruders nor any strange energy nearby. With glowing eyes, he asks if something unusual happened before they disappeared. The man gets embarrassed, but ends up telling that Sasa fought with the mandrakes again and lost. He explains that Sasa picks a fight with everyone when Dawoon isn't around. After the fight, the animal got irritated and slept all day, which Nari confirms. Dawoon puts the pieces together and wonders if Sasa wasn't already starting his skin shedding. The scene shifts to a few hours earlier, with Gu flying very determinedly through the forest. Suddenly, he hears a strange noise and notices Sasa's suspicious walk on the ground. He sees Sasa was up to something again, with that face of someone about to mess up. Gu realizes right away he was going after the mandrake's leaves once more. Said and done, there was Sasa again, going after the newest mandrake of the group. He strikes by surprise, and the small plant screams in fright at the sudden attack. The other mandrakes hear the noise and turn around, while Sasa seems very proud of his mischief. One of them approaches, praising his courage, but with a very threatening tone in the air. Suddenly, the mandrakes show their shadow forms, warning they are too strong for him. Without even giving time to react, one of them hits Sasa with an energy blow full force. The yellow animal flies far with the impact and falls flat on the ground, defeated. He stays there, crying in pain and sadness for having been beaten one more time by that group. Then, an orange flower falls right in front of him, leaving him confused by the situation. Gu appears, scolding Sasa for picking on them, since there's so much bush around. He then offers the flower, saying he picked it for having the strongest demonic energy. Sasa eats the flower and gets super happy, and Gu wonders if that's how the cook felt. But suddenly he notices something strange and is shocked by what he sees on Sasa's back. The animal's skin was all peeling off, and Gu wonders if he's already going to shed his skin. It is explained to us that skin shedding is dangerous, and we see the silhouette of a creature in a cave. It's explained that no one can help, as any contact can cause unwanted mutations. Gu realizes Sasa's skin shedding is going to begin seriously at any moment. He gets worried, as Sasa is young and doesn't have the strength to do the process alone. Desperate, he flies off yelling, looking for anyone who can help. He sees everyone is busy and realizes he needs to take Sasa to a hot and humid place. But then he gets discouraged as there's no way to explain the situation to Nari and the worker. He then keeps wondering when Cheon Dawoon will finally return home. Looking at Sasa, he realizes he has no choice and that he'll have to act himself. With that, he grabs his friend and puts him on his head, saying he'll take him personally. The scene returns to the present, with Gu entering a dark cave with Sasa in his beak. He tries to calm down, thinking it's just a small cave on any random mountain, but he almost died several times on the way, passing through a forest full of red eyes. Finally, he lands and says that place must be good enough for the process. Suddenly, a giant eye opens in the dark, and a terrifying scream echoes through the place. Then, a flock of monstrous bats appears out of nowhere, leaving the two totally terrified. The vampire bats advance full force onto the duo, ready to turn them into dinner, but Gu fills himself with courage and yells that he will protect Sasa at all costs. Then, very strong light explodes in the cave, blinding everyone for an instant. And from the smoke, Cheon Dawoon appears, saying he finally found them there. The two are shocked, and Gu asks how he managed to reach that place. Dawoon explains calmly that he used his mana detection ability to track them. He adds by saying he already knows their energy signature, that's why it was possible. The protagonist then looks at Sasa and confirms he really is about to shed his skin. He asks if Sasa wants to find a good place for it, since now he's safe. The little creature points to a corner, and Dawoon asks if he liked that little space there. He thinks the humidity is good, but maybe the temperature needs raising a bit locally. With a touch, he heats the rock, and Gu comments it's warm like the volcanic zone. Gu thinks it's strange, thinking it must be a type of rapid evolution, not common skin shedding. Dawoon confirms the suspicion, explaining that skin shedding is an effort to survive. He says that after losing so much, Sasa felt he needed to evolve to not die. This survival instinct must have activated an evolution, leaving the animal with red eyes. Dawoon agrees, and says he's anxious to see what Sasa will turn into after this. Suddenly, a very bright light begins to shine, coming from where Sasa was. The two are shocked by what's emerging from the brilliance, understanding nothing. From the midst of the light, an orange flower appears, leaving them even more confused. And then, the new Sasa emerges, with the flower on its head and a much cuter appearance. Gu appears with a strange flower, and Dawoon says for now, it's better to go home. A while later, already at Cheon Dawoon's residence, tranquility doesn't last long. Nari arrives running and screaming, asking where they had gone. She continues the scolding, but Dawoon replies he would have warned if they could talk. Then, Nam Ki-seok gets worried about Sasa, noticing the strange flower on its head. Dawoon explains she must be tired, so it's best to let her sleep for now. He gives a little smile, agreeing the little creature really needs some rest. The scene cuts to the mandrakes, who also make a sound, as if agreeing with that. Then he decides to give some mana food, since he hadn't paid attention to them lately. Right after, he announces the family gained a new member, leaving a mystery in the air. It is revealed that one of the mandrakes, the biggest one, now stays in his clothes pocket. Fortunately, the other creatures seem to welcome the new group leader very well. Dawoon presents the garden to them, relieved there was no fight over leadership. The smallest mandrake gets super excited with the new home, jumping with joy. But suddenly, the little one stares at the leader with a look of challenge, surprising everyone. Dawoon realizes the small mandrake doesn't want to leave his side, getting very surprised. With the creature nestled on his shoulder, he even thinks if he should get a pouch for it. Ki-seok asks if it's a new one, but he explains he re-encountered the one that had separated. Nam Ki-seok comments this reunion must be destiny, leaving Dawoon quite confused. Then Nari, holding Gu, says the little creature likes him and he should always take care of it. She suggests he do dodak like it's a baby, but he has no idea what that is. To show, she starts patting Gu on the head, who gets visibly irritated. Then she demonstrates it's the way to pat a baby's back to make it sleep. While Gu screams for her to stop, Dawoon thinks Dodak sounds like a good name. Suddenly, a masked woman arrives, and Nari runs to greet her all happy. The woman asks if the lab is ready, leaving Ki-seok quite nervous. He bows all awkwardly, and she says it's been a while, cook. Dawoon gets confused, while the word cook leaves Ki-seok all blushing with shame. With eyes on fire, he shouts that he will definitely get a chef license. The woman warns the lab is ready, and Nari and Ki-seok get super excited to see it. Dawoon suggests they visit the lab tomorrow, as he needs to see how Sasa is. With that, Ki-seok gets excited to make dinner, and Nari already thinks about cold weather clothes. Night arrives, and the masked woman observes the camp from atop a tree. Suddenly, her glowing eye focuses on something, as if noticing strange movement. She sees Sasa and the mandrakes gathered in the middle of the field, up to something. The flower on Sasa's head starts shining, illuminating everything around it in the dark. The other creatures get confused, not understanding what's happening with that flower. Then, the flower's light gets even stronger, and Sasa seems a bit scared. The lead mandrake gets irritated, thinking the flower is wilting and will cause trouble. Sasa closes her eyes tight, and when she opens them again, it seems something changed. With a jump, she climbs onto the mandrake's head, who screams in surprise at the attitude. Next, the creatures follow Sasa to a hole that appeared there in the dirt. The small snake enters the hole, using the glowing flower like a flashlight. The mandrakes gather at the edge, watching Sasa nestle inside the hole, but soon after she comes out of there, waving as if saying goodbye to everyone. In the darkness, a sinister smile with a glowing red eye emerges from the earth. In the blink of an eye, the creature advances full force, with the flower on its head highlighted. But suddenly, Sasa returns to normal, appearing confused by what just happened. She starts shaking her head from side to side, as if looking for someone. The small snake then starts crying, with tears running down her face. Nari arrives and asks Dawoon why Sasa turned into a flower pot suddenly. He explains she must have been trying to get close to the mandrakes, disguising herself as a plant. Seeing the little one cry, he says she must be frustrated and it's better they go sleep. The scene changes to a place full of snow, where Nari and the T-Squadron leader stand open-mouthed. They are facing a huge wooden building, which Dawoon says he built. The Birdman confirms the quality, and Dawoon boasts, saying they are professionals at this. At that moment, manager Kim arrives, explaining he was going to get materials in the human world. Dawoon is surprised to learn Oh Bong-soo returned, and the manager warns he is training Mana. With a satisfied smile on his face, he seems to approve the news he just heard. Seeing the men kneeling in the snow, he comments that now all that's left is sending these guys back. Dawoon asks manager Kim to cast a silent spell, and he agrees instantly. He explains the spell will activate if they think about speaking, but the leader is amazed. The man says it's an ancient spell, but Do-woon guarantees he will make it unbreakable. The leader doubts it's possible, but Do-woon confirms with a smile wrapped in his aura. The scene shifts to an office, where rank A hunters returned as if they were rank D. Congressman Park Woo-jung is indignant that they couldn't break a simple spell. The association president, Go Jung-hyuk, gets serious while the other questions the logic. He then remembers the incident 57 years ago, saying it's the same situation. Someone sealed the spell with mana, making it impossible to break, which shocks the congressman. Jung-hyuk suspects Lee Won-soo is involved, since he allegedly burned down a lab. Park thinks the old era idea is absurd, but sees a chance to attack his rival. Without another choice, he decides to initiate the slum cleanup project, shocking the president. With an evil smile, the congressman decides to start the plan earlier than predicted. With a slight smile, he agrees and says, "That's fine then." Looking at the subdued men, he comments that all that's left is to send them back. At that, Manager Kim is instructed to cast a gag spell first. Explaining how it works, he says the spell activates just from thinking about revealing everything. Questioned about the spell being ancient, he guarantees he'll make it impossible to break. Faced with doubt about whether that's possible, he confirms with complete certainty that it is. Changing scenes. A girl plays in the snow while men talk at the table. Magic symbols then form on one of the men's mouths, sealing his words. Sending them home, he warns them to never mess with children again. Shocked, one of the companions says he's never seen a spell sealed with mana before. Remembering something, he recalls the incident with a spell from 50 years ago. In a flashback, he remembers the case of an alchemist who turned himself in for illegal research. But because of a sealed spell, he couldn't say anything about the laboratory. All the dozens of S-Class awakened who tried to break that spell failed. Noticing the similarity, he finds the sealing technique too similar to that case. Grabbing the cookie, he eats the snack before anyone could see. At that, the woman stares at him and asks if he just ate her snack. As they run, the young man thinks about their friendship since childhood. Concluding his thoughts, he realizes the boss must be a hunter from the old era. Unable to imagine the life he's had, he feels grateful to have been taken in. Pledging loyalty, the young man is invited to go to the cave zone. Astonished, he questions why they're going to one of the most avoided areas. Explaining the situation, he says it's time to prepare for winter in the forest. The snow in that forest is known to all as the dreaded silent invader. Despite its normal appearance, it causes a corrosive effect when touching plants. When winter arrives, the plants in the region melt because of the snow. Desperate, he asks if their house will also be destroyed in the process, but calmly, he assures everyone that the house will be fine. Inside the house, the manager explains that in the cave, there's a mushroom that prevents corrosion. Imagining a strange house, the young man ends up having a nosebleed. Asking him to rest, he calls Manager Kim to take a look at something. Holding the pot, he shows that the two creatures don't seem to be in good shape. Analyzing the creatures, the manager notices their recovery is slower than expected. After the analysis, the manager remembers he also has something to give him. Showing the jar, he explains it's a moisturizing cream essential for alchemists like him. Thanking him for the gift, he says it'll be very useful in the dry cave zone. The small creature in his pocket then looks with curiosity at the new object. Ready to leave, he calls Kim Nari to begin exploring the cave. In the middle of the snowy forest, a noise in the bushes catches everyone's attention. At that, the two natives appear, warning they're leaving for a while. They explain they're going home, promising they'll see each other again when they return. On top of a large bird, the group now flies over the vast forest. Sitting on the bird, he explains the cave is a short walk from there. She then asks why the cave is dry, since they're normally humid. Arriving at the location, they encounter the dark entrance of a large rock. Amazed, she comments that the cave zone looks like a desert canyon. With a confident smile, he then asks if they should go in to explore. Inside the place, she questions the danger, since everything seems empty at first glance. Pointing to a fork, he explains the place is a labyrinth with endless paths. She suggests climbing out, and he agrees that's the best way to escape. Questioning the difficulty, she asks why they can't simply fly or crawl upward. He explains that abilities weaken greatly, making the place have many missing people. Suggesting breaking everything, she gets irritated, and he invites her to try doing that. Preparing her attack, she says to leave it to her and advances against the wall. But her powerful strike only sinks into the rock, without causing any real damage. Feeling exhausted, she comments that she seems to have become much weaker suddenly. He then explains that the rocks there have a strange property of absorbing impact. Thinking about the past, he wonders if he's been this deep in that cave before. Asked about this, he confirms he's been there, but a long time ago. In a memory, he receives a special order to go to the cave zone. Being the dedicated researcher, he's reminded that he should know him very well. In a report, it's revealed the target is leaking information and that this is a problem. In the cave, the researcher questions whether the alchemist went mad from being there alone. Seeing who approaches, he can only call out the name number 17. He then asks the researcher if he has any last words to say. With his head down, the man explains he finally found the cure for his wife. Begging to leave, he hears the other just follows the orders he receives. But the researcher states orders don't work on him, leaving the other surprised. Desperate, he throws himself on the ground and begs for his life to be spared. Asking for time, he pleads for him to wait until he finishes the medicine. Still in silence, he finds this whole situation at the very least very strange. Remembering the past, he reveals that more than 100 children died in his experiments. Questioning the reason, he asks why the children can die but not the wife. Shouting in response, he says it's because she's his family. Standing in the darkness, he only questions the meaning of the word family. Fallen on the ground, he says, if they have a family one day, they'll understand his feelings. At that, an enormous creature emerges behind him, while his companion shouts, warning of the danger. Before that apparition, he stands still, while the shadow covers him completely. He then wonders what that is and what makes it so special. Facing the creature, he wonders what makes it so special. Seeing the man on the ground, he hears the desperate plea for help. Then he grabs the fallen man, lifting him off the ground with force. Opening the bag, he looks at what's inside with great attention. Inside, he finds a cub and questions if that's an ingredient. At that, the man explains he only found it by chance when the mother wasn't around. He throws the cub on the ground, saying he can sell it for a good price. When the creature's mother appears, the man yells asking why he returned it. Seeing the scene, he reminds the man that family should be something special. He then asks what the difference is between the man and that monster, questioning if the monster wouldn't be better, since it saved its family. Thinking aloud, he says that maybe the weak can live if someone helps them. He warns that he won't kill him, but that he'll have to manage on his own. Hidden, the man screams desperately, not knowing how to fight against that. On his knees, he begs for number 17 to come back, saying it's an order. Hearing the man's plea, he remains silent for a moment. Changing scenes, he walks with the girl, who asks if the bad person died. He then responds that he saved him, but made him confess everything to his family. After that, he wonders what the man's family's reaction must have been. Looking at the creature on his shoulder, he asks why it has that face. The girl explains that it probably got worried about him. She says he seemed sad while telling that person's story. Hearing her words, he ends up giving a slight smile at the situation. At that, the girl spots something and yells excitedly, saying she found what they were looking for. Pointing to the mushrooms, she says they're pretty cool and colorful. She then asks if mushrooms shouldn't grow in more humid places. He explains that this area of the cave is unusual, as it seems something sucks the moisture away. For a brief moment, the moisture accumulates, allowing the mushrooms to flourish. With the girl's help, the bag they brought fills up quickly. Sitting on the backpack, she warns that they've filled everything, and he says it's enough. Looking to the side, the girl seems to notice something with curiosity. Seeing the wrinkled creature, the girl asks if it's sick. At that, he has an idea, saying he has just the right thing to fix it. He then shows a jar of moisturizing cream he got from manager Kim. Sitting on a rock, he begins to apply the cream on the small creature. With hydrated skin, the creature looks much healthier and happier. The girl says the product works, and that the creature seems to have liked it. Thinking that's been enough, he warns that's sufficient for now. The creature then starts to tremble and he asks if it wants more. Continuing to fidget, it prepares to jump from his hand. Suddenly, the creature leaps from his hand and leaves him quite startled. It uses his leg as support, getting more momentum for the jump. Toward the jar, the creature jumps and the girl warns to be careful. He suggests the name Dodaki, and the girl agrees the name is good. After everything, Dodaki finally falls asleep, using almost all the cream. He then asks if they can go back now, and the girl questions how they would. Telling her not to worry, he reveals the footprints he left on the path. Following the trail, he says he won't need to go up as planned. Walking back, she asks if he also feels weaker in the cave. She comments that the place is mysterious, made to keep intruders out. Agreeing with the girl, he decides to come back better prepared next time. Switching to Nam Ki-seok's house, the scene shows one of the rooms. Meditating, he's surprised at having purified his energy so quickly with the suit. With a determined look, he prepares for the next stage of his plan. Arranging a box, he wonders if everyone is eating well there. He shows he prepared more than just supplies to take this time. Arriving at the house, he finds the place intimidating. and decides to use some accessories. Holding some stones, he prepares to finally head back there. Carrying the box, he plans to cover part of the place with a painting. Arriving at the portal, he gets startled by something and ends up dropping the box. Arriving at the location, he's shocked with the whole house different and asks why. The girl then calls Uncle Kisok, asking him to hurry up. She explains they need to crush the mushrooms so the house doesn't collapse. Seeing the two there, he questions if they weren't supposed to apply it carefully. Meanwhile, the protagonist touches the wall, finding all of that pretty fun. At that, a man comes running, saying he made a great discovery. Looking at the mushrooms, he's completely speechless at what he sees. He then says it must not have been easy to get so many mushrooms from the cave. The protagonist asks what the great discovery was that he had to tell. Showing some roots, he says they fell off the mandrake by themselves. The protagonist is surprised to learn that only liquid metal remained in it. He reveals he got results combining the metal with a dismantling formula. With the new formula, he says they can restrict the spell's activation. He explains the effect lasts for 72 hours per week. This means the two can stay in the human world for 3 days. Upon hearing the news, they ask if it's true and receive confirmation. Unable to believe it, the Birdman starts crying, saying it's tears of happiness. He then suggests they finish the job so they can go to the human world together. He recommends they stop by to see Bong-su, offering his address. She questions whether she can walk around without clothes, and he tells her to take off the mask. Looking at her, he also suggests she do something about her hair. Switching to an alley, he greets Oh Bong-su upon finding him there. Walking together, Bong-su says he's much better thanks to everyone's help. With some curiosity, he looks at the couple accompanying his friend. Walking down the street, the two comment on how much everything around them has changed. Meanwhile, the girl asks her uncle why he's wearing that hat. Walking with the group, Bong-su feels a strange sensation, almost like a family. The protagonist then asks how they feel about being back. They respond that they're speechless but happy to return to their homeland. Observing the trash, they comment that the place seems even dirtier than before. Walking through a filthy alley, he complains that the higher-ups cut the cleaning budget. With a fixed gaze, he realizes they're almost at their final destination. When he turns the corner, he sees Mrs. Park on the ground, surrounded by suspicious men. Running to help her, he asks what happened, but she screams for him to run away. Ignoring her desperation, their leader warns they'll only leave after receiving the fee. So he positions himself in front of her, asking what they think they're doing. Staring at the boy, he warns that this territory now belongs to him too. Still amused, the man prepares to strike, saying the boy is brave. But at the moment of impact, another person appears and grabs the attacker's fist, saying that's enough. Not understanding anything, the man asks who this guy is and tells him to let go immediately. The newcomer then throws him, making the big guy crash to the ground hard. Warning about his arm, the young man says next time he'll crush it completely. Seeing the scene, the other two thugs rush at him, yelling about what he did. Suddenly, a blow hits one of the men, who screams as he's thrown far away. Right after, an imposing figure appears, making the other two run away. Observing the object in his hand, he comments that the neighborhood has always been noisy. Seeing that, Mrs. Park wonders if their high level awakened. While the thugs flee to warn the boss, he's instructed to leave them alone. Fallen on the ground, the leader asks which family they're from, declaring that a fight is inevitable. Then a little girl approaches and says they're from the Coco family. Seeing his terror, she says the gentleman needs to learn a lesson. Arriving in front of a store, they see a grand reopening sign. Inside the store, he comments that the place has changed, and she explains how hard it is to survive. Because of that, she tells him she removed the children's clothes and put hunter equipment in their place. Thanking them for the business, she shows that the store now has everything, even a kitchen. Right after, Mrs. Park scolds him for not letting her know he'd be back. After the scolding, she stares at him curiously and asks if he finally awakened. Demonstrating his ability, he explains he's a low-rank teleportation user. She ruffles his hair, all happy, saying he did great and is the best boy. At that, the man who was watching from afar is surprised, not understanding what was happening. An elegant woman appears, saying she feels a bit strange after so long. Seeing her, everyone reacts surprised, praising how beautiful she looks with that style. Still impressed, the bandana guy guarantees his eyes never lie about these things. Then she wishes him good luck, leaving him confused as he tries on a new outfit. With the new look, he adjusts the sleeves, looking like a celebrity to the others. Teasing the lady, he asks if she's going to a picnic, and she snaps back angrily. In another moment, a couple tries on summer clothes, thinking they look good together. Asking for the total, he's surprised when she says she'll give everything for free as thanks. Back to the problem, the man who got beaten earlier is kneeling, waiting to clean up the trash. Questioning the aggressor, He asks why their group wanted to charge a protection fee. Then the thug starts explaining about a rumor that the city will renovate the slums. He continues saying everyone will be evicted without compensation, so they need the money. She adds, saying they claim the fee is for protection, but business is going badly. Hearing the whole story, he reflects that he felt the neighborhood was dirty for another reason. Staring at the man on the ground, he notices the flies and asks if his name is Baek-do. With the man on the ground, he asks where the office is, but the thug stutters scared. Then he warns that the neighborhood is very dirty, and since he's there, he'll do some cleaning. Changing scenes at the office, the boss discovers that Baek-do was defeated by someone. Suspicious, he asks his men if it was the red brick guys, but they deny it. Angrily, he clenches his hand, saying there are people bold enough to touch them. Being the gang's representative, he tells his men to get ready as he'll go there himself. But a thug runs in, screaming desperately that they're under attack at that very moment. Showing the location, the floor is full of bloodied tools and weapons everywhere. Along the way, several bodies of defeated men lie fallen in the darkness, showing the invasion. At the end of the hallway, the thug reveals that the invaders call themselves the Coco family. In a flashback, a man charges forward screaming at the young man, who prepares for the fight. Dodging a sequence of strikes, he manages to escape unharmed from all the attacks. Focused on the fight, he states that he can see all of his opponent's movements. Then, finding it all too easy, he says he even needs to hold back against this guy. With a precise strike, he slams his opponent hard into the ground, breaking the floor. Seeing the result, he wonders if he got this strong because of the training. Remembering a compliment, he feels embarrassed when the girl says he didn't do badly. But being warned not to let his guard down, he realizes the fight isn't over yet. Rising with difficulty, the enemy asks where the rookie learned such a cheap trick. Spinning a metal wheel, he shouts that he's going to throw it far away. When the attack comes, the young man leaps onto his opponent's hand to dodge the strike. Recognizing the technique, he notes that the guy uses physical reinforcement with a wind ability. At that moment, a tornado forms, and a voice asks if he'll be okay in that situation. Asked if they should help, the group leader assures them the young man will be fine alone. With a confident look, he explains that he taught him something before that fight, delivering a final blow to the opponent who was already down on the ground. Then he asks the man if he still wants to get beaten up some more. Meanwhile, the woman in the group starts examining all the weapons in the place. Seeing the pile of equipment, she asks if all of that was nothing but trash. Then everyone's attention turns to the sign of that place. On his knees, the man says they need to change it, since the place is now theirs. At that moment, the little girl prepares and fires a strike toward the sign. With the new name written, she announces it's ready, and he approves. Surprised, the prisoner wonders how that child can be an awakened one. Then he questions who they are, while the other asks for the safe's password. Saying he would never tell, he's interrupted by someone who claims to be faster. Seeing the safe open, he comments that the guy managed to save quite a bit of money. They then question what to do, since they'll keep doing bad things if left free. Changing scenes, he comments about extortion disguised as protection for the people. The girl then explains that crime decreased after the gang grew. Saying they're better than the police, he poses a question to the prisoner. Asking how he plans to stop them, the man only says they need to get strong. At that moment, the prisoner remembers the president of the city's Hunter Association, telling them he offered money to cause security problems in the favela, but he refused the proposal and started doing independent patrols in the area. On his knees, he begs for trust, saying everyone loves that place. Calling it all nonsense, he says they only extort money from others. Then he questions if there really is a gangster who's better than the rest. Placing his hand on the table, he warns that he'll give one single chance. Then he asks if the guy really wants to protect that area of the favela. At that, he points and questions if the money can be used to help. We then see all the trash on the street being swept quickly to one corner. In another place, the group from before now appears cleaning the city streets. One of them complains, while the other tells him to shut up and keep working. Finally, we see only the various cleaning equipment that was used. Warning that they're now responsible, he orders them to change the gang's name. Threatening the leader, he says if the street is dirty, he'll pay. While painting a wall, one of them questions if they're now just janitors. Unable to fight against the others, he comments that he wants to trust the rookie. Celebrating the cleanup, they shout that the next area is District 4. Observing the street, his companion comments that it's starting to get clean. Seeing the new bag, he explains it was a gift from President Park. Then, a small creature comes out from inside, gaining a new home to stay in. Crossing through a portal, they're greeted by a creature that was waiting for them. Asking where he was, the creature says next time it wants to come along. Seeing that they're happy, he remembers they still haven't eaten anything today. Excited, the boy asks if the girl is hungry and offers his specialty. The two are left without a reaction upon hearing the dish is rice with egg. Assuring them they won't regret it, He asks her for dessert afterwards. Walking through the field, he says the red grapes there are already ripe. Warning that the grapes are different, she says she smells something sweet. Arriving at the location, he points out that the vine is right there. Looking up, she's impressed and shouts that the tree is enormous. Seeing the creatures, he wonders if they also came to get the grapes. Shouting, she warns that there's someone in the tree asking for help for Grandpa. Gripping the trunk, he says he's still far from the top. Feeling weaker, he comments on the hallucinogenic effect of those grapes. About to fall, he screams for help, saying he lost his bag. Climbing the tree, he asks about the grapes and she only wants the red ones. Confused, the guy wonders if he's hallucinating when he sees a girl. Seeing the situation, she asks if they shouldn't help the guy climb up. Placing the grapes in the basket, he says the guy seems fine for now. She says she's never seen a tree that size and he mentions its age. Picking more fruit, he says the tree looks like one from his childhood. In a flashback, we see him on a gurney with the cell injection complete. Sitting on the gurney, the scientists announce that the work for that day ended early. Standing up, he sees that the next cell combination will be in a week. Inside the trash, among the scraps, a single seed stood out. Suddenly, a small sprout begins to grow from that discarded seed. Holding the sprout, he asks if they're going to throw it away, and the scientist recognizes him. Saying the seeds are useless, he asks if he can keep them. As he leaves, the scientists comment on the danger that number 17 represents. Back to the present, he holds a branch and says it's just as he thought. Seeing the branch in his hand, he comments that it's incredible it's still alive. Just then, a cluster of perfect grapes appears right in front of them. Offering the grapes to them, the girl comments they look much bigger and better. Unable to hold on, the guy ends up losing his balance and letting go. Desperate, he starts screaming as he falls rapidly toward the ground. Caught before falling, he finds himself surrounded by the creatures from before. Coming from behind, he asks if the guy is Lee Woon-soo's grandson. Telling him to give a message when he returns, the man approaches his face. Smiling, he says that now the grandfather owes him his life for the second time. Suddenly, a small yellow creature appears in front of everyone there. Sitting at the table, he wonders what place this is and is called a rookie. In another place, he appears tending to his mandrake garden peacefully. Surprised by what he sees, he questions himself about a giant, poisonous parrot. Seeing those people, he tries to understand who they are and what they want with him. Smelling food, he thinks he can only be hallucinating about that. Dressed as a chef, the guy appears saying the dish is ready to serve. He then prepares the rice with scrambled eggs in the pan with mastery. Finally, the dish is revealed as a special rice with egg and cheese. Seated at the table, the chef explains that the secret is mixing the cheese well. Talking to the guy, he says the two have met before this. Deciding to try it, he takes a spoonful of the food to taste right away. Bringing the spoon to his mouth, he finally tastes the chef's dish. Completely shocked, he shouts saying the essence of the seasoning is perfect. Eating eagerly, the little girl says the food is exactly to her taste. Watching everyone, the cook seems quite satisfied with the reactions to the dish. On top of the table, we see the sauces and seasonings that were used in the recipe. Far from there, the creatures wonder if he's the president's grandson. Asked about the vine, he explains he was trying to reach the top. Then, he's asked if by any chance he needed the seeds from the plant. Changing the scene to the association, a sudden scream interrupts the conversation. Irritated, he slams the table and states he won't join. The older man then mentions the seeds from that specific vine. He proposes that if the guy brings the seeds, the matter ends there. Back at the table, a guy tells how he always wanted to please his grandfather, but he confesses he has no confidence and doesn't understand his request. Hearing the outburst, the redhead says he doesn't know much about family. Even so, he states that maybe he knows the reason for that request. Beginning an explanation, it's said that the vine produces very rare seeds. This tree takes care of the fruit at the top until the seed matures. Growing toward the sky, it protects its seed from terrestrial predators. Besides that, the plant uses its fruit to create hallucinations against threats. Basically, the tree lives its entire life for a single seed. Concluding the explanation, he says the grandfather lived for his grandson. On a table, various family photos recall moments from the past. Meanwhile, his grandfather looked outside through the office window. Holding the cell phone, he wonders if he ended up talking too much with the guy. Turning his back, he continues watching the sky through the enormous window. Far from there, the redhead guy can't hold back the tears and cries. Trying to call, he realizes the phone is off and figures the guy left. Turning his back, he comments that something strange might have happened lately. After the Hanbit case, he remembers hunters who came back with low ranks. In a room, a man hears there was an order to silence them. Walking down a corridor, one of them asks if the anomaly is affecting a lot of people. Reflected in the sphere, he swears he saw with his own eyes it wasn't an anomaly. He then wonders if that was the work of the person riding the giant vulture. Thoughtful, He questions why he's been thinking so much about that kid lately. Suddenly, someone bursts into the room shouting, startling the president. The person warns that the young master went to the demonic dimension looking for seeds. Switching scenes, near a campfire, two creatures warm themselves at the camp. One of them comments that everyone went to sleep early after a great dinner. Then he asks if the name of the guy who left was Lee Baik-ho. Sitting down, he also questions how the other knows Baik-ho's grandfather. With a smile, he replies, "That's another story from a long time ago." Arriving at a destroyed city, he wonders where the hell he is. He realizes he should have gone to the demonic dimension, but went to the wrong place. Seeing the stones on the ground, he questions if the gate happened to break. Noticing the deadline is running out, he decides to look for a gate stone. Suddenly, two enormous creatures appear before him while he was searching for the gate. Surrounded by the creatures, he stands still and watches their movement. Reaching his hand forward, he seems to have understood what's happening. He then prepares a strike, clenching his fist with great force. After the strike, the creatures appear trapped inside a small sphere. He grabs the sphere and says the trap worked really well. Then he hears someone calling for help and looks toward the rubble. Finding the survivor, he offers some water to the rescued man. The man thanks him and says he was trapped there for at least 3 days. Handing over a card, the man introduces himself as president of the Hunters Association. He explains he always wanted to help hunters who risk their lives like him. He offers help with hunter needs, asking him to look him up. The man then asks if he doesn't have a gate stone to leave. Running to grab his backpack, he says the place is full of monsters. He then shouts that he can get a gate if they go to the next sector. Stopping suddenly, the man asks if it's true and says he knows the way. Smiling, he offers a potato and asks if the guy likes them. Even though it's the last one, he insists on sharing the potato with the hunter. As they walk, he tries to make conversation but doesn't get any response. Back at the campfire, he tells that was the last time they saw each other. He also reveals the man never found out he was a chimera. Poking the fire with a stick, he checks if the potato is roasted. Taking it from the fire, he starts peeling the potato with his own hands. Holding the food, he enjoys the aroma before the first bite. Celebrating, he says the taste is delicious and it's very soft. The other then suggests they make an underground warehouse to store food. From inside the pot, the creature says the idea seems safe and interesting. Hearing a noise, he asks if she's looking for moisturizer. Explaining the situation, the creature says she already used all the cream she got. While they talk, a huge blue portal opens in the middle of the camp. Coming out of the portal, a man arrives and immediately asks where Nam Giseok is. Opening a briefcase, he reveals they managed to develop the cure for mandrake, but he soon warns there's a serious problem with applying the medicine. It turns out they need to get an injection, but they refuse the needle. Scared inside the pot, the creatures shrink in fear of the procedure. Thoughtful, he asks Manager Kim if he's using any cream. Carefully, he starts applying the cream on one of the small mandrakes. After the treatment, the creature on his head makes a gesture to everyone. Satisfied, he comments that the little creature is a good boy and knows how to bow. Holding the mandrake, he realizes it ended up falling asleep in his hands. Now with the creature sleeping, he prepares to finally apply the injection. With the needle, he applies the injection directly into the manager's arm. Startled, the man has a reaction of complete surprise at the prick. Noticing the commotion, the other mandrake wakes up but soon falls back asleep. Sometime later, the creature in the pot doesn't seem to react well to the medicine. The night then continues, with the full moon illuminating the entire camp. Successfully, the two creatures receive the medication through the serum. Watching the scene, one of them comments he much prefers fighting monsters. At that, the manager turns around and says he wanted to talk about something. Coming out of the bushes, he reveals he finally developed a serum for baldness. Suddenly, a pot falls to the ground, making a really loud noise. The whole group turns toward the two newcomers in the forest. Crying, the bald man asks what exactly he's talking about. Explaining the function, he shows that one vial revives the pores and the other makes hair grow. Revealing the success of his research, he says he combined red moss with liquid metal. Then he shows a vial, saying that with it, you can even adjust the length. Asked if he already has a style in mind, he responds that of course he does. Remembering his ideal type, he knows she prefers the more hair the better, so he desperately asks for really long hair and as voluminous as possible. Holding the vials, he finally announces he's going to start the procedure right now. Further away, the group watches and questions why they're doing this in the backyard. Worried, he wonders if he can stop Gia in case she decides to wake up. Seeing his expression, his companion comments that he seems the most desperate. Recalling the conversation conversation, he says he heard about his friend's desperate wish. Suddenly, a flash interrupts the conversation and startles them both. Not understanding anything, the group wonders what the hell is happening over there. Seeing the result, one of them desperately yells for Manager Kim. Fallen on the ground, he complains that his head is heavy with the hair growing. Screaming, he says the hair is growing faster and faster and that there's been a problem. Being suffocated by the hair, he complains that he can't breathe properly. Then an ally appears and tells Namki Seok not to move an inch. Warning of the danger, he says his neck could be cut if he doesn't stay still. Panicking, he starts screaming desperately for it to stop. Already on his knees, he laments repeatedly over the hair that was cut. While one cries, the other comments that something interesting happened and asks if he liked it. Not knowing what to say, he just wonders if he really liked the result. Holding the strands, he finally realizes how his new hair turned out. Celebrating, his friend yells that the length came out perfect and exactly how he wanted. Grateful, he says Manager Kim is a genius, leaving him very relieved. At that moment, a girl arrives asking if something went wrong with them. Rubbing her eyes, she asks why there's so much noise outside. As she approaches, she finds the man kneeling and doesn't understand anything. Staring at him, she questions what he really is. Stuttering, he asks if she's referring to him. Then, a hand suddenly appears and ends up covering his mouth. From inside the tent, the whole group celebrates that the plan worked. Relieved, she says it was the cook and thought it was a monster. Saying it's nothing, she yawns and warns she's going back to sleep. Far from there, 3 small creatures wonder what kind of fur that is. Pointing, one of them gets hit and they tell him to hurry up. Seeing his sadness, the little girl comments that Uncle seems to be down. He responds that it's better to leave him alone for a while. Curious, she asks where Manager Kim went, and he responds that he went to the lab. Explaining the situation, he says more research is needed for the product. Suddenly, a huge earth formation simply sprouts in the middle of the field. Inside a crater, he asks if it's deep enough for her. Preparing himself, he then warns he's going to start the work right now. He begins applying strikes to compact the containment wall. With wooden logs, he then finishes fitting the structure. Wearing a mask, she raises the outer walls to finish the construction. Proud, she announces that the underground storage is finally complete. Noticing the entrance, the girl says it looks like a demon cave. He reassures her, saying the place is pretty spacious inside. Meanwhile, a pile of firewood is stacked next to a bench. Asking if the firewood is enough, he responds it'll do for the whole winter. Observing the small creature, he comments that she's pretty useful for a C class. Evaluating the guy, he says his talent is mediocre, but he's very hardworking. Offering payment, he hands over a stone for the day's work. Saying he can go, he warns his work there is done. Taking the lead, he asks if he can join their family. Serious, he just asks why he would like to join. Clenching his fist, he reveals he heard his friend got stronger training there. With determination, he yells that since he came this far, he'll go all the way. Commenting on the news, the girl says they got a new worker. Warning about a condition, he says his grandfather's permission will be needed. Saying he needs to talk to him, the leader invites him to go to his house. Changing scenes, the guy takes a deep breath in front of the gate of the huge mansion. Using the intercom, he introduces himself and says he's Baek Ho. Hearing the voice, an old man runs toward him yelling his name. Hugging his grandson tightly, he complains that the kid should have given notice. Without saying a word, he just returns his grandfather's embrace. Still embracing, the guy finally says he's back home. Worried, the grandfather asks if he's hurt and says he looked for him for a long time. Then he notices the other person and asks who's accompanying him. With a serious look, the grandfather recognizes the voice and is completely shocked. He comments that the old man has aged a lot, maybe from awakening late. Showing a potato, he asks if the man still likes them like before. Inside the house, the young man watches the conversation happening outside. Observing the man, he notices that despite being young, he's an old acquaintance of his grandfather. Then he wonders if that could be the hero from the ancient era. On the table, the cup is set back down, marking a brief pause. Grateful, the grandfather says he would never forget, since his life was saved. Remembering the past, he tells how the gate that day was truly immense. That's when a boy appeared and saved him, defeating all the monsters. He tells how no one believed the story because of the boy's age. Curious, the grandfather asks where he's living now, receiving an unexpected answer. Not understanding the response, the old man is paralyzed by the revelation. He explains that he died in there and came back to life not long ago. Saying he built a house, he comments that it's a good place to live. Suddenly, his hand transforms into a claw right in front of the grandfather. Revealing himself to be a chimera, he asks if the man finally believes him. Hearing the story, the grandfather says he had no idea about the experiments. Asking about his memory, the grandfather discovers that some were simply erased. In a memory, He reveals that the transformation began when he was 20 years old. Talking about the past, he says he doesn't even remember where he was. Angrily, the grandfather says he believes they erased the memories on purpose. Then he reveals that the culprits are the co-founders of the TDA laboratory. Talking about the first one, he says one was the laboratory director. Mentioning the second, he tells how the other was the head instructor of the place. About the last one, he says it was an anonymous sponsor who funded everything. He explains that a spell prevented him from speaking, but didn't erase the memories. Now without the spell, he regrets not having any memory of them anymore. Thoughtful, the grandfather asks how he can help in this whole situation. Asking for help, he says to search for any trace of the TDA organization. Agreeing with the plan, the grandfather understands that the incidents were his doing. Without getting an answer, he asks if his grandson is seeking revenge. Changing the subject, he warns that the place's name is now Space Family. Shouting to the group, a man warns that Lee Du-cheol will face the consequences. Changing scenes, a small white dog walks peacefully through the green grass. Nearby, a young man watches the dog while an old gentleman calls him by name. With a smile, he says he doesn't want to abandon the life he leads right now. He just hopes that, feeling human, no other victim will appear around there. At that moment, a small dark creature with glowing eyes appears growling at him. Because of the shock, the young man jumps back and the gentleman asks him to calm down. Then the gentleman asks if he happens to be raising a very healthy mandrake. Shocked by the situation, the old man asks the young man to wait a minute. Pointing to a terrarium, he asks if the young man can identify what's inside. Inside the object, there's a cocoon, and he finds it strange that the president raises monsters. Then the gentleman explains that after fighting for 60 years, he ended up liking the creatures. Already at the table, he begins to think if the monsters don't come of their own will. At that, the young man comments that these caterpillars reproduce quite frequently. Suddenly, the gentleman pushes the object and asks the young man to take care of it. Refusing the offer, he suggests that the demon realm would be a better place. Then he places his hand over the object, releasing a bit of his energy. Seeing the energy released, the gentleman is startled and asks what he's doing. Justifying his action, he says he gave mana because the creature seemed very sick. Realizing the situation, the young man comments that the small creature has quite a bit of intelligence. As time passes, the sun begins to set on the distant horizon. In front of a portal, he thanks for the help and prepares to leave. Meanwhile, the gentleman warns that he'll accept him when he reaches rank B. With a smile, he says the young man can drop by there whenever he wants. Very happy with the news, the young man thanks him while the other watches everything from afar. After saying goodbye to everyone, he finally announces that he's leaving now. With a serene look, the gentleman thanks for everything and asks him to take care. Back at the table, the gentleman is surprised and asks if the creature really speaks. He explains that being young, it only speaks a few words, and the gentleman asks what it says. At that, he reveals that the creature is grateful and will always remember him for saving it. Saying his name was Cheon Do-woon, the voice warns that they will meet again soon. Birds fly through the sky while the young man looks confused by the whole situation. Arriving home, he asks where everyone is, and the creature responds that they're training. He discovers that the brothers are playing around, being the most animated of the group. Flying in front of him, the small creature asks what that is he's holding. He explains it's a cocoon, and that maybe the two can get along well. At that, the young man begins to think about where would be the best place to put the object. Suddenly, an explosion happens, and he comments that this has been quite frequent. In the middle of the dust, someone runs desperately while shouting for his older brother. Then he appears saying something is wrong with his body now. Desperate, the young man ends up falling to the ground, right in front of his brother. Fallen on the ground, he looks up with a quite confused expression on his face. Congratulating the young man, he warns that his mana core was finally rebuilt. With shining eyes, he asks if that means he can pass the test. He says it will be difficult since his control is low and there's only a week until the test. Suggesting combat training, the young man leaves his brother totally terrified by the idea. At that, another man appears and tells them to leave everything to him, asking him to trust. The man says he worked hard cooking every day. Then a woman appears saying he should at least help with something. At the location, a sign points to where the registration for the rank A test is. Forming a huge line, dozens of people wait to register. Announcing that registration is complete, the receptionist asks them to wait to be called. Calling for the next person in line, the woman is startled by who approaches. Just then, a group of well-dressed people appears in front of the registration counter. She asks if they came to register, and the young man points to someone else. With a tired appearance, A man introduces himself as the hunter Nam Ki-seok. Startled by his appearance, the receptionist asks to see his hunter license. Already seated in the lobby, he thanks everyone for coming to support him. Even after preparing so much, he wonders why he's so nervous now. Extending a hand toward him, someone calls out and offers an object. With a smile, the little girl hands him a lucky bracelet so he can pass. Almost crying with emotion, he thanks little Kim Nari for the special gift. Saying it's his turn, a man says he prepared absolutely nothing for him. He asks for some words of encouragement while the man looks at the woman. With the man fallen on the ground, she suggests he take better care of his hair. Suggesting he cut it, she warns him that his hair might get in the way during a fight. Then the young man asks what he'll do after he finally manages to pass. With a flushed face, he's left completely speechless by that unexpected question. With a smile, he says that after rank A, the goal is rank S. Remembering the past, he says the only rank A hunters he saw were weird people. That's why he asks him to become a rank S and not mix with them. At that moment, the president arrives and wonders what his friend is doing there. Saying he's done well so far, he tries to give him some confidence. Receiving the encouragement, the young man seems much happier with the situation. Already in the office, the president is surprised to learn that Nam Ki-seok is his disciple. Asking about the duration, he discovers that since it has 3 stages, it'll take a while. Thinking it takes longer than he expected, he notices that little Nari has fallen asleep. Explaining the situation, the woman says she stayed up all night choosing a gift. He remembers that Dodaki also fell asleep after consuming some mana. Offering a traditional candy, he says he eats that when he's hungry. Pointing to his friends, the young man asks if they're also rank S hunters. With a surprised expression, he confirms that actually they're his lab colleagues. He explains that Kim Nari, even though young, is already at rank A++. Having an idea, the president suggests they all register as hunters at the association. Using his authority, he shows he can issue hunter licenses immediately. He explains that for their level, a test would only hurt the other examiners. Drinking from a cup, he considers the proposal to avoid unwanted future problems. Asking as a courtesy, he convinces the young man to accept his proposal. Agreeing with the idea, he stipulates they'll only act as hunters when they want to. Eating the candies, the other man says being a hunter seems fun. Saying they need photos, the office door is suddenly broken down. A man tries to stop the other from entering, but he says a son came to see his father. Surprised by the visit, the president asks what Jong Hyuk is doing there at that moment. With a smile on his face, he comments that it seems his father has visitors. Asking to start the exam, he faces the man in the middle of the hall. He then clenches his fists, preparing for what was to come. Questioning if that was a wig, the examiner cracks his stone hands. He says that for continuing to fail, the guy must really be desperate. Smiling, he asks if there's anything worse than total despair. Advancing quickly, he says false hope is much worse. Being hit, he hears that this only makes him waste his life. At that instant, his hand begins to catch fire, changing the course of the fight. He tries to back away, saying he needs to push his opponent far away. Stopping suddenly, he's left completely speechless at what he sees in front of him. His rival tells him to simply give up and look for a new life. Taking a heavy blow, he's thrown far away by the impact. Changing scenes, he appears lying in the grass while someone calls him. The person asks why he always closes his eyes at the last moment. She then touches his forehead, saying he needs to open his eyes and see. Seeing what's right in front of him, he faces the stone fist. Dodging the blow by a hair, his expression changes with the unexpected situation. In this, he manages to grab the stone hand, saying he was afraid. Being hit by a blow, he flies backward while admitting he's afraid of failing. As he fell, he thought that would once again be his limit, but recovering, he states he's okay and that everything changes today. With a determined face, he says he'll only look at this moment. Grabbing his rival's neck, he questions if that was really a waste. Then he tells the examiner to be a rank A for the rest of his life. After that, his opponent is completely swallowed by a massive attack. With the examiner defeated, they announce that number 304 has passed the first phase. Holding a bracelet in his mouth, he stands up after the end of the confrontation. Stretching, he asks what the next test is since he passed for the first time. A man announces he has visitors, interrupting his celebration. Switching scenes, a group of people is gathered in a luxury room. Clearly annoyed, the oldest one tells him to get straight to the point. Saying he's a busy man, he prepares to show what he brought. Then he places an item from the demon realm on the table, still alive. He offers the item, saying he can get as many as they want for the auction. Refusing the offer, the group's leader says there's no reason to accept. He then questions why they investigated his boys without evidence. Hearing this, the The group's leader clenches his fist with considerable anger. With a smile, he asks if the boss still sees him as a subordinate. Sitting on the couch, a young man warns him not to touch the boys again. Inside the bag, a small creature seems quite irritated by the conversation. A little girl then asks what's happening, sensing a strange mana. Looking to the side, the man is surprised to see they were mandrakes. Already annoyed, he extends his hand and threatens to take a look at them. His hand is grabbed firmly, as he's questioned if he's really Go Jung-hyuk. Saying the warning should come from him, the young man stares at him threateningly. In another scene, he remembers a meeting with the association president. That day, a briefcase full of money was offered to create problems. He accuses the man of going to Lee Du-cheol to talk nonsense. Feeling the enormous pressure of the mana, the man starts sweating nervously. Then a vision of a monster appears, questioning about the mountain hunters. Shouting, the group's leader demands they stop the argument immediately. After a request for his consideration, the young man finally decides to stop. At that, the man falls to his knees on the floor, completely unable to breathe. Despite being powerful, he remained on the ground, unable to react to his opponent. Meanwhile, the young man just watches him from above with an intimidating look. Seeing he had no chance, the man gets up and runs out of the room. With a serious expression, the group's leader just observes the entire situation. Afterward, he asks if the boy from the slums is okay, receiving a positive response. Reflecting on the situation, he never imagined Jung-hyuk would go that far. Starting a flashback, he reveals the young man also came from the slums. He tells how the boy graduated and helped him for 20 years. But over time, the conflicts between them started to increase a lot. In the end, he left and created his own Free Hunters Association. Explaining the situation, the young man says they just want to use their powers to make money. Meanwhile, one of the guests ends up getting completely soaked unexpectedly. Talking about the auction, he mentions the event happens every year in Gold City. At first, the intention was to donate, but it turned into a show of power and greed. Returning to the president's office, someone knocks on the door and calls him. Entering the place, a man announces that the hunter's promotion test is finished. Surprised, the president asks if it's already over, and the man confirms yes. He then explains the hunter passed the second phase in just 1 minute. Back at the test, the young man is startled by a bright, unknown light. In front of him, several reporters congratulate him and ask how he feels. A reporter asks if the wig played a decisive role in overcoming his trauma. Laughing awkwardly, he responds that in a way that could be true. Everyone asks about the company and the price, leaving him desperate for them to stop talking about it. Then a little hand grabs his finger, catching his attention in the middle of the crowd. Pulling him through the crowd, the little girl yells for him to hurry up and follow her. Getting into a limousine, the little girl is amazed by the size of the president's car. Already inside the car, they ask if the cook really managed to pass the test. Showing his new license, he thanks everyone for their help and celebrates the achievement. Looking at him, the woman says he didn't do badly at all on the test. Showing her own license, the girl says she's also rank A, like him. She continues, saying Dodaki is even stronger, being an incredible rank S. He then notices that in the license photo, the little creature had its eyes closed. Excited, he says that when the research is done, he'll update his photo too. He then asks where they're going, but receives a mysterious answer. Handing over a business card, the man tells him to use it as he pleases from now on. Giving him the card, he says it's tradition to gift a new hunter. Arriving at the address, they find a tailor shop with a very old facade. Then the girl asks if that shop isn't too old for them. Suddenly, a voice shouts from inside, telling them all to go away. At that, a man flees the shop while the tailor throws things at him. Very angry, he complains, saying he doesn't know where all these people come from. Soon after, a man in a suit approaches and greets Mr. Jong. He then asks what's going on, remembering he doesn't make clothes for hunters anymore. Pointing to the group, the man explains it was a special request from the boss. Very irritated with the situation, he grumbles about old Lee Yoon-soo. When he turns around, he notices a detail he hadn't seen before. Coming out of one of the pockets, the little creature catches everyone's attention there. The small being then opens a smile, seeming very happy with the situation. Seeing the scene, the tailor has an immediate reaction to that cute creature. He stays silent for a moment, just processing everything that happened. Finally, he gives in, saying to come in since it's a friend's request. Inside a tailor shop, the group spreads out while one of them gets his measurements taken. In the middle of the chaos, the little girl gets tangled up in the measuring tapes and asks her friend for help. Meanwhile, the other companion stands admiring himself in the mirror with dark sunglasses on. Nearby, a couple comments that the place is much better than they imagined. Writing down the details, the tailor announces he's finished taking all the measurements. He then asks the young man if there was any particular style he wanted to follow. Not quite sure what to say, he suggests it would be cool if they looked like a family. Really liking the idea, The little girl celebrates, and the other two agree right away. The tailor promises a unified look, but the young man questions him about something. With a serious face, he begins to explain why he accepted the job. Remembering the small creature, he comments that it seems to be very well taken care of by him. Changing the scene, it's revealed that he's the president of a creature association. In a memory of a protest, he says that anyone who loves small creatures can't be evil. Back in the present, he asks if they're not going to make an outfit for the small creature. He then shows some designs, saying he chose one that matches the creature. Hearing the comments, the young man smiles while the girl says she found the outfit cute. Inside his head, he imagines the creature in various styles and thinks the idea is good. He then asks the creature if she would like to choose which outfit to wear herself. Noticing the interest, the young man comments that the creature seems to have really liked the options. The small creature turns around, observing the others who stood still right behind her. Suddenly, her gaze narrows with an expression of extreme and total concentration. Running forward, the creature shouts for all her companions to follow her, but she turns around and looks disappointed because no one obeyed her command. The tailor then shows a coat, asking what they think of that new piece. He explains that this is a masterpiece made for his future pet creature. Then he suggests they try it on, saying the special fabric has a very nice fit. Feeling the coat, the young man tells everyone that the fabric is quite soft. He decides to put his energy into the clothing, so the creature won't find the item strange. At that very moment, the leaf on the creature's head reacts to the energy he used. Smiling, he notices that the creature's expression improved right away with the item. Carefully, he begins to place the small plaid coat over the small creature. After adjusting the clothing, he fastens the front buttons one by one. Wearing the coat, the creature smiles, and he wonders if she liked the outfit. Sitting on the couch, he asks the tailor if he can come back next week. The little creature nestles in his lap, while the tailor says he would polish the outfit. Suddenly, he hears a noise at the door and turns his head to see who it is. A woman enters the shop accompanied, saying it had been quite a while since they'd seen each other. She explains that she needs a dress for an event and came to get one made. Firmly, he tells her to leave, warning that he won't sell the shop. Laughing, she insists, saying she can offer a great price for the land. She then threatens, saying that if he keeps this up, he'll have to think of something. Her eyes widen in surprise, stammering as she realizes who one of those present was. She asks the young man if it's his first time in the city, as she recognized him. Changing the subject, she kneels down and asks the little girl if she knows Dodoland. Hearing that it's an amusement park, the girl gets very excited about the idea. Taking a golden ticket from her purse, she says it's for the whole family. Interrupting the woman, he asks what she thinks she's doing there. With a smile on her face, she says she simply loves all children. Introducing herself as Jessica, she says that this is a VIP pass for all of them. Showing the ticket up close, she warns that there will be a parade tonight. Without saying a word, he just keeps listening to her proposal attentively. Changing the scene to the park, the companions comment about the parade that's going to happen. Pulling his hand, the girl says she really wants to see that parade. Remembering a video, she explains that she saw very beautiful cars and characters passing by. In her memory, a family was holding hands while watching everything seem fun. Then, with her eyes shining, she says she really wants to see the parade with everyone. Smiling at the girl, he says it'll be fun and that he's happy about it. Walking through the park, his long-haired friend smells something good in the air. Right then, the other companion buys grilled squid and butter and also some churros for everyone. Running excitedly, the girl and her friend shout that they want to eat churros right now. Observing the scene, he comments that the kids are excited, but he finds the woman strange. Their companion then warns that they're being followed by some people. Hidden, one of the woman's subordinates keeps watching the group from afar. His friend offers to take care of them, saying it wouldn't be difficult at all. Remembering the shop, he realizes that the woman used some kind of concealment ability. One thing was certain, that energy didn't belong to an ordinary person at all. He needed to solve everything because he didn't want the little girl to be disappointed. Walking a bit, he finds an attraction called Hunted Monsters and stops in front of it. They then realize that the place was actually a big haunted house. With a smile, he has an idea and says that should work perfectly. From afar, the follower finds it strange that the first place they visited was that one. He waits outside, wondering why they're not coming out of there soon. Out of patience, he decides to enter the ride to see what was happening inside. Just then, people come running out screaming that a real ghost appeared in the place. Cries for help echo as he questions why the security cameras were turned off. Suspicious of the situation, he wonders if they were the ones who set all of this up. A luxury car advances through the city after so many years have passed. Inside the vehicle, she says she needs to be sure even if it's unlikely. Then she orders Joy to find out who they are, and he confirms the order. Somewhere else, a man walks saying he's never seen the boss like that before. Pulling the bars, he states there shouldn't be any more disturbances. Opening the doors, he decides he'll check everything with his own eyes. He then finds what they said absurd, saying it was complete nonsense. But as he turns around, he faces two figures and wonders if this would be the beginning. He spots a device on the ceiling, warning he's turned off the special effects for now. Walking down the corridor, he comments it's the first time he's entered that dark place. Suddenly, he's startled by a noise, questioning what that sound could be. He stands still, trying to understand what's happening, asking if it's the wind or an animal. Staying cautious, he prepares for whatever might happen next in the place. Seeing danger approaching, he realizes he needs to hide as fast as possible. Hidden behind the bars, he now wonders if the noise has finally stopped completely. Walking invisibly, he reflects on the type of people who were in that place. Continuing to walk, he questions the strange sound he hears with each new step. Then he suddenly stops, staring straight ahead with a surprised expression. Looking at the dark corridor, he starts to suspect someone might be following. Believing in his stealth, he thinks no one should be able to see him. But the corridor ahead starts to change, leaving him on high alert. Standing in the middle of the hall, he feels something coming in his direction. With a frightened expression, he realizes something is finally approaching him. Then a swift strike advances toward him, catching him completely off guard in the process. Startled by the attack, he's left without reaction as he understands what's happening. Being surrounded by the creatures, he wonders if that was the ghost from the rumors. Fallen on the ground, he simply can't believe what just happened. Next, another powerful blow is struck against him, hitting dead center. Terrified by the scene, he stammers, saying that was a real scythe. Trying to escape, he screams that this isn't right and they need to leave immediately. Noticing the movement, he finally understands there really was a ghost there all along. Suddenly, something approaches from behind, and he questions if that would be Hair. A figure then emerges in the shadows, asking if he had actually managed to see her. Pointing in total desperation, he simply can't handle the pressure and ends up fainting right there. Seeing the man on the ground, a guy approaches questioning if he really had fainted. He then thinks he needs to change his hairstyle since they confused him with a ghost. Then a girl warns the cook that his transformation was the first to end. Indignant, the masked one questions her, but she returns asking who started the provocation first. Another guy walks through the hall, saying he's not a rank A for nothing. Next, a creature speaks into the microphone, while someone praises Dodaki's performance. With a smile on his face, he asks if they've finally gathered the whole team they needed. Going back a bit in time, a man suggests they visit the haunted mansion. The little girl is scared by the idea, but he calms her, saying everything will be fine. He reads the park rules, commenting they'll give gifts to those who participate. Excited by the news, she asks where she can find the stamps for the game. He then suggests they play ghost tag, since he can make them transparent for the game. Back at the mansion, the still unconscious man is considered perfect for the ghost game. The ghost then says the guy is a team member, and suggests calling a doctor. Trying to wake him, the ghost realizes he won't be able to report what happened. Finding it all very amusing, he decides they should now go see the main parade. Showing the gift she received, she comments the plushie looks a lot like the fox. Running through the park with the bear, she says she'll give it to the fox. Seeing the crowd, they comment the number of people has increased and the parade is about to start. Full of confidence, he guarantees getting a good spot is most important and asks them to follow him. But a red portal appears in the sky, leaving everyone present at the park frightened. With people running, he protects the girl, surprised by a portal in that place. Then the stuffed animal in the girl's arms starts glowing in a strange way. The plushie transforms, and he's startled, saying it's a flying squirrel. Orders are given for Team A to go to the location, and Team B to help with evacuation. An archer prepares, questioning if the monster is just a flying squirrel. Positioned on top of the carousel, he comments natural portals aren't special anymore, but the squirrel dodges the arrow, surprising everyone with its great speed. Right after, the creature's horn starts glowing very intensely. Releasing its energy, it delivers a massive blow that destroys everything around it. The hunters nearby are hit squarely by the strike, without a chance to defend. Seeing the men in the air, he says the creature is strong, but the girl points. Then he observes the creature, realizing it's starting to change form. He then screams frightened, warning the monster is getting bigger and bigger. One of the hunters recognizes it, saying it's a disaster-class creature. Holding hands, a woman comments, it's rare for a monster of that level to appear alone. Now giant, the creature floats over the park, with no one understanding what happened. Focusing on the creature, he realizes something strange is about to happen there. He then shouts to everyone, warning them that the monster was getting even bigger. At that moment, One of the hunters identifies it as a dangerous disaster-class creature. Holding hands, she says it's very rare for a monster of that level to appear alone. Floating above the park, no one there can understand what's actually happening. Thoughtful, he comments that monsters like that usually have lower-class minions with them. But looking at the monster, he realizes the thing was completely alone. Then he questions if there's a reason, while the mansion appears in the reflection. Suddenly, the giant creature leaps, surprising everyone with its unexpected movement. Seeing the monster advancing, they shout that the creature is heading in that direction, but a swift figure appears in front, blocking the attack before it reaches them. In the middle of the smoke, he protects the group from the impact, saving everyone from danger. Telling everyone to fall back, he questions the invisibility spell he just saw. At that moment, the creature is thrown forcefully against the sign of one of the rides. The impact of the blow destroys the sign, showing the strength of the attack it received. Continuing the attack, he also destroys the restaurant sign with a precise strike. They observe from afar, commenting that the thing has electrical and stealth abilities. Worried, he says at this rate the creature will end up destroying the entire park. So he decides he'll have to launch a net in that direction to stop it. His technique advances through the sky at high speed, heading toward the flying monster. The net expands completely in the air, trapping the creature before it can escape. Totally immobilized by the technique, the monster has no way to react to the capture. He is then thrown forcefully against the ground, creating a large explosion. With the monster finally contained, the hunter says he finally managed to catch it. Fallen on the ground, the creature begins to shrink, returning to its original size. Without its energy, it returns to its small form, and the group's invisibility ends. Despite the danger, one of them comments that the thing is actually pretty cute. The girl then asks if he's going to kill it, but he says the hunters would. She observes him and says that hiding that way is an act of cowardice, but she concludes that it only fought back because the evil hunters attacked it first. Hoping the creature can live, he wonders why it appeared alone. Suddenly, she notices something forming in the sky of the amusement park. Seeing the portal, he comments that it's closing too fast for something natural. Looking around, she asks if they're the only ones left in the park. Then she turns, remembering that because of this, there would be no more parade. Seeing the destroyed ground, he concludes that all the people fled the location. At that moment, she asks if they won't be able to see the parade anymore, but he responds that it's okay. At that moment, drops drip from the small horn of the creature she's holding. With tears in her eyes, she says they'll be able to watch the parade next time. Then the three look at the girl, observing the scene in silence. Turning to the group, he asks if everyone would like to come with him. Arriving at a building with a clock, she questions if that's an observatory. Up at the top, one of them praises the view, but another asks if they climbed all the way up here just for that. Giving a laugh, he asks them to wait just one more moment, please. Then a firework is launched, rising toward the night sky. In the sky, multiple fireworks begin to explode all at once. Watching the show, he asks if these are the fireworks he's heard about. With a smile, the other explains that they usually set them off at the end of the parade. Relieved, she says she thought it was beautiful, since the blackout almost ruined everything. Then he looks to the side, observing his companion's reactions. With shining eyes, the girl can only call out to him while watching. Leaning on the balcony, she says she'll never forget this day. Changing scenes, a small creature laments what happened to its burrow. Fallen on the ground, it complains that the treatment at the house didn't help. Inside the burrow, it says its condition is worsening and that it feels suffocated. In another place, he asks the flying creature to take care of the other one until they travel. Flying excitedly, the creature asks if he's really serious. Watching hidden, the other hears him say that it knows how to speak a few words. He also warns that telepathy doesn't work, since her rank is higher. At that moment, a portal opens, and the creature asks if they've finally returned. Shouting, the creature asks him to come out and look at what's happening out there. Getting close, he asks if the other creature is really having trouble breathing. Then he places his hand on the burrow to feel what's happening inside. Realizing his mana was still there, he tries to understand what the problem is. At that moment, the creature in his arms begins to get agitated, and she asks what's wrong. From inside the burrow, the other creature calls for its friend who's with them. Crying, the small creature in her arms shouts a name, leaving him confused. Suddenly, the creature begins to grow and change form completely. Kneeling, he asks what that thing is and if she hadn't said friend. Then the creature responds that it's a flying squirrel, shocking everyone with its class. With tears in its eyes, the small creature stands there staring at its burrow. After a moment, it approaches and rests its head on its home. Turning suddenly, it runs off, and the girl asks where it's going. Seeing it move away, he tells the others to rest, as he'll follow it. With a slight smile, he comments that he doesn't know the story behind it. But observing the creature, he concludes that the two must certainly be friends. Being influenced by their environment, monsters can struggle in other regions. Going to an unsuitable place, their condition can worsen very easily. Unable to use their full strength, they need an instinct to return home. Arriving at a cold place, he seems to recognize the location where he is now. Looking at the landscape, he asks if that's really the famous ice zone. With a serious expression, he turns to the side, sensing something strange. Seeing the creature making a nest, he questions if she's building a cocoon. Finding that odd, he remembers that insect monsters prefer warm climates. Then the creature finishes her cocoon, and he wonders if she came here for this. Keeping his distance, he just observes the small creature without understanding. Being stared at, he warns that he won't interfere with whatever she's doing there. Seeing the cocoon, he concludes that she's not talking to focus on recovery. Being disaster class, he knows her recovery will only take half a day. At that moment, the small creature on his shoulder notices something and reacts. The small creature leaps from his shoulder onto the ground. The creature jumps from his shoulder toward the other being, who looks without understanding. Opening its mouth, the creature advances, looking ready to attack the small animal. At that, he holds it, saying it can't eat that no matter what. Sitting in the snow, he explains that belongs to the being inside the cocoon. With a crying face, the creature struggles, and he wonders if it's hungry. Giving a slight smile, he seems to have an idea to solve this situation. Back on the ground, the creature looks around, seeming confused about what happened. Then he places his hands on the snow, preparing to use his ability. Releasing his energy, he decides he'll let both of them feed as much as they want. Eating the energy, the creature chews with its mouth full, and he finds the scene cute. Observing everything, the other creature still seems a bit suspicious. At that moment, the cocoon on the ground begins to glow intensely. Seeing the cocoon float, he kneels in the snow and asks if that's flying. With the glow increasing, he questions if her recovery is already finished. Remembering seeds, he thinks now it's just waiting for her to finally sprout. He wonders if the environment prevented the creature from waking before its time. With a smile, he says he's excited because he's never seen an adult caterpillar. Meanwhile, the small creature sees various fragments falling around it. Then a large sphere of light forms in the middle of the night sky. Looking up, he and the creature ask what that light is. Soon after, a giant butterfly emerges, leaving him completely shocked by the size. With tears in its eyes, the small creature sits watching the sky. From inside the butterfly, another creature says it finally found its friend. Noticing the butterfly shrinking, he wonders if it can change size. Then the small creature runs toward the butterfly that just landed. With a smile on his face, he just keeps watching the scene between the two. Seeing the reunion, he wonders how they became friends on Earth. Changing scenes, the creature was sleeping peacefully, leaning against a tree trunk. Waking suddenly, it looks to the side, seeming confused about something. At that, it sees the other creature hanging by a thread, swinging in front of it. Curious about the hanging object, it makes a questioning sound. At that, a bird appears in the sky, flying rapidly in its direction. Flying low, the three-eyed bird grabs another small creature on the ground. Then it screams desperately, seeing the bird carry the creature away. Up high, the bird continues its flight, carrying the small prey. But from below emerges a winged creature, hitting the bird with a strike. After the rescue, the large creature flies away from there. Changing to a place with snow, he runs as fast as he can. Defeated, the bird falls from the skies, finally releasing the small creature. Running through the snow, he finally reaches the crash site. Getting close, he stops running, looking very tired and breathless. On the ground is the small being, all wrapped up with some bandages. Carefully, he approaches and touches the creature on the ground. After a moment, he turns and begins to walk away. Changing scenes, a flying creature says that's really good. Being carried by the creature, he says the sensation is quite different. Thinking about the creatures, he decides he'll need to build a new room. Changing to a rocky zone, he wonders if it's his first time there. Suddenly, he sees a man with a sword and recognizes him. In front of him, a giant skeleton monster reveals itself suddenly. Then he realizes that coming here alone was a terrible idea. Arriving with a strike on the ground, the other character appears to help. Looking at the man, he asks what he was doing in that place. After being saved, he thanks him, and the other asks if he found anything. He explains that the good trade items simply disappeared completely. Seeing the situation, he considers if he should give something to help. At that, the man says he didn't find anything important around there. He then shows an item and asks if the other knows what it is. He says it looks like just a stone, but it has a different energy. The other then warns he needs that, saying it's his bone. Starting the lesson, he asks the other creature to repeat what he says. The small creature introduces itself, saying its name is Sanabi. He reinforces that when studying languages, repetition is the only way. Sitting at the table, he comments that the family has grown and they're adapting well. Seeing the others sleeping outside, he decides he needs to expand the house. Grabbing the backpack, he tells them he found Lee Beko, but he didn't seem well. He then tosses onto the table the items that Beko found in the mountain zone. The Beastman says the energy is the same, and he confirms they're his remains. Announcing his plans, he says he's going to enter an auction contest. With a smile, he states he already had a great idea for the contest. Switching scenes to the city, a woman named Jessica greets him from a car. Together with a gentleman, he says she doesn't seem like a normal awakened one. It's revealed that she's a human obsessed with money and owner of an auction house. In truth, the place is a massive money laundering operation for the rich. The gentleman then tells him that Congressman Park Woo-jung is the one backing her. Being the president of the association, he's also the center of the city's cartel. At the auction contest, the city's rich try to get into the cartel. He thinks finding Jessica would be the fastest way to confirm things. Warning that the event is in 3 days, he says they need to hurry. Then his companion says it's time to show their skills for the event. 3 days later, the scene shifts to the luxurious VIP hall of the gold auction. Observing the hall, a man comments that this year's contest is even bigger. A guest complains that people don't care about the state anymore. To maintain the social structure, he states that a new classification is necessary. He explains that the plan is to redevelop the slums into a new city. Saying the slums don't qualify as shadows, he states they can't stop. A man awaits a call from his superiors, mentioning the Diamond City. She then asks if the negative reaction from residents won't be too strong. It's revealed that President Lee visited the slums to support the opposition. At that, they find it strange that the president still hasn't registered any item in the auction. He guarantees that Lee Woon-soo won't be able to present absolutely anything in the competition. At that, the other man says, soon everyone will end up discovering why. Sitting at the table, he questions which of the two should lead the world. Smiling, he says that in the end, whoever goes against the tide will be thrown out. With everything ready to begin, the lights on the main stage finally turn on. On stage, the host thanks everyone for their presence and starts the grand auction. He announces that the first item is from President Jang, a longtime participant. Presenting a giant stone, he says the starting bid is 20 billion. With the auction starting, the audience is surprised by the size of that stone. Various people in the audience begin placing their bids for the quite valuable item. Being sold for 30 billion, the group celebrates the good start of the auction. Laughing quite a bit, President Jiang says it was difficult to obtain that rare item. Asking about the president's item, the other says he'll see it soon. For the next item, he reveals a giant geoduck with a starting bid of 50 billion. He explains that he got the item because he's dominated the coastal areas for a long time. Arriving at the location, he approaches the table and asks if they're late. Seeing who's approaching, the man at the table is startled by their presence. Entering the hall, they explain that they stopped at the tailor's, and that's why they took so long. They tell him the tailor was very good at what he did. From afar, a woman is surprised to see that man there in that place. At that, another man is also shocked when recognizing the person who arrived. Sitting with the acquaintance, he greets him and is invited to sit together. Then the auctioneer announces the next item, which came from the Hunters Association. Surprising everyone, he reveals what the special item of that night is. Pointing excitedly, the little girl warns that the item they found finally appeared. Remembering the past, it's shown that the item is from a rare monster. At that moment, he only took the diamonds from the back of the monster he found. Shocked by the item, the man wonders how the president got that. Moving to the next item, the auctioneer begins making the announcement of what would come. Presenting to everyone, he reveals that the next item is a demonic aquarium, starting with a yellow quartz, which is only found at the bottom of the sea. He continues, saying it also comes with a seahorse from the Demon Kingdom. And to finish, he announces a giant oyster with a starting bid of 300 billion. Shocked by the value, the guests begin whispering among themselves about the auction. Questioning the president, the man asks what that means and demands an answer. Realizing the situation, he only says that shouldn't be happening that way. Going to the last item, the auctioneer says he doesn't know how to explain that. He announces that the item is the mortal remains of Subject 17 for 1 trillion. Hearing the bid, the man at the table just observes everyone's reaction in the hall. At that moment, everyone wonders what that item was and who the subject would be. In another corner, a man asks his companion if she's observing carefully. Keeping focus, she only responds to him that she finally found what she was looking for. Seeing the news on her phone, a young woman is terrified when reading the item's name. Rushing out, she complains that her phone died right now of all times. Running down the hallway, she searches for a spot with signal to make the call. Looking for a more isolated place, she tries using her phone for the call again. Celebrating that the signal's back, she finally manages to start the call to her master. Trying to warn her master about the auction, a hand appears from behind and grabs her. She's thrown forcefully into the air. her phone dropping to the ground. Flying between the buildings, she's carried with no chance of escape whatsoever. Turning her face in fear, she asks the woman who captured her who she is. The kidnapper says she's an awakened one and invites her to the demon realm. After the auction, the group leaves while the little girl says she had so much fun. Suddenly, two men approach and call him by name for a conversation. Inviting him for tea, the men bow and he accepts their invitation. Observing their attitude, he comments that it was worth auctioning those items. Thanking them for the help, he hears it wasn't kindness and the items weren't even sold. He tells the president to keep the items, but the man refuses the gift. Tugging at his pants, the little girl says they can't accept the gift either. She says that since Grandpa made the licenses, they also want to give something. Adding to that, he remembers they're now part of the Hunter Association, thanking them for the trust. The president says he trusts they'll use the items for good. Getting emotional, he promises he'll ensure everything he received is used well. Coming out of the pocket, the small creature warns it's time to eat mana. Walking through the hallway, two women see the creature and are very surprised by it. They ask if he's the famous hunter of 6 failures and 7 successes. Not understanding, he wonders how they know the creature that's with him. The president then explains he became a famous topic in the last test. Remembering the test, he freezes at being recognized by the two women there. He also says the Chimera hunter's registration was released to the media. Approaching the group, the women ask if they can take a photo with the creature. Saying they're fans, he asks the creature if it wants to take the photo. From afar, a man observes all the movement and the group's interaction. Wondering who he was, the man observes the group's interaction with curiosity. His partner confirms he met the president before and that he was rank S. Shocked by the information, he finally understands why everything seemed so strange before. Meanwhile, the women take photos with the creature, finding it all very cute. Deciding it's better this way, he tells himself they should change the target. Changing scenes, the young woman is amazed to see the small, sick creatures in the field. Completely mesmerized, she wonders how natural mandrake cultivation is even possible. Noticing the reaction, the man says she's so obsessed she doesn't even care. Pointing at the creatures, she says the 3 in front look very healthy. Getting closer, she kneels and explains, that's the mandrakes humming. She continues, saying they hum like this when they're in a really good mood. Seeing the creatures in the serum, she asks if that's supplement and who can explain. At that instant, he senses a presence and warns everyone the manager has arrived. Coming out of a portal, the little girl runs and shouts she finally made it home. Not understanding anything, he just watches the scene unfolding right in front of him. Running desperately, she arrives shouting and asking who manager Kim was around there. They sit at a wooden table so they can talk better. Watching from afar, the child asks the woman beside her who that young woman would be. Then she explains she was at the auction to warn her master about the remnants. Questioned about the reason, she says she needs to introduce herself first to explain. Changing scenes, she introduces herself as Kim Hyul, a plant monster researcher. In a flashback, her master lamented that only with Psycho 17 would he complete the research. Even when she asked who it was, the master never properly explained what that meant to her. Seeing that name appear at the auction, she was very surprised by the unexpected situation. That's why she wanted to warn her master, but he immediately asks what the name was. After hearing her refusal, he suddenly stops and gets a serious expression. Determined, she shouts she can't put her dear master in danger no matter what. Understanding the situation, he says he might know who it is and asks her to listen. Beginning the explanation, he's going to tell her what TDA was and Subject 17. The scene then changes, showing a laboratory door with an identification plate. Inside the laboratory, the researcher finishes his experiment saying everything was ready now. Observing the potion, he notices something strange and becomes quite suspicious of the result. Suddenly, everything explodes with force, throwing the researcher far across the room. Lying on the ground, he wonders what the hell could have gone so wrong again. At that moment, a voice calls him, asking why he was wandering around. Ignoring the scolding, she says she needed to ask him a very important question. Remembering 7 years have passed, she demands he answer honestly this time. She then asks what kind of place the TDA laboratory was, leaving him silent. He responds he already said it was a small laboratory that researched the ancient era. Then she asks if it happened to be an illegal laboratory that experimented on children. Very irritated, he shouts, asking where she heard such useless talk like that. His face shows pure shock as he realizes she really knew something. Right after, a man appears saying it had been a good while since they'd seen each other. With a smile, he confirms he's Psycho 17 from the old TDA laboratory. Continuing, he accuses the researcher of being the one who transplanted the mandrake cells into him.